Our time-slipped student Corin Loch wakes up in a bed, looking dazed as sunlight streams into the room, and his orange eye snaps wide open with a shocked, "Huh," as he stares out at the familiar academy skyline. A wave of panic washes over him as he whispers, "Am I?" realizing he's been sent back in time. He remembers a magical circle glowing red, signifying the start of the game's many challenges, and a white-clad hero battling a monstrous black wolf beast, recalling how the story was filled with various kinds of dangerous events that went on in an academy and its endless incidents. He even recalls a montage of destruction and zombie swarms, thinking, in the end, even the end of the world was brought up. It was a story of a very large scale. Still, he smiles confidently, believing it's okay, because the main character is going to take care of everything. I'm just an extra anyway. I'm just an NPC in the beginner quest where the main character saves a villager. Our earnest strategist walks through a town square, planning to observe his future savior, sure that if the story just goes as the game went, everything will be resolved. And let SGO take a look at the main character, Park Sihu, who is going to become famous and rich soon enough. He meets Park Sihu, cloaked and with glowing eyes, who declares, "Efficiency." Corin excitedly exclaims, "Hey, me too!" As they shake hands, both looking surprised at their connection. It turns out Park Sihu is also a regular person possessing a game character. Corin observes Sihu battling a massive winged beast, noting that if there is a difference between the two of us, it's in their approach to stats, with Corin wondering, "Stat? What?" When Sihu discusses them. Park Sihu, arm in arm, eagerly advises Corin, saying, "Hey, you said you were gonna become a mage. Then you got a GO with intelligence stats, and there will be a skill book in the next story. That's really important, so don't ever forget about it." He flashes a confident smile and a thumbs up, telling Corin, "Just trust me." Corin looks back, a sense of shared understanding passing between them, completely trusting Sihu. Then attacks a dark, monstrous dog-beast creature with his spear, magical chains swirling around them, and looks back over his shoulder with a confident smile, asking, "You okay?" Corin fights off dark creatures with his spear in multiple combat stances, lunging forward and focusing his energy as he strikes, driving his spear into an unseen target with a bright flash of light. Later, Corin and Sihu sit together on a mound of slain beasts against a sunset sky. Sihu holds up a potion bottle and Corin exclaims, "Damn, when did you get this? It's as good as a low-class elixir." Park Sihu drinks from the small potion, looking thoughtful and satisfied. The next morning, the party is made up of a group of male adventurers gathered in a desolate, dark landscape. Corin recalls a lineup of stylized female characters, wondering why they aren't part of their crew. Our bewildered hero sits on the ground, looking up and questioning, "Why did the party have to be all gross, sweaty GUIS?" He looks thoughtful and uneasy in his uniform, a somber expression crossing his face. Then Park Sihu smirks, holding a glowing purple potion bottle. Corin reacts with shock and confusion, asking, "What is this?" He follows Sihu to an underground room filled with glass display cases, noting a blue ethereal silhouette of a woman standing beside a magical staff. Corin mutters, "So why is her staff here?" Park Sihu, "That bastard. I followed Him because he keps sneaking out AT night, but to think there was a place like this underground." He stands in a vast hallway, realizing, this is like his inventory. Why is this here? Among the cases are a rare Odachi sword and a Jaeger's mace, all powerful artifacts. Then he sees Lark's spellbook and looks up in horror. Corin gazes up at a woman chained and suspended in a red glow. Close-up of the captured woman's face confirms her identity as Maritt. DUNLFF. He reacts in shock, with Sihu standing calmly in the background, yelling fuck. Park Sihu confronts him, asking, "Why are you here?" And Corin demands, "What's all this? Back then, you said that you went after Maritt and lost her." Sihu casually replies, that. Sihu explains, saying, "She's a demon anyway. Would you want to waste an elder-class vampire's blood? I'm just using IT efficiently. You drank quite a bit of IT too." Park Sihu drinks from a vial, looking perfectly satisfied with his own cruelty. Bewildered hero clutches his face in frustration, groaning, what's the problem?" And Sihu proudly states, "I worked really damn hard trying to capture her. I had to hold up for a month in the forest with a trap." Corin struggles with his emotions, asking, "Why? And Sihu answers, "In order to efficiently progress with the story, of course." Sihu tells Corin that your route is way too frustrating. You keep taking losses from trying to save people. You don't kill those annoying bastards like Jaeger and Lark. He stares at Corin, explaining his logic. You keep trying to protect people we can't even manipulate without upping their friendship level. Using them like this is the most efficient. Listen to me. I'm better at this game than you are. Corin realizes he lied to me from the start. This bastard is not a newbie. Corin sits on the ground, looking up in distress, asking, "You? How many?" He stares at Sihu with wide, shocked eyes as Sihu asks, "No, I'm not sure. Let us see." Before declaring, "This bastard. If I get just 3 more kills, it'll be 100,000. Corin's mind screams, "He's not human." A close-up of Corin's face shows his teeth clenched in anger. He grabs Sihu by the collar, yelling, "You monster." Sihu calmly replies, "Wake up. They're all NPCs. You've killed plenty too. The ONES. Corin screams, pinning him against a wall, "I killed were evil bastards with no saving grace." He continues, "Efficiency, frustration. If you're so obsessed with efficiency, then why did you take ODACHI? Why would a mage take a hidden piece meant for a knight?" Sihu stutters, That's in." Corin cuts him off. "And what's wrong with a regular elixir? You can easily make it through the stat window." Corin yells at Sihu, Why did you do all this inefficient bullshit to create this farm? You just needed a sandbag for your sociopathic tendencies. A close-up shows Park Sihu's eyes glowing ominously in the dark. Strikes Corin Loch in the face with a punch, making Corin cry. What? Corin lies bloodied on the ground, having been knocked down, as Sihu says, "You're driving me insane." Corin looks up, bruised and bloody, as Park Sihu looms over him, saying, "After all I've done for you, you shouldn't talk to me like that." Sihu stares down at Corin with a crazed expression, declaring, "All I think about is you. I should be your everything. I should be your world." Glowers intensely. "You don't even know your place and get hurt sticking your nose into everyone's business. All you do is stare atbitches. How could I? I won't." Corin looks back with utter confusion and bewilderment as Sihu says, "Hold it in any more." Corin thinks, what the hell is he saying? Is he? He crawls away as Sihu walks toward him, yelling, You're not this kind of character. You have been together for 199 chapters, so why are you suddenly trying to change the genre?" Sihu stands menacingly in the blue glowing room, saying, "I removed everything that could get in my way until now, all for our future." Corin realizes, "You bastard, then the reason you only put GUIS in our party was..." Sihu, eyes glowing, stares down at Corin, stating, "The other men are just for looking at, so don't mind THEM, the only one I really love." Corin punches Sihu in the face as he finishes. "Is you?" Corin scrambles backward across the floor, thinking, "He's fucking terrifying. I'm scared as fuck. I never even got to have a girlfriend before." Purple magical tendrils wrap tightly around his boots, then ensnare his entire body. Corin is bound by glowing purple energy, screaming, "This isn't ITTT." Park Sihu approaches the restrained Corin, saying, "You can't run from me. I'm going to trap YOU forever." Corin is pinned down, bound by magical energy, as Sihu looms over him, declaring, "You're mine." An extreme close-up of Corin's face shows pure fear and shock. Park Sihu stands holding a glowing circular rune, telling Corin, "Everything will be over soon. Once this fight is over." He flashes a sinister smile with glowing eyes, adding, "We'll be together forever." Corin finds himself in a dark, ominous landscape, a beach at night, realizing, is this plane that Park Sihu made? The last stage is opening. It has begun. Sees a character lying prone on the dark, rocky beach and thinks, he has always killed everything on his own, so I'm sure he will win against the final boss too. Once he defeats the final boss, damn it. A close-up of his face shows his fear as he wonders, what will happen to him? Corin is left floating in a dark void, then a sudden thought strikes him. Did that son of a bitch just lose? White curtains blow in the soft sunlight near a window. A determined regressor gasps, waking up in a bed with shock and realization on his face. Ha! Ha! He suddenly sits up, looking around the room in confusion. Through the window, a bright academy building is visible against the sky. Corin stares out at the Merkaba Academy campus, his mind racing. He looks down at his own hands, a profound realization dawning on him. He clenches his hands into fists tightly, grinding his teeth together with intense determination. Corin sits in the sunlight, tears falling, looking utterly resolute. Our determined regressor can still see the vision of the Rhodian River flooding incident, with water monsters looming over submerged victims in the dark river, an image he's desperate to prevent. He remembers Park Sihu grinning maniacally, his face illuminated in red, and laughing beside a nervous, sweating Corin from the past. Corin also recalls standing on a cliff edge with Sihu, overlooking a glowing blue waterfall, where Sihu revealed his horrifying kill count. Corin looks up, grim and determined, replaying the words that won't leave his head, Sihu's voice promising, "With just 3 more kills, it'll be 100,000. He runs through a dark stone tunnel toward the Merkaba Academy sign, setting his plan in motion. Mysterious figure stands in silhouette against a glowing red light, a dark shadow of the past. Park Sihu, wearing a hooded jacket, gazes forward with a sinister smile and glowing red eyes. An image burned into Corin's mind. Our spear-wielding student tears through the dark forest like an arrow shot dead on target, already knowing exactly what he's hunting for. He dashes forward with a serious, focused expression, his eyes scanning the ground. He spots a cluster of mushrooms growing on a log, a crucial ingredient. Corin's hand forcefully plucks the cluster of mushrooms from the log, handling them carefully. He moves quickly through the forest, gripping the gathered mushrooms, already hearing distant sounds. He soon comes across a young armored knight standing over a monster he just dropped, his companion sighing in relief and telling the kid he's got real skill. Corin just smiles, scratching the back of his neck, embarrassed as he thanks them. A man waves a lantern into the night, calling out for Leon and Laura to let them know it's all fixed. 2 knights linger by the carriage, one stretching and groaning that he just wants to get moving and crawl into bed. Then a monster crashes into the moment, and a knight yanks his companion clear, crying out in pain as the blow connects. A monstrous claw swings down in a powerful strike. The knight looks up in shock as the massive claw descends. The male knight throws everything he's got into shoving her out of the path, screaming for her to move. The blast goes off like a grenade, energy erupting outward, as the knight is caught or barely twists clear. The 2 knights fight back to back now, panic all over their faces as one shouts her name, and she snaps back that she knows. A werewolf monster shows up, a rank 2 threat, and Corin catches the sound of the crying that's been drawing it in. The torso of the large werewolf monster is shown, massive and terrifying. It roars into the night, orange energy exploding around it. The sharp claws of the werewolf reach menacingly toward the foreground. Corin hides in the bushes, looking intensely panicked as he watches the brutal scene unfold. Night takes the hit, blood spilling as he grunts in pain. An explosion or energy strike occurs in the sky above the chaos. The werewolf turns on the fallen knight, and Corin screams her name from behind cover. He screams in terror, observing the scene from behind a barrier, knowing what's coming. Corin waves someone toward the carriage, screaming for them to get up and go, Arisha Auden watching him do it. Corin freezes as the werewolf looms over him, catching a faint, dying voice telling him, "Run!" A close-up of Corin's hand clutching his sword handle shows his resolve. He stands his ground, holding a sword before the towering werewolf monster. Corin looks intense and focused on the threat ahead. He takes a defensive stance with his sword against a giant werewolf shadow. The giant werewolf lunges at him with a roar, and Corin grips his sword tight. Close-up reveals the werewolf's muscular torso and drooling maw. Corin shouts for everyone to get down, sword gripped tight, bracing for the attack. Suddenly, Arisha Auden jumps into the air to strike. He strikes the werewolf with her sword, stopping its attack. Arisha Auden stares in shock, stunned that her strike actually stopped it. Corin Loch and Arisha Auden prepare for battle, their blades drawn as a magical force erupts nearby. Arisha Auden brandishes her sword, glowing with mystical purple energy. Corin Loch grips his sword handle, which is also surrounded by purple energy. Close-up of Arisha Auden's eye shows a look of intense shock or realization. Corin stands behind her now, smiling in a way that isn't really his, eyes burning red as this moment slides into something else entirely. Dramatic red stylized symbol flashes against a white and black ink background. Corin has a close-up reaction, his intense red eyes glowing. He speaks from deep in the shadow, features hidden, and the words land like a gut punch. "So it is you after all, Sihoo? H-huh, but why?" Arisha Auden stares in shock at Corin, who holds a weapon wreathed in purple energy. Her eyes glow blue as she reacts with visible panic. Corin stands in shadow, holding his glowing purple weapon, ready for battle. A monstrous beast bares its teeth and roars. Close-up shows the monster's gaping maw and tongue. Arisha stares up in terror as the monster comes down on her, roaring. Arisha deflects a strike from the horned monster with her sword, showing impressive skill. Corin maneuvers during a fight against a monstrous shadow creature, moving with deadly precision. Arisha Auden dashes across the forest, avoiding magical slashes. Arisha stands ready, sword drawn and crackling with magic, quietly telling herself to calm down. He closes her eyes with a strained expression, sweat on her face trying to focus. Arisha opens her eyes, which now glow with intense blue energy, ready to unleash her power. Corin is silhouetted against a glowing blue magical background. His silhouette catches mid-stride against the glowing grid, as another beast roars somewhere close. Corin stares intensely, blue magical energy surrounding his sword hand. His eyes glow with a red hue in the darkness, a sinister gleam. Corin grins, already lining up a blade to throw at her, murmuring that he really can't let that happen. Arisha Auden senses the incoming blade throw and turns, her senses on high alert. The thrown blade cuts through the air, heading directly toward Arisha. Close-up shows the blade flying through the air with deadly speed. Arisha recoils in shock, magic crackling around her, staring at him like she's seeing him for the first time. Close-up of Arisha Auden's eye shows her realizing the shocking truth about Corin. She stands ready with her sword against the beastman Dukku. Arisha Auden parries an attack with her sword, pushing back. A blur of motion signifies a strike hitting its target. Arisha Auden is knocked backward by the beastman Dukku, thrown by his power. She lies on the ground while the beastman Dukku towers over her, a truly intimidating sight. Corin grins, sword ready, itching to get started. Our focused protector holds his sword, thoughtful in the dim light, deciding that's a problem for later. Corin's silhouette gives way to a close-up of his eyes, and everything about him narrows to one word: killing. Arisha Auden lies collapsed on the ground while the beastman Dukku still towers over her. Close shot of the back of a character holding a sword implies the next move. Arisha Auden is seen in a close-up, her eyes closed as she lies on the ground, vulnerable. A menacing, shadowed figure stands against a giant red moon, observing. A small object is thrown into the air, surrounded by sparks heading for Corin. Corin looks up with a shocked expression as a fiery projectile hits near him. He clutches his side, reeling back from the impact. Close-up of Corin's eye shows extreme focus and intensity, even in pain. He looks shocked while holding up his hand, which is covered in a glowing orange substance. Corin plants his feet, sword raised, demanding to know who's out there and daring them to show themselves right now. Multiple small white creatures with horns on their heads leap forward, answering his challenge. Several large mushrooms with spotted caps grow from the dark ground, hinting at the source of his injury. Corin's face twists in disgust as he realizes the orange stuff on his hand is poison. He swings his sword at the small horned creatures crowding in, snarling at them to get lost. Corin stands over the unconscious woman, a massive shadow looming behind them, muttering at the small fries in front of him, relief flooding in that she's still breathing. Close-up of a hand clutching a dagger, while a beast's mouth looms nearby, shows the danger closing in. Corin looks up with a shocked, intense expression, realizing he's not alone. Mysterious figure looms behind him in the dark, demanding to know who the hell he even is. Corin clenches his fist tightly in determination, ready for whatever comes next. He looks up serious and worn thin, recognition creeping in as he starts to speak and can't quite get the words out. Corin stands in profile in the dark forest, illuminated by a faint glow. Just a silhouette of legs in the dark, and a voice whispers his name like a question, Corin Loch. Our time-traveling tactician stands in the dark, misty forest, looking dead serious, his hand gripping his belt like he's ready for anything. Suddenly, an unknown man with a sword pops out to confront him, demanding to know how Corin got here. Corin just gives him a sharp, determined smile and tells him that works out perfectly. The man looks absolutely shocked, lowering his weapon as Corin throws a powerful punch, connecting right away. But then Corin reacts with a jolt of shock as a dark energy claw swipes past his face, making our resourceful regressor grimace in distress and call out to his opponent. He swings his weapon downward with a powerful energy attack, yelling, "Fucking die!" Corin then strikes a defensive stance with a small blade, deciding he has no choice but to push himself, parrying a glowing sword attack from his hooded foe. He lunges back, intense, asking if the thought of having his blade rammed into their neck reeks of death, telling them to focus on the fang. A blade comes terrifyingly close to Corin's face, making him strain, but he lunges forward again with a fierce scream, leaving his opponent distressed. A grim guardian raises his blade high for a strike, then tackles the person to the ground. Corin screams in agony himself as he stabs his opponent, whose wide, teary eye reflects the darkness. Corin holds his blade high, then looks down with a grim expression, the deed done. He struggles against his opponent's hand, holding it away, and plunges the blade deeper into their body in a tense, final struggle. Corin gasps for air, clutching his own throat, visibly wounded from the fight as the blade stands upright, buried in the body lying on the forest floor. He kneels over the fallen figure, which bleeds out against a red background as a system message pops up, announcing player dead, and identifying Corin Loch as the new variable, examining his status. He's now classified as a Martial Master's successor, a sub-player. A resourceful regressor coughs, looking away, while the young woman from before, Arisha Auden, lies wounded on the ground, panting. Corin looks down at her, concerned. He holds the injured Arisha in his arms, asking if she's okay, but she can barely respond. And he asks if she feels dizzy and ringing, too, which she confirms, shocked he knew. A bloody dagger is stuck in her side, and Corin realizes this poison is hard to create, which is a relief. But since the fang is still stuck in her, she's in danger, so he needs to stop the bleeding and detox her. He pulls the blade out from Arisha, causing a flash of light. Corin looks down, sweating slightly, concerned that if she bites her tongue, it'll be a huge problem. He reaches out his hand, making a quick decision. A grim guardian presses his forearm into Arisha's mouth to stop her from biting her tongue, standing shirtless above her with determination. He forcefully holds her while applying a bandage to her midsection wound. Exclamation marks appear in the moody forest as Corin sits in the dark, holding Arisha in his lap. She's unconscious, with his hand still over her mouth. Cooking pot hangs over a campfire at night, and Corin stirs it, telling the still groaning Arisha he's making the antidote. She peacefully sleeps, murmuring something about her savior. Corin bandages his own hand, and then gently wipes Arisha's forehead with a cloth, telling her the antidote will be ready soon. He uses a small stick to draw a glowing energy circle on the ground, explaining that the game, Heroic Legend of Arhen, is all about the hero, who will rescue the world by taking down countless villains and the final boss. The only reason the devil-like Sihu even went along with the story was to become a hero himself, a goal he ultimately failed. Corin stares intensely, realizing his new sub-player status comes with serious restrictions as his eyes widen in thought. Cascade of red system windows pops up, all declaring, "You do not have permission," and our time-traveling tactician realizes he can't use any of the player's convenient devices at all. He knows he needs to use something else. His finger touches the ground, beginning to draw a magic circle, which quickly glows and swirls with energy near the campfire. Magical energy swirls through the forest, and Corin looks intensely to the side, his muscular upper body bare, as he reveals he only learned one magic in his past life. Runes, ancient letters with their own magical powers, like duty, restraint, and oath. He strains, magical runes glowing on his arm, as a diagram of a figure running upward appears. A golden scale balances a piece of meat against a family, illustrating the choices, and Corin sits on the ground, breathing heavily with glowing runes visible. These are the runes of the 3 commandments, some of the most powerful laws of this world, which grant superhuman strength but also cause destruction, like the first rule of duty. I shall not turn a blind eye to the misfortunes of the good people, which raises status but penalizes failure. Corin touches his chin, thinking, explaining that everything in this world has a spiritual feeling, and astral beings like ghosts exist, showing a diagram of a human pushed by spirit-like shapes. A warning box appears. Upon disobeying the bind, you shall receive 600% damage against all subjects as opponents. As a glowing silhouette of a human stands, clenched in a power-up pose. He explains this carries a great risk, which is why neither Park Sihu nor he used it in his previous life. But even Sihu, who used everything in the system, failed, so Corin has no need to worry, taking on the oath with the most weight. I shall save this world, completing the commandments with literally the greatest ambition. Corin shouts, his eyes glowing and energy symbols radiating from his skin. The young woman's blue eye snaps open in surprise, and she wakes up abruptly in a hospital bed, sitting up distressed as a nurse confirms she's awake. The woman looks confused and worried, asking who brought her here, only for the nurse to say her guardian just left, causing her to panic. She sits on the edge of the bed looking for her stuff, then finds a brown leather bag, wondering if it belongs to her savior. She clutches the leather belt, her intense blue eye fixed on it. The pink-haired nurse looks shocked and concerned as the young woman asks for candy, only to be told she can only have stew for now. Meanwhile, the massive Merkaba Academy building stands in a wide exterior shot. Our newly minted sub-player Corin holds open a wallet, looking inside, then holds a letter in his hand. He walks, reading the letter addressed to his proud son. To my proud son, you don't know how proud I am of you, and looks downward, contemplative. He reflects that Corin Loch was a normal, incompetent child before, but even he had a family, and though he acted awkward when first possessing this body, they treated him as family, which is how he began to love them. He looks up at the sky, hands together in a prayer-like gesture, a slight smile on his face. Inside a massive, sunlit train station, a crowd of students gathers. Marie Dunnerf, one of our protagonist's future allies, stands waving and holding a basket of potatoes, asking Corin if he's a new student too. She smiles warmly, holding out a potato to him. A streetcar speeds down the sunny city street, and Marie gestures brightly, pointing out the stamina training room where they lend fascinating weapons. But Corin sees a dark silhouette over her and realizes she is the first ACT's final boss. Marie tells everyone to take a potato as they get off the transport, waving goodbye from the departing vehicle. Our Academy infiltrator stands in the hall as a glowing magical circle activates on the floor, and he looks down, serious, noting the space expansion magic is starting. Students react with surprise as magic energy surrounds the crowded space, and Corin reacts neutrally as silhouettes fall in the background. Touching his ear, he recognizes Old Man Heyman's voice instantly. The pattern never changes. It is basically a boot camp. The narrative explains that Merkaba Academy is where superhumans are developed to fight the evil tribe. A tall man in a suit, Fermac Damon, steps into a spotlight and greets them plainly. He looks down with a serious, imposing expression, wearing sunglasses, and Corin looks at the camera with a knowing smile, noting it's been a while since he's seen that guy. Damon then tells the students to show their abilities. So let's see your abilities. Corin and other students stand before floating light panels in the dark, our spear specialist standing by himself. System window displays Corin's very low stats and 6th rank overall standing, which he just stares at with a bored expression, completely unimpressed. Fermac Damon explains that the numbers are their overall rank, and Corin looks to the side pensive as a sign appears near him. Damon looks down, imposing, as number panels float and glowing silhouettes of students stand above them. A group of students stands inside a blue energy field, and Damon remarks that this year's students have a lot of diamonds in the rough. Other students are introduced, like Arisha Auden, the granddaughter of a sword genius, who stands before a floating number 2. We also see Avalon's druid, Yule, the mercenary Drenworski, and golem sorcerer Cranel Luden. Then a glowing blue number 1 hovers above a nun in a black habit. She's the only one. Close-up of the nun shows her sharp, glowing red eyes. A woman with blonde hair and glasses stares ahead, shocked, and a man with gray hair touches his chin, thinking, then clicks his tongue. He looks worried as a woman with a whip stands in a fiery background, then points his finger, signaling. Glowing blue object descends from above, and Corin stares at a large, blue, sword-emblazoned panel that appeared before him. He looks upward, contemplative and serious. Our Academy infiltrator opens a storage locker labeled with the number 4, his hand reaching inside toward a sword hilt. 3 short hound monsters appear in a blue, digital arena. A 5th-rank monster preparing to lunge with glowing eyes, snarling low in its throat. Corin swings a weapon, creating a glowing trail of light, reflecting that swords are usually cool, but they say sometimes the answer is a spear. He lunges forward with it, and a short hound yelps in shock at the impact. 2 short hound monsters run across the screen, snarling with their tongues out, as Corin watches them leap through the air toward him, a confident, slightly predatory smirk on his face. Our spear-wielding strategist Corin starts the monster test, expecting to clear it in just 12 seconds. But then he stands there, confused, because nothing is coming out and he wonders if the system is broken. Flashes back to a terrifying memory of being hunted by wolves in a dark tower, which makes him observe the current arena with serious concern, while even an instructor looks on, confused as Corin reaches for a glowing orb, asking why the next rank of monsters isn't spawning. As Corin easily fights off the current wave, an older man observes in surprise, wondering what the 5th and 6th rank students are even doing, and Corin himself can only question why this is happening again. The 2 instructors look concerned as they continue to watch, completely shocked by our quick-thinking hero's performance, as 3 glowing ethereal wolves rush toward him, and Corin takes a tense, focused stance, yelling as he raises his spear-like weapon, calling down multiple golden blade-like energy constructs. The spectral wolf heads clash against intense light explosions, and a system notification shows a countdown of 7.3 seconds, leaving the two older men watching with wide-eyed shock, one of them asking what's up with Corin, while a man in sunglasses notes there's a kid performing incredibly. Another observer looks on with wide, shocked eyes as Corin faces down a mat boar monster, who he swiftly defeats, leaving the old man crying out in surprise, and another timer displaying just 3.7 seconds. An owlbear monster roars, charging Corin, who expertly blocks its massive claw strike with his spear, then pivots to counter the blow, all while the owlbear continues its furious attack, forcing our determined academy kid to leap backward like a boxer slipping a haymaker, parrying the powerful assault. Corin then activates a glowing runic magic circle near his hand, engulfing the owlbear in a massive surge of magical fire. A group of observers watch in disbelief, one of them showing deep surprise behind his sunglasses, as the owlbear shrieks and struggles amidst the flames, and Corin coolly assesses the effect of his spell. Our sharp-eyed regressor leaps away like a matador sidestepping a charging bull, narrowly dodging a massive magical sword strike, then strikes upward with his spear, executing a powerful spinning kick midair before driving his spear downward with both hands, channeling intense energy into a massive explosion of light, which creates a powerful shockwave across the arena floor. The elderly instructor with white hair looks shocked, lamenting that the monster test only goes up to 3rd rank, while 2 other instructors are intrigued, excited to see Corin fight evil spirits as a spectral shape manifests, indicating a system effect around our unyielding young master. Corin stands alone in the arena as the count climbs to 60, and he gives a slight, confident smirk before holding a long staff high above his head, as a system window displays the results of the evil spirit test. Another system window shows new records for the monster test, and an instructor congratulates Corin, then looks surprised and nervous, asking why he withdrew and wondering what kind of person this kid is, as a large crowd of students gathers, Corin standing among them as they compare their ranks. Jaeger Hinchpetter, looking arrogant, then tells them about a guy who started a fight with a player and was killed by Park Sihu for getting him pissed off. Corin touches his neck, looking thoughtful and annoyed at the memory of such a lunatic, while another student with glasses reflects on how hard it was to lose on purpose. Later, an announcer speaks into a microphone, a silver-haired character listening intently, explaining that students have entered the academy to become strong, while other characters chime in with encouragement. Corin stands with his arms crossed among other students in a hallway, as the silver-haired character smiles into the microphone, and a high-angle view shows the vast, multi-level hall filled with students. Suddenly, Jaeger Hinchpetter looms over Corin, who sits on the floor reading a book, and Corin watches as Jaeger laughs at another student before surprising him by smiling and putting his arm around the confused bully. A young man with blonde hair points to his chest tattoo, and Corin smiles warmly as he walks down the hallway with an unidentified male classmate, explaining how in his last life, when Jaeger went missing, his mother came to the academy crying, saying his tattoos weren't just for show, but something she did out of worry for her son. Corin talks to Jaeger Hinchpetter, who is still flexing his tattooed arm, while another young man with glasses looks surprised and concerned as Corin watches his companions laughing in the distance. A smiling young woman looks directly forward, and Corin stands with his back to the camera, looking to his right as a young man with black hair and glasses clutches a book to his chest. A man with dark hair and a ponytail smiles with sharp, shark-like teeth, then laughs as he shows off his back and gear, while a blushing woman observes his legs, wondering what kind of person he is because even his smile is pretty. At Merkaba Academy, a large, imposing Gothic stone tower rises into the sky, and inside, the high-tech training rooms allow Corin to perform seemingly impossible training. Our spearmaster performs a rapid, fluid sword maneuver, striking the air and releasing glowing blue energy slashes. He's even fighting with spirit bodies that were previously invisible to him. 2 people look toward a mysterious scene, observing Corin's intense training, while a young woman with long, light blue hair stands in a room, watching. Corin grunts in pain, leaning on his spear as he deflects a powerful attack, sparks flying. He stands in the training room, breathing heavily after practice, while others look on. An older instructor walks toward him, questioning why he's practicing against a spirit, and if he truly believes he can handle it. The elderly instructor with white hair looks on intensely, then smiles widely, holding out a stack of meal tickets. He laughs heartily as he presents the tickets to a bewildered Corin. Our tactical genius looks confused and nervous, clutching the tickets, realizing he got nervous for no reason over a guy who shows affection with food. Marie Dunnerf watches intently with a calm, mysterious expression, as Corin executes a rapid spinning maneuver with his spear, leaving trails of light. A burst of magical energy manifests in the air, and he blocks a powerful attack with his spear, looking strained. Corin is knocked forcefully through the air, flailing his limbs, then lies on the floor, breathing heavily and sweating. Close-up of his face shows him covered by a cloth or shadow, and Marie Dunnerf leans over, looking down at him with a playful smile, asking if he finds it hard. Corin looks up from the ground at Marie's standing figure, exhausted. She then offers him a drink, pouring liquid into a glass, standing over a sweating Corin, handing him the glass. Close-up shot shows his hand reaching out to receive the glass from hers. Flashback shows Corin reaching out to pull Park Sihu up from a rocky ledge, remembering the player's stat window and skill books. He sits alone on the ground in a dark room, holding his glass, reflecting that Park Sihu isn't here anymore. Our determined practitioner stands ready, holding his spear, looking exhausted after training. He stands in a stance, wielding his spear, surrounded by glowing blue energy, determined to figure out his limits. Corin practices his spear technique, knowing it might be excessive, but he must test how far he can use his abilities from the past. He performs a sweeping spear move, leaving a trail of blue energy as he chains Vicious Serpent straight into Tiger Wind. He engages in a training spar, blocking an attack with his spear as he snaps into block capture, then spins his spear through returning Heaven and Plague, one complex movement bleeding into the next. Close up on the tip of his spear during a powerful thrusting motion, thrust forward with intense speed and energy as he unleashes Pagoda Tree Mountain Throw. He reflects on his limitations, acknowledging he has neither a strong body nor vast magic power or aura, and that information about player Park Sihu is useless against monsters and geniuses now. Our tactical genius grips his spear tightly with both hands, resolving that to make it out against monsters and geniuses, he has to work harder than anyone. He stands in a red aura-filled stance with his spear, confident that his past 3 years will not betray him. He winds up for his most powerful spear strike yet, Ominous Serpent Deep Righteous, unleashing a powerful blast of energy with his spear. The spear flies through the air, propelled by blue energy, until a hand catches it midair. Corin lunges after his falling spear like a keeper diving to stop a shot, his hand reaching for it. The spear moves through the air, continuing its trajectory, spinning with energy, glowing with blue energy. Concentrated blue sphere of energy then erupts into a violent magical explosion. Marie Dunnerf stands looking ahead with her back to the viewer, thinking that these extravagant displays don't suit him. A close-up of Marie's eye shows her in shock, as Corin arcs through the air like a skipped stone, weightless for a heartbeat, spear still in hand. The spear lands on the ground, and Marie watches as it strikes the floor near her, gasping in surprise. Corin's weapon lies discarded on the floor, and he lies on the floor, visibly exhausted, admitting he was being excessive after all. Later, under a blue sky, the Merkaba Academy stands majestically, and a cheerful girl with long light blue hair greets the students. Our determined practitioner, with a bandage on his face, eats a small piece of bread while looking ahead as he walks through a crowd of students in the academy hallway. He looks to the side with his bandage, deep in thought. A young man with glasses reads a book while walking, a passage about not turning a blind eye to others' misfortunes. Corin then puts his arm around the surprised student and whispers into his ear, causing him to react with shock. A magical, ornate skillbook glows brightly with golden light. Wide view shows the grand interior of the Merkaba Academy library, filled with bookshelves, where Corin looks through shelves while another student searches in the background. Corin gestures while speaking to the confused student, asking if that's right. He smiles deviously while the student searches the shelves behind him, then reaches up to a high library shelf to retrieve a book. Corin holds up a book with an unusual title, calling out letters, and uses it to activate a hidden mechanism in the wall. Hidden door swings open in the library wall as he shouts, "Wake up!" The shocked student reacts to the hidden door swinging open, gasping, "A hidden door!" Corin enters the hidden passage as the student watches from the library. The student walks through the eerie stone passage towards Corin, who stands in the distance. Corin, with bandaged hands, speaks to the student in the stone corridor, telling him to keep his promise. He grabs the student's arm, stopping him in the corridor, then slams him into the wall. Our tactical genius stands wrapped in a dark, fiery aura, menacingly declaring, "Hee, let's get started, shall we?" He stands over the unconscious student on the ground. Clever planner finds himself crouching on a cold stone floor, his orange eye fixed on a small glowing object, while a spectral entity, the Sabantia Duke, looms over him, setting him a quest so impossible it feels like a cosmic joke. The Duke emanates a glowing red energy, and our determined hero just can't figure out how he's supposed to catch a special evil spirit when he can't even see ordinary ones. As dark magic pulses around the Duke, a glowing red blade takes shape, and then lunges, swirling aggressively around our crouched protagonist. The intense dark magic envelops him, slashing through the air, but a system window reveals a restraint effect. He doesn't perceive spirits, so their attacks literally can't touch him. Mysterious masked figure in red lands nearby, and Corin calmly stands amidst the red energy blades, realizing the Duke's attacks don't work. Of course, that just leaves him with the problem of not being able to see the Duke either. Large red orb glows ominously in the darkness, while the voice of a narrator explains the Sabantia Duke's dark origin. This creature carries an element that transforms normal humans into demihumans, like vampires or werewolves. One day, the Sabantia Duke awakens as a vampire, tragically killing his own servant, and in a monstrous transformation, he fears killing his wife and daughter. Though to avoid further carnage, he evacuates his family and seals himself inside a magical grimoire. That very book is now sitting here in the Academy library. With a terrifying scream, the vampire creature lunges, charging through a stone corridor towards our hero. Our resourceful strategist stands ready in a dark room with metal bars, as a voice explains the second reason he chose Lark, the student from last chapter. If Lark is possessed by the special evil spirit Sabanchaduke, he can use his latent physical powers to the absolute maximum. Corin executes a powerful sweeping attack, sending his opponent flying through the air. He pins the poor student to the ground, forcing a pained scream, and stands over the defeated Lark, looking down with a contemplative expression. He recognizes the items Park Sihu used, realizing they played a major role in future incidents. With a determined gaze, our protagonist prepares for the next step, his eye glowing with intense red energy. He kneels before the student he just thrashed, offering, "After you." The ponytail-wearing Corin bows his head respectfully, then looks away with a calm, slightly amused expression. The student cries tears of gratitude, and Corin sits laughing while talking to him. 3 glowing books float in midair inside a classical building interior, and a cloth pouch on the floor emits purple particles, filled with the Sabanchaduke's epic soul dust. Using the grimoire, Corin acquires a new ability, Persistent Warrior's Regeneration, which states his body will recover as long as his will remain strong. Our determined hero muses that he still doesn't know exactly how much it recovers. He hands the grimoire back to the exhausted student, warning him not to push himself because of the evil spirit. Corin reacts with a confused, slightly embarrassed look, kneeling as he presents the blue grimoire to the young man. The student, shocked, asks if he can really have this. His eyes widen in amazement at the book, which he takes with a grateful hand. Corin is surprised to hear he earned 80 points, and as he carries the student through a dark corridor, he grumbles that a first-level quest reward is only 80 points. Later, Marie Dunnerf holds a potato, surrounded by enthusiastic students, and Corin stretches while asking her if she's here again today, to which she cheerfully replies yes. A smiling young woman looks on with encouragement, as other students skeptically hold their potatoes. Marie looks amused, walking away from a group of men shouting bets about Corin, wondering why she keeps taking care of him. Our man with the spear grips his weapon, telling himself to focus. He swings his spear in a wide, powerful arc, deciding to test the weakest basics first. The spear strikes with glowing energy, named Stab Ominous Serpent. Corin explains that Slithering Serpent was too difficult, so he's trying the most basic Ominous Serpent technique. The spear tip glows intensely, and a powerful blue energy blast erupts. Onlookers gasp in shock, unable to believe he destroyed it in one blow with that basic move. Corin himself looks surprised and bewildered by his own success. He turns to look at Marie Dunnerf, who is smiling broadly, making him wonder if she was watching everything yesterday and why she's asking if there's a problem. He's stunned that a mage like Marie can track the Calamity Serpent's intent with her eyes, calling her eyesight nonsensical. Corin clutches a small pouch in his hand, looking surprised, as he and several other men are on their knees, distressed and crying from losing their bets. But Corin, with a dollar sign in his orange eye, laughs greedily, declaring he certainly doesn't hate money. Corin and Marie both laugh, our money-hungry mercenary holding a bag of cash and calling Marie intelligent. Under a dark, cloudy night sky and a full moon, Corin eats something with a wide, toothy grin. He continues to eat voraciously, but a system prompt appears, showing a Hagalaz rune and a warning that he's short on mana. Our hungry hero keeps eating, showing his sharp teeth. Later, he walks alone down a long, dimly lit stone hallway in the academy at night. He turns his head, reacting to a voice with a surprised hum. Under a starry night sky, the academy towers loom, and Corin's eyes widen in sudden realization. He sees a nun named H. Warren sitting under a tree, reading a book. Corin stands with his head bowed, a worried expression on his face, realizing that human and monster souls have been combined. He knows this contradiction exists within that body. Corin looks startled, his mouth slightly agape, his face etched with fear and sweat, wondering, does she know? With an intense red eye, our man with 2 souls panics inside. Does she know? Because H. Warren is a living corpse, a contradictory existence with both human and monster souls. It's said the soul eyes of those between life and death can see the true color of a person's soul. He remains silent, as the red-eyed nun with a dark habit watches him intently. Our academy tactician stands, arms crossed, facing the seated nun, a ghost-like projection of himself hovering behind him. He floats in a dark void, reflecting that his efforts were pointless. H. Warren must be different, since the original still lives inside her body, and she makes it clear the real owner of that body isn't him. He calls him a thief and a robber, saying he has no rights to the body he possesses. He just calmly states the owner's name, then strikes a dramatic, theatrical pose. Under the night sky, a voice explains that both souls have different characteristics, and our calculating hero smiles as he speaks. He looks down, his expression serious and shadowed, before turning away from the cloaked figure. Corin looks thoughtful, then walks away, telling her he'll see her later. The cloaked figure watches him go in the dark, while Corin looks up at the bright, clear sky, pondering his next move. He finds a wooden board covered with various missing person and bounty posters. Our strategic schemer thoughtfully rubs his chin as he looks upward, his orange eye focusing intensely. He observes the board, deep in thought, and notices Arisha Auden staring so hard at a poster he wonders why. Arisha stares intently off-panel, looking worried and stressed, then bows politely to Corin. Our calculating hero looks skeptical, arms crossed, as he speaks to her. Arisha looks downcast and stressed, sighing while Corin stands beside her, beads of sweat on his face. He has a concerned expression, realizing she must have a complicated situation, so he points towards a quest while explaining something, making Arisha look excited. They stand before the quest board at the academy, Corin's hand holding a paper to find a cat named Butterfly, telling her to crop and finish this mission to spec up. He explains the first mission is simple, find the cat named Butterfly, and he's already thinking about the EXP. A proactive player knows that if he saves and returns Butterfly, who almost died to water monsters, he'll prevent the owner from falling into depression. The cat, Butterfly, meows happily in the girl's arms, while Corin laughs maniacally, certain that even trivial missions will give him incredible spec-ups. His manic expression continues as he sees a young girl being intimidated by two large men in an alley, calculating the points. Close-up shows a hand holding a blue-gemmed ring, and Corin leaps like a cannonball over the stunned couple below, crazed grin on his face, shouting, "Point!" He looks shocked, eyes wide open, as he remembers something important he almost forgot. A man with a mustache and sunglasses appears shocked, lamenting that he made a sauce with over 10 ingredients, but still can't find one that will make delicious chicken. He looks dejected, admitting he just can't find it. The man's face, wearing sunglasses, is seen in close-up, still searching. Our cunning chef stands in the doorway, silhouetted against the bright light, and casually suggests he adds starch syrup. Corin smiles with sharp teeth, his red eye visible in the darkness. The chef looks back at Corin, already walking away, wondering, what's with that crazy bastard? Corin, now wearing sunglasses and a tank top, cooks something in a pan. He looks down with a satisfied smile, eyes closed, enjoying the taste and declaring it perfect. System notification pops up for duty execution, confirming he didn't turn a blind eye to Yoon Kaijo's misfortunes. Corin looks confused, eyes wide, asking why he gets a commandment applied for this, even though he just fulfilled his own selfish interests. Our calculating hero cheers with a wide, manic grin, arms raised high, proclaiming this is the best. The nun with black hair and red eyes looks forward intently. The nun stands as a purple glowing woman appears behind her, and H. Warren looks back over her shoulder. A blonde woman with glasses looks forward, and a young man with dark hair smiles, stating his belief in being born. Then someone screams back in rage, "You shouldn't have been born!" A nun stands looking out at a sunset sky, then with her back to the viewer, holding a book, silhouetted against the sunset. Signboard reading hunting ground marks the forest ahead, as a woman in a robe and glasses addresses a crowd of academy students at a podium. A map shows a path winding through a forest toward a mountain range, and a young woman with a ponytail speaks. The spectacled student with a maniacal grin holds a book, promising points. Corin turns his head, hand raised to block the light, looking toward the horizon. Arisha Auden approaches him among a crowd of students, thanking him for easily receiving points. Hand offers a small golden sphere to a happy young girl. A woman with long blonde hair and glasses uses a whip to strike at a glowing magic seal, and a powerful purple magical vortex with a star-shaped sigil swirls in the darkness. A crowd of students looks up in shock as a dark purple magical surge engulfs them. Corin stands with his eyes closed and a calm smile, unfazed by the chaos, recognizing Josephine, the Great Witch. Our gleeful ghost hunter stands in a forest glade, holding his spear, surrounded by a faint glowing aura. He looks around suspiciously in a forest clearing, wondering where they are. Two nameless combatants spar with swords, and Corin leaps forward with his spear as two obscured characters look on in shock. He smiles intensely as he casts a red magical effect from his finger. A proactive player runs through the forest, pointing with his red magic-infused finger. He offers a small object to the young girl, telling Arisha he planted a tracking rune in the candy she ate. Corin makes a manic, wide-eyed face, holding a blade, explaining this rune will help. He leaps through the forest with a crazed expression as two individuals walk along a path, seen from behind. A blonde woman with glasses looks visibly shocked and concerned, while a silver-haired man in a gray suit stands calmly in the forest, facing her. A foot in a dark shoe kicks up dust like a small explosion, confirming it's true. Corin runs away through a forest path, chased by a dark-robed figure. The nun figure with dark hair and red eyes looks directly ahead, clutching a cross necklace. Our spear-wielding hero is not holding back, yelling at Arisha to just get knocked out, and he lunges forward with a furious strike, his weapon surrounded by a burning red aura. Arisha recoils, her face a flustered mess of surprise and budding fear, as Corin keeps up the assault, his spear wreathed in dark, intense red, and she's utterly shocked by the ferocity of his attack. She shouts, eyes wide and teary with disbelief, while Corin stands with a sinister, wide-eyed grin, pointing his finger with resolve. Swordswoman in training steels herself, holding her sword in a ready stance against the shadowy figure above her, frantically striking and wondering what on earth she's even up against. As Corin, masked and intense, meets her blows, and Arisha can't believe how strong he is, they clash in a whirlwind duel, sparks flying as Arisha tries to break through his guard, realizing he's playing her, counterattacking and constantly pressuring her. But then she spots openings in his fighting style. Thinking thinking if she just aims for those slight intervals, she can break through. She gasps, maneuvering mid-combat as their weapons lock, creating a shower of sparks. Corin grins under his mask as their weapons lock again, and they continue their intense clash. A sharp-eyed strategist then executes a specialized spear move built as the most basic yet most extreme counter there is, naming the technique Spear, Intent, Ultimate Essence, while he strikes with focused energy, declaring 6 steps. He thrusts his spear forward, forcing Arisha to leap backward to evade the strike. Then he moves swiftly, his spear poised and ready. Arisha deflects his weapon with a swift kick during their skirmish, gasping for air, realizing that if she hadn't blocked that with her aura, it would have been truly dangerous. Winded and shocked, she looks up, contemplating his skill, realizing it's not his strength or speed, but his level of mastery over each skill. That's no joke, and she wonders, just who is this person? You're saying he's a 5th-ranked knight? Corin retrieves a purple cloth from a defeated Arisha as she watches, bewildered. Suddenly, a violent clash echoes through the forest, causing a massive explosion of light and force. Our quick-thinking former NPC looks surprised. Holding the purple cloth and freezing at the sudden sound, he grimaces, desperately parrying a heavy, glowing sword with his spear. Corin's eyes narrow, realizing this is an iron stone magic sword, 4 times denser than steel, effective even against large boss monsters, meaning he's been attacked by Drenworski. Floating, glowing magical sword hovers in the air, then spins with energy. The powerful figure of Drenworski stands amidst a clearing, holding his magic sword. Corin reacts with a tense expression, clutching the purple cloth, cursing that he really didn't want to meet him. He observes the clearing littered with fallen bodies, noting how Dren doesn't have a scratch on him, completely at ease. And Corin grimly realizes that Dren is truly showing he's on a different level from Arisha. Our quick-thinking former NPC grits his teeth in frustration, clenching the purple cloth in his mouth, knowing he needs to act fast, because there's no good in fighting Dren now, so he sprints away through the forest, looking back in panic. He leaps through the air amidst fiery explosions, dodging multiple flying blades, and wondering why Dren is bothering with something that won't make him money. Corin runs in terror, mouth open, as Arisha inexplicably chases him from behind. Our determined protagonist looks at his armband, realizing there's no point in fighting. He just needs to take it to the... He spots a distant cabin, his eyes widening in realization. And there, standing in front of a giant stone statue, is Cranel Luden. Cranel, our goggled opponent, smiles confidently. Corin stands behind a shocked woman, observing Cranel by the statue, and readies his weapon. His eyes are focused and intense as he prepares for the next challenge. Our spear-wielding hero lunges towards an unseen opponent, his expression fierce. Young woman, Arisha, stares wide-eyed, completely floored by what she just watched. The narrator explains that Corin pierced the magic sword's core before it could reach maximum output, then rammed it deep into the ground, making it impossible to pull out with telekinesis. He used minimal movement to dodge the swords he couldn't block, guiding them to the golems. Then he moved behind Dren, using him as a shield against the golems' assault. While Dren blocked the golems, Corin attacked their crystals and neutralized them. Corin shields his face from a blinding light, the battle now a blur. Our determined protagonist then dealt with Cranel, displaying reaction speed, judgment, and even psychological warfare, like someone who has fought on battlefields countless times. He organized everything in a single, fluid moment. Arisha Auden stares in wide-eyed shock at the display, realizing her own defeat came from an over-reliance on her talent. She clenches her fist, looking ready to jump back into combat, as she contemplates Corin's skill, realizing it looked as if he already knew her techniques and abilities. Cranel, our goggled opponent, collapses to the ground in defeat. Corin speaks to the defeated Cranel, analyzing that golems are big targets for small, powerful opponents, adding that if it were him, he would have found a friend to stand guard. But then he trails off, realizing he doesn't have a friend, and then brightly says, "Good luck," Cranel gritting his teeth in pure frustration. Corin and Arisha stand in the field over their defeated opponent, and Corin hums to himself, wiping his mouth with a cloth. Meanwhile, Marie Dunnerf casts a glowing magical spell, summoning an effect from the forest, as a blue glowing orb of magical energy floats in the air, and she unleashes a massive wave of blue magical energy into the forest. Her silhouette with a glowing yellow eye stands before the burst of energy, and Marie smiles happily, surrounded by flowing water magic. Powerful magical blast erupts vertically. Nearby, Yule the druid sits in a field shivering and hiccuping, surrounded by tree roots. Blue-haired character Mariette kneels to comfort Yule, asking, "Are you Mariette?" Yule speaks, her voice trembling. Mariette, with blue hair and yellow eyes, offers a slight smile. She then looks up as a nun approaches through the forest, whose intense, glowing red eyes meet hers, asking, "What's your name?" Mysterious hooded figure confronts our resourceful hero, clearly looking for someone, and she dashes past Corin in a blur of movement. Ice shards erupt from the ground as the cloaked figure moves amidst a field of ice crystals. Girl with light blue hair, our blue-haired mage, casts an ice magic spell with a determined smile, while the hooded figure with red eyes looks back over her shoulder. Back at a rustic timber-framed cottage, Corin is checking out his new acquisitions. He's got some sweet game loot, like a matte boar molar knife and a leather protective coat, plus some shark bear's bile, and our strategic sub-player is all smiles, touching his chin in satisfaction. Corin grins, giving a thumbs up, proudly displaying a mandrake seed item card. An older mustachioed man stands behind him, looking thoughtful, as Corin laughs excitedly, holding item cards for nutritional plant supplements and earmuffs. Later, Corin stands in a clearing, surrounded by the figures of his defeated opponents. Cheerful, muscular young man runs past a shocked classmate, bragging, "Woo! Second place, and 19 points too." Our resourceful hero stands with his spear, looking down at a kneeling character, Cranel, while a blond man grins nearby. The orange-haired boy looks startled, reacting to someone behind him as Corin stands behind him, simply saying, "Fine." He looks thoughtful, a faint smile playing on his lips. Cranel, our goggled opponent, holds a red crystal, initiating a restoring core. Arisha, our swordswoman, looks distressed, clutching her stomach. Back in the woods, Corin looks down at the fallen, distressed druid Yule, wondering the culprit. He holds the unconscious girl, questioning the professor's actions, asking if being alive is all that matters. Corin carries the unconscious Yule quickly through a dense forest, as various wild beasts scatter across a grassy field. He looks tense and alert, protecting the unconscious girl. Meanwhile, a female character, Mariette, stands with her back to the viewer, surrounded by a faint blue magical aura, breathing heavily, her eyes glowing. The hooded female figure, the red-eyed nun, leaps forward, red light emanating from her eye. A blue-haired mage, Mariette, looks shocked over her shoulder, then unleashes a powerful ice magic attack. But the red-eyed nun smashes right through the ice debris. The blue-haired mage struggles to maintain her defensive ice magic barrier, as a metallic boot impacts or shields against a glowing magical strike. Mariette's distressed eye shows her struggle. The dark-clad figure stands over the fallen, distressed Mariette in the forest. Powerful impact creates a massive dust cloud, momentarily concealing the figure, as a small blue-haired figure cowers on the ground near a large tree, saying, "Oh, ouch." Mariette reaches out with an injured, fearful posture. The mysterious nun stands, surrounded by a dark, flaming aura, her high-heeled shoes walking forward through the glowing, fiery environment. Mariette screams in distress, projecting a massive icy magical blast and shouting, "Stop there." A hand reaches out towards our blue-haired mage, asking, "Are you okay, Mariette?" Our distraught spellcaster glows with blue light, looking distressed before she lies defeated on the ground. A woman with long blonde hair and glasses, wearing a hat, looks down with concern. Corin stands concerned next to the unconscious Mariette, now in a hospital bed, thinking he thought she had already awakened as a boss. He realizes she seems fine for now, and the flow must still be around 3 weeks left until she awakens. Our calculating protagonist walks away from the building, realizing there are things to prepare for now, and he walks along a path through the forest, looking around cautiously. He applies eye drops, focusing intently. Suddenly, Corin falls backward into a body of water, making a big splash. Mysterious character with sharp teeth smirks, revealing a top-knot hairstyle, and an elderly man with a long white beard and closed eyes. Corin stands before a giant, ethereal, robed figure, the Taoist hermit. Storybook illustration shows a small man kneeling before the cloud-riding Taoist hermit, who holds axes. The Taoist hermit, offering a gold seed that the producer bastards added as an Easter egg, asks Corin if it's his, and Corin says no. He then offers a silver seed, and Corin again says no. Corin laughs to himself, as the wise hermit holds out his palm, revealing a small item. A resourceful hero is crying and laughing while looking up, ecstatic. Single card-style game item, the gold mandrake seed, is displayed. Corin bows low on the grass near a riverbank, before the mysterious figure submerged in the water. The gold and white-silver mandrake seeds are displayed, described as growing into shining gold and silver mandrakes if planted. Corin holds the glowing magical seeds in his palms, silhouettes of his past and present selves behind him, declaring, "But they're all mine this time." He stands before an ominous academy building at night, thinking about the mission that will happen in 3 weeks. The encounter with the Fog City's murderous vampire, John Doe. Corin observes a female warrior standing in a desert clearing, lamenting that no one would fight alongside a weak 5th-ranked knight, even if he asked. He looks toward the viewer with a thoughtful expression. Meanwhile, Marie Dunnerf sits alone in front of a window, illuminated by a full moon. A woman in glasses looks down concernedly at a person lying in a bed, then stands by the bed, watching the person wake up. A close-up of a light-haired person resting, eyes closed. Corin stands before a large, ornate Gothic window at night. Character with light hair walks downward through a dark space. Forest druid casts a glowing green magical circle. Corin stands arms crossed with a giant stone golem looming behind him. As Arisha Auden swings her sword with intense focus, sparks flying. Corin strikes a martial arts pose with his hands together, looking confident, and a glowing red eye with a slit pupil stares out. The woman with glasses looks surprised and frightened, as a monster with pale hair and sharp fangs prepares to bite her, saying, "I'm thirsty." Slams a hand down on a closed book, declaring they shouldn't have sent whoever they're talking to, and a bored-looking blonde woman in glasses offers private lessons if they really want to learn something, while a nun calmly advises, "Self-reflect for now." Turns out, the one who needs self-reflection is our upside-down observer, Corin, who's hanging outside a window, peering in, and he's even brought a boxed cake, politely offering it to the nun through her window. The nun points at the cake with a look that clearly says, "What in the world is happening right now?" Corin just hangs there, utterly committed to this bizarre infiltration, while the nun continues to watch, probably wondering if this is a new form of student assessment. Our upside-down observer looks genuinely surprised, perhaps at her lack of enthusiasm for his cake, before the branch finally gives way, sending him crashing down with a series of pained grunts and a massive impact. The nun, meanwhile, simply looks down with mild curiosity, as if witnessing gravity in action isn't particularly shocking. Elsewhere, a swift foot races down a stone floor, creating a blur of movement, as a mage woman hurries through a hallway with a man, past two faculty professors, Dana and Fermac Damon, who stand guard at the outskirts. One of them, a man in full armor, stares blankly forward, oblivious to the chaos brewing. Meanwhile, Corin, our orange-eyed planner, smiles wide, holding a sandwich and a mysterious green drink, and shares a casual chat with a uniformed guard, who now also holds a sandwich and drink, looking pleased. But as the guard bites into his sandwich, a glowing green rune briefly appears on the wrapper, revealing Corin's true intentions. The guard immediately reacts in agony, a blue effect emanating from his abdomen as Corin watches his plan unfold. As Corin walks away in the background, another man in a suit panics, desperately shouting, "But don't go in!" Our battle-hardened student looks down, a bead of sweat on his face, a sign of the immense pressure he's under, and grips his collar tightly, as if trying to hold himself together. He clutches his own neck, the tension radiating from his posture, his hand a visible sign of his internal struggle. Later, Corin stands in a room, looking at someone lying on a bed, confirming his fears. Another close-up of his sweaty, concerned face underscoring the gravity of the situation. Close-up reveals two small bite marks on the person's neck, a clear indication of a vampire's touch. Corin looks distressed, dark energy swirling around him, preparing for what's to come, and finally lets out a single, impactful sound. Ha! His mind flashes to a battle diagram. Phase 1 involves easily dealing with a monster wave. Then Phase 2 requires holding back a shadowy figure with magic circles. And after dealing damage to gain the upper hand, Phase 3 begins, where they'll face a powerful enemy rampaging in a realm of blood, with a final phase activating once that enemy is knocked down. He visualizes a red-eyed entity snarling, its menacing form taking shape in his tactical mind. Mysterious dark silhouette with glowing red eyes appears, a target he knows all too well. Shadowy figure and another glowing red-eyed character pose, concluding his thought that it's not too difficult. But his confidence falters as he recalls his past mistakes. Arisha Auden was injured because of him, and Drenworski's weapon was destroyed, also his fault. Even Kranel Luden's golem core was destroyed, leading him to question, Kranelluden golem core destroyed. I did that too. Corin clutches his head in distress, sweating with a panicked expression, letting out a frustrated, "Fuck." A menacing, shadowy creature with glowing red eyes looms in the darkness of his memory. He remembers his last life. In MY Last Life, after this happens, we had been waiting below the DORMS, where MARITTE and Isabel were, so we could quickly deal with it. His vision shows a dark-haired figure standing against Corin and his allies. He lunges forward with his weapon, striking a mysterious female opponent in midair during that past encounter. Corin speaks to a troubled Kranel Luden, kneeling on the ground, likely giving orders in that chaotic flashback. Returning to the present, a mysterious nun figure with red eyes is surrounded by a fiery, dark magical aura, radiating immense power. Back in the stamina training room, Corin declares, "This is an employment." Our spear master looks worried as he talks in the training room, the weight of his mission clear on his face. He then presents a soul dust card, boasting, "It has 100% purity with no." A close-up of a character's eye shines with magical light, hinting at hidden powers. Corin gives a confident thumbs up, signaling his readiness for whatever comes next. An open book in the library reveals a glowing magical symbol on its pages, a key to ancient knowledge. Corin and a female mage stand together among the library shelves as he casually admits, "I read a book about it once." Our orange-eyed planner holds a thick old book, looking up with a thoughtful expression. A green-haired mage in a hooded hat looks away in the library, perhaps slightly annoyed by his nonchalance. But Corin just smiles and gives a double thumbs up, entirely pleased with himself. In the canteen, Corin gestures while talking to a muscular blonde man and a bespectacled student. The muscular blonde man and the student look on with concern, wondering if this is too much for them. Then they both smile mischievously, letting out a hi. One student exclaims with arms raised, confirming, "Yup, they're obsessed with romance." Later, Corin and a group of students, including a green-haired girl, walk through a dim forest. Our battle-hardened student looks forward with a calm, focused expression, ready for the dangers ahead. A young man with dark hair looks upwards, recounting how a strong individual was crying and hiding in the forest afterward. He fights like a commander. He marvels, "Who would have thought that such a strong person would dig a tunnel in the forest and stay there for a month?" Corin looks intensely with his orange eyes, absorbing every detail of the story. The young man concludes under a dark night sky that SHES really something else. Corin and his group continue their journey through the forest at night, the air thick with tension. A mage woman with green hair and a fur-trimmed cap looks nervous, sweat beading on her face. Suddenly, a character in sandals lands on the ground, creating a powerful magical impact. A bright magical glow streaks across the frame, a spell being cast in the darkness. More magical energy streaks across the frame, intensifying the battle. The mage woman casts a spell with her eyes closed, surrounded by green magical energy, fully focused. Her staff or branch glows with intense green energy, channeling formidable power. A man with a bandage on his face and a woman with glasses look on, amazed by the display of magic. Corin looks to the side with a concerned, nervous expression, realizing the scale of the threat. He stands with his back to the viewer, while an unknown mage and two others are encircled by a magical aura, ready for battle. He suddenly blocks an attack from a creature lurking behind him, letting out a surprised cry. Behind! Our spear master executes a decisive strike, severing the creature in midair. Character with short gray hair reacts with shock and wide eyes at Corin's swiftness. A horde of various demons and monsters charges forward in a red-tinted environment, overwhelming everything. Two characters watch in horror as a massive monster lunges forward from the shadows, with one asking, "Deeded Senior?" Corin makes a dismissive, arrogant expression with his eyes closed, showing his confidence even in the face of this horde. Character holding a glowing book strains while channeling magical energy, groaning in effort. A young man with blonde hair grins aggressively, lunging forward with a challenge. "Come ATME, Jaeger." Corin turns as the aggressive blonde man bravely engages the monsters in combat. Corin reacts with alarm as the bespectacled student Lark holds a magical book in the background, exclaiming, "Lark, you!" He leaps into battle against the horde with his spear, as a mage casts support, urging him, "Anything, right? Just GO2 forward." The green-haired mage with a hood casts a glowing magical support spell, aiding Corin's fight. Corin effortlessly slashes through a monster while a companion watches in awe, noting, "He's not even taken aback by a sudden attack, and he gave proper directions and support." The internal narration continues, observing, "He's not just strong, he also is experienced as a leader and strategist who guides a group." Corin continues his combat flow, spraying blood as he moves, leading a companion to declare, "To think he's a 5th-ranked knight. There's no doubt about it. Our academy's rank test is very wrong." The green-haired mage looks at the man next to her, bewildered by the situation, stuttering, "WL." This is what the bespectacled student in a hooded cloak examines an open book, surrounded by blue light, noting that the creatures would travel in a pack like this. And they seem. Corin lunges forward with his spear, blood splattering as he moves easily through the monsters, even if it feels like he's going so easily. Even if a close-up shows a character's face with a dark, intense expression, hinting at a hidden agenda. Corin reacts with shock, shouting, as Marie Dunnerf and a colleague look on behind him. Mysterious female figure with glowing red eyes walks forward amidst dark energy, a terrifying force that they needed to run from. The feet of the mysterious woman are shown walking on the ground, advancing steadily. Marie Dunnerf looks worried, holding a book nearby, exclaiming, "No time to rest." Our spear master looks intense while holding his weapon, as a silver-haired companion behind him states, "You seem to have a plan, so I'll trust YOU, employer." A close-up of Corin's determined orange eye shows his resolve. His hands grip his staff weapon firmly, ready for battle. Corin, Marie Dunnerf, and two other mages stand together in a mystical forest setting, prepared for the fight. Corin strikes a confident pose, gripping his spear, ready to lead them into the unknown. Our chapter opens with a mysterious figure cloaked in shadows, her eyes glowing red and an ominous dark aura radiating around her. As she steps forward with a pained gasp, a cry of pain escaping her. Two pale-skinned figures watch on, concerned by this sudden, powerful emergence, which they meet with a sharp magical blade and a startled shout. The one's arm is wrapped in a strange red binding cloth. Their eyes widen in shock at the sight, as a dark sword impales the ground, radiating angry red electricity, and someone exclaims in shock at the sight of it. The shadowy female figure stands amidst crackling red energy, a formidable opponent. Our tactical leader, Corin, looks startled and breaks out in a sweat, his orange eyes fixed intensely on the unfolding chaos. He touches the back of his neck, assessing the situation as he speaks with an ally. The female figure lets out another scream of pain, surrounded by dark red blood magic energy as she demands it vanish. The swirling red energy lifts her off the ground, a demonstration of volatile power. Just then, a young female mage in a green outfit activates a bright magical spell on the ground, as a beast-like hand presses against a glowing magical seal, hoping to contain the threat. Corin and his allies brace themselves in the cavern as a massive green magical explosion erupts from their efforts. The green-haired mage, who looks like a druid with her fur-lined hood, glances back in a panic, while a shocked young man with blonde hair shouts, his classmate in glasses looking on from behind. The green-haired mage looks strained while casting her glowing green spell, admitting it's already burned through half her mana, and her mana heart throbs, but she pushes on anyway. Our spearmaster, Corin, holds his knife, looking to the side, reminding them that this man made a preposterous promise. The green-haired mage breathes heavily, clearly exhausted but pushing through. The foe stands enveloped in dark red energy, preparing for the next stage. This shadowy, monstrous figure is indeed the vampire boss, Mariette Dunliffe, now moving into Phase 2, where players defeat monsters before she comes out herself. Her glowing red monstrous eyes glare, as the game dictates they need to go from Phase 2 to Phase 4 to enter the final boss's attack pattern. Powerful red energy strike marks a new wave of attack. Corin turns his head, addressing another person while holding his spear, ready to fight. Marie Dunnerf and their allies stand in a dark, cavernous space, bracing for the imminent threat, as jagged rock surfaces crack and glow with intense, ominous red energy and red crystal shards continue to erupt, filling the frame with aggressive light. Our foresight wielder Corin stares with an intense, glowing red eye, sensing the approach and warns everyone she's coming. Sharp, glowing red crystal shards surge and expand violently from the ground as someone unleashes an alchemy freezing spell. Explosions of red light impact the rocky environment around them. Corin, Marie, and the others look up in shock as debris falls, one of them gasping, the words dying before they can finish. Marie Dunnerf speaks with a tense expression, her mouth drawn tight. Then the woman with green braided hair and a vine-like crown, likely Yule the Druid, calls out Strafe's name. Green energy flashes violently in the dark environment, a sign that they're responding. Corin explains that although he's the one who engraved the text, only a pure-blooded druid can actually activate it. Massive green roots and vines violently burst from the earth, beginning a powerful summoning. Two characters look on in shock, their faces covered in sweat, as a massive mechanical giant construct, known as the Wicker Man with red glowing orbs, emerges from the ground. Corin and his allies stand tiny beneath the Wicker Man's massive shadow, one of them too stunned to manage more than a single word. Corin explains to Yule that helping her with the summoning is kind of considered cheating, but in this situation, there's no other way. He gestures towards Dukku, who looks shocked with a drop of sweat, asking if the thing is even still alive. Corin flashes a confident smile and a thumbs up, affirming their desperate gambit. Dukku then throws a small beast-like creature toward the Wicker Man, a crucial component in its activation. The thrown creature successfully hits the top of the Wicker Man's platform. The Wicker Man stands tall, startling Corin with its roar, and then burns with an inner fire, its structure glowing as it stands in the night. Corin commands the Wicker Man forward, sending it straight into the fight. The massive construct strikes, creating a huge green explosion against their enemy. Marie Dunnerf gasps, clutching her chest as she struggles to maintain the summon, realizing it's simply too much for her. The large Wicker Man stands over Marie, who looks up at it while surrounded by red magical energy, and she screams in raw agony as spectral spear tips surround her. The Wicker Man is then struck by multiple red magical projectiles, causing intense sparks, but Corin shouts back not to worry. Our tactical leader Corin and another character react with shock as they watch their summoned giant take heavy damage. Large red magical spear tip descends from the sky, cutting through the air, as a voice exclaims in disbelief, the word barely escaping. The red spear impacts the Wicker Man, causing a massive explosion of light and energy that shatters it. Corin stares in realization with widened eyes as the battle takes a turn. Dukku and another character stand watching as the Wicker Man is destroyed by the impact, and Corin stares intensely, teeth bared, with a drop of sweat running down his face, preparing for what's next. Marie Dunnerf now stands with glowing red eyes and dark shadow covering her face, indicating a dangerous transformation or possession. The green-haired character is hunched over, clearly in distress from the magical fallout. Close-up reveals a character's face, expressing surprise and distress in the dark lighting. Corin and his blonde companion react as the green-haired figure runs away in the distance, Corin calling after her, caught off guard. Then multiple metallic spears fly through the air, targeting them directly. Corin lunges forward aggressively with glowing red eyes, ready for a direct confrontation as others watch behind him. Two characters look on with expressions of shock and alarm, the ferocity of the assault. Female figure with red energy attacks our hero Corin from above with spectral spears, raining down destruction. Two characters run away from the relentless red spectral energy attacks. Meanwhile, a character engages in a defensive maneuver with a glowing red energy blade, shouting, "Link past direct acceleration." The sword strikes a glowing red barrier, creating an impact point. Close-up shows a character's eyes, filled with intense focus or irritation, pushing through the pain. Then Dukku leaps through the air, his arms raised high while cloaked in red energy, like a furious bull about to charge. Marie Dunnerf looks up in terror, her face illuminated by a harsh red glow as the chaos intensifies. Dukku swings a powerful blade of red energy downward, ready to deliver a devastating blow. Corin smiles intensely while pointing at the battlefield, explaining that that's Jaeger's special attack, cumulative destruction. The power of the attacks you faced accumulates. He adds, with a grin as Dukku flashes a manic, sharp-toothed smile that, yeah, the guy's actually pretty useful. Close-up of a character's glowing red eyes, now filled with intense rage or power, shows their resolve. Swirling red and black magical vortex appears in the sky, threatening to engulf everything. Corin struggles, leaning on his spear, letting out a grunt of exertion, while others hover in the air above him. He looks down, his expression somber as he remains in the red-tinted environment, facing the overwhelming power. Massive, terrifying red spectral wolf looms over Corin, with a figure floating ominously above it. A close-up reveals a character smiling with sharp, beastly teeth, fully embracing their monstrous form. Corin stands in a dark, glowing blue environment, holding his spear and with grim determination mutters, "Well, it doesn't really matter. The real battle has just begun." The chapter opens with a terrifying flashback to Mariette's past, as her red eyes glow menacingly, and another woman cries out in shock. Then we see Mariette bite into another person, with a close-up on the woman's horrified reaction as she's attacked, before Mariette screams in pain, sitting on a blood-covered bed, distressed by her own actions. She kneels there, still looking down in shock, and then finally cries as the realization of what she's done washes over her. Fleeing her own horror, Mariette runs away through a dark forest. Suddenly, we're back to our resolute protector, Corin, standing in that same dark forest, now confronting a giant red werewolf monster. Its close-up snarl shows us just how much menace it brings to the fight, but our spear-wielding hero calmly deflects a projectile with his spear. The creature attacks again, and Corin strikes back with a smirk, mocking it as nothing but an overgrown dog. He pushes further, daring the beastman to just try to bite a human. The enraged beastman attacks with claws, letting out a furious roar as it takes a hit, staggering like it just got clipped by a truck. Just when things couldn't get worse, two more red wolves come sprinting through the dark landscape like loosed arrows, joining the fight. But our determined strategist simply charges forward aggressively, a confident smirk on his face. He leaps away from the charging enemies, then strikes the beastman with his spear, attacking it from the air. The beastman, likely Deku in his transformed state, snarls, looking ready to unleash some ridiculously named finishing move. Corin grips his weapon and looks back with a smirk as the red beastman looms in the background. Single glowing eye stares out from the darkness, grumbling, but Corin stands calmly in the red-tinted environment, looking up, a slight smile playing on his face. Our determined strategist knows the real fight is about finding an opponent's weak points. He lunges forward, striking with his spear, and explains that the beast has already revealed its weaknesses. With a menacing smile, Corin unleashes his martial technique, Calamity Serpent Intent Rising Serpent Skis, his hands tightly gripping his spear as he executes the strike. A dark energy orb pulses with intense red light, then shatters, raining red fragments across the space. A resolute protector lunges forward amidst the raining red fragments. Deku, defeated, lies in a crater, struggling to breathe, letting out weak coughs and groans. Corin lunges forward through the debris, making a solemn vow. "I'll definitely save her," he says, gazing determinedly. "Your mom." Now, a woman with glowing red eyes and long hair approaches Corin with an aggressive posture, as we're told this transformation puts one of the party members into a critical condition. This is why Corin stands alone in the dark forest, knowing that no one can help me right now. The white-haired woman leaps aggressively at Corin, who closes his eyes in preparation, as she embraces him with red energy pulsing around them, the narrator announcing Mariette Dunileff's stamina and mana are recovering. A resolute protector grinds his teeth in pain as he endures the injury. Fleeting memory flashes of the kind child Mariette smiling warmly and saying something to everyone. A hand grasps Corin's dark hair, and he embraces the white-haired woman closely, but she leans into him, looking distressed, crying out. Mariette's light hair is disheveled. She cries out with wide, red eyes, in a grim scene where a man confronts someone kneeling on the ground. She is suspended in the air by glowing chains in a red environment, apologizing again and again to the junior she failed, her neck glowing with a rune. Another woman with blue hair cries while surrounded by bubbles, hinting at the wider tragedy. Corin smiles faintly, beads of sweat on his face, and declares, "I'm an adult child. As long as I'm an adult, I have the duty to protect you." He lies on the ground as the woman with long hair hovers over him, under the bright full moon shining through dark, bare branches, a silent witness to their struggle. We open on the infamous space prison, a marvel of space magic built by Professor Josephine, where our observant protector finds a cheerful young woman with light blue hair happily munching on a potato behind bars. And as Corin peers through the cell, he can't help but ask if she'll be okay. Our quick-thinking champion then walks right into the prison cell area, where a woman cowers on the floor, before approaching a blue-haired girl holding some food, and leans in so close to a blushing Arisha, Auden, that she reacts in total surprise as Corin confirms her suspicions. Even after everything he put her through, Arisha playfully punches Corin and asks how he dares, leaving him red-faced and stammering about the night she bit his neck. He then sits on the bed, lost in thought, while Marie sits on the floor across from him, her neutral expression reminding him of a painful memory, and his eyes cloud over as she sits with her arms crossed. Flashback shows a mysterious dark-haired character attacking with icy magic, using her actual power against a light-haired opponent, and our ever-concerned hero wonders how anyone could get up or keep fighting after such a devastating blow, just like with the spirit bodies he once encountered. Our compassionate warrior looks nervous, his brow sweating, as he thinks about the hidden eyes of someone else, leading to a scene where he sits quietly on a bed while Marie sits on the cold stone floor beside him. Then we see Marie, holding a basket of potatoes, waving goodbye to her senior, while Corin watches with a warm smile, making Marie blush intensely and look totally flustered. Our quick-thinking champion turns his head, asking if it really has to be now, before waving goodbye and stepping through a glowing portal. Close-up shows a character, presumably Marie, thanking him for comforting her. But then, sitting alone in front of prison bars, she questions if she has the right to be happy after everything that's happened. Our unwavering guardian's foot lands on a plush red carpet, leading him down a grand hallway, past a nun reading a book, as he walks with a serious expression, clearly on a mission. Our observant protector turns to face a man in a gray suit, the chairman, and after a brief conversation, he reacts with shock and confusion, touching his own neck as if something just hit him. Corin's eyes widen in intense panic as he gestures frantically toward the chairman. An extreme close-up of another character's eyes showing a similar shock, before our helpful hero reacts with full-blown, wide-eyed terror. A refined, silver-haired character smiles warmly, dropping a bombshell that makes Corin look utterly surprised, facing an unseen character as they reveal the truth about himself, making the light-haired person smile and continue speaking. Our compassionate warrior lets out a sigh, admitting that he was shocked, and gestures as he explains that Mariette was safe, that the child was never a monster. The silver-haired person hums in thought, making our ever-concerned hero look on with wide-eyed surprise, before they bow formally to him, leaving Corin to once again stammer in disbelief. Lencha Dunnerf, Marie's mother, apologetically adjusts her glasses, looking down as she speaks, while our observant protector offers a faint, sweating smile in response. Our quick-thinking champion stands with his spear against a backdrop of flames and destruction, reflecting on the countless failures he's experienced, but firmly stating that Marie was never a part of those, looking up with a wide, earnest, and relieved expression. Our unwavering guardian looks down with a faint, gentle smile, while back in her room, Marie Dunnerf sits alone on her bed, arms crossed and looking utterly dejected. Our compassionate warrior then embraces Marie, tapping her back as she cries uncontrollably against his shoulder, softly reassuring her, "It's okay, it's okay," while Marie, weeping, apologizes over and over. Marie sits on the floor, curled up and hiding her face, explaining why she didn't resist Madame Josephine's magic at all, but instead simply accepted her fate, trapped within dark, magical cage bars. Leaning close to a blushing Marie, Corin speaks to her, understanding that despite her pretense, she was exhausted, and kindly tells the girl who appears as a demonic beast in his thoughts, "So, I'm saying, I'd like it if you, Mariette Dunnerf, were happy." A close-up shows Marie crying in distress, holding her own arm, while a dim, barred window hints at her isolation, until she finally looks up from her bed, barely visible under the blankets, and calls out for Junior. Our observant protector listens intently, his ear visible in a close-up, as an unidentified student asks about Potato Sr., making Corin react with shock and ask if she's still in isolation, even after a whole week. A young woman with long, pale hair walks through a doorway under the gaze of curious onlookers, while Marie looks around with a deeply concerned expression. Students whisper about Isabelle's absence, and Marie, sitting melancholic on her bed, believes Isabelle must be scared of her and hate her, thinking no one would want a friend who bit a chunk out of them and not wanting to get in anyone's way. Close-up of Marie's eye shows her profound realization. If things are this bad, she declares, need to disappear from this academy, a decision that lands with the ominous presence of a blood bag. Marie sits on her bed when she hears a knock at her door, and as a hand opens it from the hallway, she wonders aloud who could possibly be there at this time. Suddenly, an unknown person rushes in and surprises Marie with a tight hug, calling out her name, while Alentia Dunnerf watches, looking worried and crying as she talks to her daughter. In the doorway, Alentia argues fiercely, demanding, "W.I., am I not supposed to come?" as the other person stammers back that it's not that exactly, just complicated. A close-up profile of a woman with glasses offers a glimpse of the tense situation. Smiling profile gives way to a tearful young woman with blue hair covering her mouth, remembering the look on his face after she bit him, and recalling how Corin had no idea what to do and just felt sorry, as a close-up shows her being held. A gentle hand touches the blue-haired woman's cheek, and then Alentia, with her glasses, smiles warmly as she holds the face of the crying girl, offering comfort. The young woman, Marie, cries and shouts, pushing Corin away, while Alentia, with her blonde hair and glasses, smiles brightly, raising her hand in a gesture of reassurance. Our ever-concerned hero walks away from the camera down a lonely stone corridor, while a distressed woman, likely Marie, stands covering her face with both hands. Close-up of an eye behind fingers whispers, "Corin," followed by a man and a woman in formal attire standing side by side, smiling, as if a great weight has been lifted. Finally, our compassionate warrior stands on a balcony, overlooking the bustling academy town, a quiet moment after all the emotional turmoil. Our determined dude is pushing himself in the empty arena, shirtless and sweating as he grips his training spear intensely, executing a powerful spear strike that erupts with purple energy, a move he calls Rising Serpent, leaving our spear master looking utterly exhausted but still focused. Then Marie appears, smiling warmly with her hands clasped together, and she's absolutely beaming, telling him they need to feed him a lot after all his hard work. A massive spread of food dishes covers the table, which makes our tactical trainee look slightly surprised by all the attention. But then Marie gasps, as a bandaged hand reaches out, and she stares at the blood, finding it deeply unsettling. Corin and Marie sit across from each other on a picnic mat, chatting, as Marie confesses that her reaction to his blood makes her seem so weird. Our caring mage holds a finger to her lips, looking conspiratorial, then stares with wide eyes and a flustered blush. Corin grins intensely, looming over an extremely flustered Marie, who holds up a small potion bottle, blushing fiercely while he watches. Our spear master downs the red potion and doubles over with a strangled yelp of surprise, and a system window pops up, confirming he's consumed a second-rank life elixir, made with a special ingredient. He's immediately enveloped in flames, experiencing a physical surge of energy. Meanwhile, we see the boots of multiple people walking on a stone path, and Arisha Auden walks through the academy campus, also a second-rank knight. Our determined swordswoman stands in a wooded area, looking determined during practice. But then she has a strange, flushed expression with her mouth open and a visible drool, definitely some intense side effects. Elsewhere, a young beastman with wolf-like ears and tail, Dukku, looks delighted with a small food item, and a woman in an apron presents him with new clothes, making him excitedly declare he wants to wear them all. Our pampered beastman smiles broadly, holding up outfits, feeling happy because he doesn't have to train 10,000 times a day or duel with sweaty martial brothers and sisters. He twirls in delight as Corin watches with a smile, who points to himself, cheerfully bragging that he's just built different these days. Our charming schemer smiles, pointing to himself looking cheerful. But then someone is crying and sweating, very distressed, asking why he keeps looking for them, surrounded by scattered clothing and items in a room. Corin looms over them, looking shocked, as they lament that his methods are too hard, always talking about the basics, while Corin simply insists that the basics are important. Corin talks to a girl with a ponytail and a hoodie, pointing a finger upward, then smiles, gesturing with one finger. We see a quaint European-style village street, and a chibi head of the girl appears with dollar signs over her eyes. Corin smiles with sharp teeth, seemingly planning something, thinking that if she just needs money, it's simple and this will be enough for the scenario. His eyes are shown in a close-up as he reflects on his predictions, convinced that based on them, something big will happen today. From an overhead view of the city, we see small figures walking through the streets. Monsters that came near the city were typically 4th or 5th rank at most, with the occasional rare appearance of mid-level monsters. Someone shouts for the knight, waving her over urgently, pointing dead ahead and yelling that they've found something over here. A character reacts with intense focus. Another voice calls out for their captain, warm and adoring. We see Arisha Auden standing over defeated monsters with her sword drawn. Arisha is surrounded by knights buzzing over her, gushing about how she fights. A brave knight gives a devious, blushing smirk while being praised. However, in the shadows, 3 figures discuss the Auden family hierarchy, criticizing her, saying her sister Lunia already reached the supreme stage and is the greatest genius, while Arisha is just an illegitimate child. Arisha, smiling and gesturing with her hands, confidently proclaims that her family looks down on her, but she doesn't think she's that bad. She smiles at Corin, who stands on a fallen beast, a surprising partnership. A bright green magical light illuminates the dark night sky over the forest canopy, signaling a shift. Corin, wearing a futuristic visor, looks off-panel, while Marie glances back at him nervously. Girl with long hair cries, tears rolling down her cheek, lamenting that she failed at leaving work on the dot. Corin looks forward with a confident smirk, while armored academy students cheer in the background. Pack of horned, wolf-like monsters leaps through the dark air like arrows loosed from a dozen bows, but they were easily defeated this time as well. Corin, though, freezes in shock at whatever's coming for them. Dark Claw reaches forward toward the viewer as a ghostly figure rides a horse in the background, and a young woman stares ahead with a wide-eyed, terrified expression. Spectral Dullahan warrior emerges from the darkness wrapped in eerie green flames, and someone screams, "Dullahan!" A floating system box identifies it as a first-rank monster. Arisha fights on, wrapped in blue magic, torn between fury and fear as she screams, "D-damn it! WHY's Dullahan here? It's not finished yet, but I have to." She draws her sword, creating a bright magical flash, and performs a wide sword strike, using her Arden style one slice and then a territory cut against the spectral Dullahan. But Arisha just looks on in shock, her eyes wide, as a bright magical slash impacts the dark background, doing nothing. Dullahan recoils with shocking agility, wreathed in green spectral fire, and Arisha blurts, "WH, what's with that flexibility?" Our beleaguered Auden looks horrified, reacting to the Dullahan's movement, and leaps clear of its strike like she's dodging a swing from someone twice her size, realizing he's fast, experienced, and at least a first-rank monster. He scrambles to figure out her next move, as the fight keeps shifting under her feet, before screaming in tears while blushing intensely. Arisha screams again while Academy soldiers watch her, her eyes wide and terrified, then winces in a close-up on her eye, as shattering magical energy impacts the ground, and a spectral skull fragment flies through the air. Arisha is suddenly yanked back by a dark spectral creature, shock flooding her face. The dark knight figure uses shadowy tendrils to restrain her in midair. Stares up in terror at a glowing spectral blade descending toward her, whispering, "Huh, this sword!" A close-up of her wide, teary eye reflects the horror. And then we see Raunia Auden, standing tall and imposing against a dark sky, as the back of Arisha Auden's head, with her ponytail visible, confirms her desperate situation. A dark-haired woman looks downwards with a serious expression, sealing Arisha's fate. Unia Arden, Arisha's older sister and the divine swordmaster, stands tall and imposing, looking down at Corin. Arisha Auden looks visibly shocked and terrified by her sister's presence. Lunia speaks with a stern, unyielding expression, as another woman with dark hair looks down with an intense gaze, wondering who is acting so sloppily. Character kneels in submission, surrounded by segmented white structures, as Lunia dismisses any excuses. Corin asks if the kneeling character is okay, who thanks him, while Arisha looks shocked and embarrassed with her hands up. Arisha then stands with her sword resting on her shoulder, towering over a kneeling character, confidently stating that swordsmen of Arden must always be confident. Our strategic spearman is back to practicing with a spear, as we get a close-up side profile of Lunia Arden, observing him. Lunia introduces herself to Corin, full titles and all. I am the Divine Sword, the Great Disciple, as well as the First Sword Pavilion Master, Lunia Arden. A character bows formally while holding a staff, greeted by someone off-panel, as we see a close-up of an intense blue eye, then a close-up of Corin's face, displaying a subtle, determined smile. A woman stands before a dark silhouette with a purple glowing eye, indicating powerful allies. Close-up of a muscular character's arm with a decorative Celtic-style armband, tattoo hints at the strength of her associates. A dark-haired woman in a suit stands in the woods, glancing back at Corin, part of a group of 5 women in suits, discussing if they should chase after the monsters that are fleeing. The leader of the group tells them there's no need to chase them, and that they should return. Meanwhile, Arisha Auden looks over her shoulder with an expression of intense shock and anxiety. 3 figures wearing identical dark robes stand with their backs to the viewer. A large mass of silhouetted figures stands in rows on a vast, dark field, with text explaining that those commonly referred to as the Sword Faction are gangster-like swordsmanship organizations. An image of a traditional Oriental-style building against a night sky appears, detailing how 60 years ago, the sword genius Garen began a new generation, making Arden a renowned swordsmanship family. A hand wearing a black glove holds a small golden cup, a symbol of authority. A woman smoking a pipe sits in a chair while an instructor stands nearby, looking at attendees. Arisha Auden kneels in a training room while others watch, bowing with hands on the floor, declaring herself a disciple of the main family and a second-rank swordsman. Students whisper in shock, asking what's going on, and why even the great disciple of the main family is making a direct descendant kneel. A woman smoking a pipe reviews a document while sitting in a chair, clearly in a position of power. A woman with long hair faces Arisha, who is kneeling on the floor surrounded by students. Our embattled knight blushes and flusters, looking down in a full panic, stammering about how pretty it all was. Close-up on Arisha's expressive eyes shows her deeply moved. Gloved hand holds a golden teacup, emitting steam. Arisha looks shocked and downcast with a pale, worried expression. She looks down while knights with glowing star eyes surround her, questioning if her missions are only low-ranking monsters and if she thinks she's acting as a hero. Close-up catches her eye widening in shock, right before a mysterious figure warns her, Arisha, don't forget. A stern, bearded man looks on with a dark aura as Arisha kneels on the floor in distress, told flatly, you cannot escape your essence. A character in dark boots walks toward a small wooden cart in a dark forest, while a group of women in business suits stands in a dimly lit area. Corin drills with his spear inside a crackling blue barrier, spinning through the forms like a dancer who forgot he's holding a weapon, while some unseen voice dismisses him as only a 5th-ranked knight. A woman smoking a pipe observes in the dark, inside profile, as Corin fights off a pack of wolves in a nighttime forest. A close-up on that same eye stays locked on the fight, clearly impressed by his spearmanship. A silhouette of Corin gripping his spear lingers, the thought already wondering just where that spearmanship is headed. A woman smoking a pipe smiles, musing that it was a short encounter, though she's quite satisfied with that friend, and wonders aloud, if that boy were to stay next to my younger sister. She stands in the forest looking at the moon, hoping she might be able to see him this time. A table set with various pastries and plates suggests a joyful occasion. Corin sits cross-legged while Marie offers him food, looking happy. Corin cries while eating food, looking emotional, lamenting that while she lives the sad, vampire-like life eating frozen meat, this meal from Marie is so delicious and touching. Marie makes a cute, playful gesture with her hands, as Corin looks forward with a calm and slightly smiling expression. Her blushes easily friend blushes deeply with wide eyes, appearing flustered. Corin holds the hands of a shocked and blushing Marie. Corin watches Marie gesture excitedly in front of another woman, who can barely get her question out, stunned by what she just saw. Corin touches his cheek, looking contemplative while eating. Various plates of food and desserts sit on a checkered tablecloth. A view of the bright blue sky with clouds. Corin sits at a desk with an open book, gesturing as he talks to an unseen person. Our charming schemer and a silver-haired companion sit together, each eating a food skewer, surrounded by wolf pelts. Man expresses shock with wide eyes and an open mouth, accompanied by a smaller person in glasses. Corin reacts with a look of extreme intensity and aggression, eyes wide, mouth bared in a snarl. Then we see Lunia Arden in a room, chains wrapped around her torso as part of her nun-like habit. Corin looks at Lunia, confused, wondering if it was H. Warren, admitting she is kind of a monster and asking about a food promise. Flashback catches Corin dangling upside down like a bat caught mid-nap, holding out a cake to a young Lunia and promising, I'll buy a meal later. Corin smiles awkwardly as a beastman, and a companion hurry away in the background. The building's exterior shows off its fish-shaped sign above the doorway. As someone starts to say something about Corin, then lets the thought trail off. A nun holds up a fish while looking at Corin, who reacts with surprise. The formidable nun looks down at a bowl of rice while the fish hangs above it, telling him to eat. Corin grins, offering a bowl of rice to the nun instead of a fish. A red-eyed nun looks up, blushing in a close-up. Corin leans on his hand at a table, smiling while the nun eats. An extreme close-up of Corin's eyes shows his intense gaze. We see a wide shot of a fantasy cathedral dome under a bright blue sky. Character with blonde hair screams in agony or extreme effort, with sweat on his face. Young man holds a bowl containing splashing blue liquid, while another student behind him observes. Corin laughs with a wide, slightly sinister or mischievous expression, a close-up of his eyes showing that mischievous, sinister look. Corin and other students sit in a grand lecture hall for an exam, as an unknown voice announces the exam is beginning and tells them to flip the page. Corin looks down at his exam paper with a wide, happy, and confident smile. He holds the exam paper in his hands, focusing on the test. Corin sits in the dim lecture hall, illuminated, reading a complex question on the paper about inertia values and implementation. Close-up of a character's face reacts with surprise or shock to the question. Jaeger stretches his arms in a lecture hall while talking to Corin, asking him about the exam. Corin sits slouched at a desk, looking embarrassed as he holds a blank answer sheet, with someone remarking that he doesn't even know how to write his name and that his answer sheet is blank. Close-up of Corin's face shows his eyes shadowed, an expression intense. Corin angrily crumbles his blank exam paper in his hand. Wide shot of the crowded festival conference hall from above shows year ones yelling to have strength, and bastards complaining about monthly living expenses. Corin stands in a large hall holding a spear, surrounded by students in a combat testing area. He looks down with a calm, focused expression as he prepares for the test. Our test-dodging hero wears a devious, grinning expression, planning to get additional points if he defeats the instructor. Two students express shock and disbelief while observing the testing hall, asking why that person is here. Corin stands in the arena with his arms crossed, holding his spear, looking calm and expectant. Ilunia Arden, the divine swordmaster, stands tall in a professional suit and holds a pipe, walking forward. Corin looks up shocked and nervous, blurting, "Why are you here?" The Academy practical exam is well underway, with students in black uniforms wondering if they should take it easy. But then a group of armored students charges, despite them all being second rankers, and the chaos begins as a burst of energy erupts, filling the entire arena with an intense explosion that sends students flying backward. They scream in confusion, blinded by the blast. A resourceful strategist, Corin, observes the chaos with a calm, analytical expression, recognizing the experienced opponent's tactic to block vision first. So he lifts his hand, ethereal blue sword swirling around him, deciding he needs to secure a proper view first. Female student attacks, but Corin effortlessly parries her strike, while others ask if they are being ambushed. But our spear wielder Corin, eyes glowing, just warns them not to be distracted. He parries another blow, then kicks the young lady's sword back. Corin strikes her midair, a quick and decisive move, blocking another student's attack without breaking a sweat, leaving three onlookers in stunned shock. Meanwhile, Arisha Auden is also fighting, parrying swords as a spectator shouts for someone to do something, and magical swords float above the combat zone around her. Someone shouts a warning about the heavy iron sword, as another woman leaps through the air, parrying multiple magical swords, lamenting that 2 versus 5 is too much. Two blades clash, sparks flying from the impact point, and a hand grips a sword hilt in focus. Flashback to Arisha's training begins as two female sword wielders lock weapons, with someone saying she's claiming to be the sword and that she would be. Arisha lunges with her blade against her female opponent, letting that be the answer, her expression intense and focused, as they continue their fast-paced duel before Arisha pauses, sword raised during the training session. Corin confronts Arisha Auden in the training arena, and Arisha prepares a powerful sword strike with glowing energy, telling him to think of it a different way. A returning veteran Corin watches intently, as a monstrous silhouette and a mysterious cowled figure are shown, a monstrosity that can take on an army by itself, a disaster that even dozens of guardians, represented by a dark figure wrapped in chains, can't be sure they'll win against. Corin looks on with sweat on his face and intense, worried eyes, as Arisha fights with glowing blue energy around her sword, moving through a blast of magical energy, going head-to-head against monsters like that, swinging her sword, creating a powerful blue energy shockwave, which culminates in a violent energy explosion on the ground of the arena. Corin crouches behind a column, watching in shock as a student falls back, panting from the exertion. Student grins wildly, holding another student by the collar, and Corin points at them, then reacts in surprise as a massive explosion rips through the ground near the student, calling out for Jaeger. Corin looks to the side with wide, sweating eyes, reacting to someone nearby, then hides behind a concrete pillar while a woman in a suit approaches him. A resourceful strategist, Corin stands with his hands raised in surrender, holding his spear. Arisha Auden stares with a cold, intense expression during their confrontation, and Corin looks down, grim-faced, realizing that he could tell she was Lunia Lunia Arden from a mile away. He remembers Lunia and himself standing back-to-back in a past battle, comrades who fought together, many times in his past life. Because if his master was his teacher for the spear, then it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say Lunia was the one who taught him real-life combat techniques. That's why, he thinks, by the end of the previous round, he was no match for her. But if he's to take the place of a player, he needs to overcome this. Lunia lunges down with her sword glowing, attacking Corin, who deflects the incoming attack with his spear, sparks flying. They are caught in high-speed combat motion, Lunia lunging with her sword drawn, clashing midair, their weapons emitting glowing energy sparks as Lunia descends, attacking Corin, who blocks her blow with his spear, swinging her sword, which our spear wielder Corin deflects again. Corin strains, blocking Lunia's sword with his spear. As they continue their intense duel, weapons clashing. Corin is sweating, looking upwards, gasping for air, clearly pushed to his limit. Lunia stares at a crouching Corin in the ruined arena, declaring he is ready. She sheathes her sword, her determined eye signaling she's about to unleash territory cut, the most powerful technique of the mightiest sword Emperor Garand, challenging him. Let's see you counter this. Corin prepares to strike, his eyes glowing intensely with battle focus, ready to answer her with everything his spear can offer, feeling nothing but lethal intent. He reacts with shock as Lunia moves with incredible speed. Several onlookers react with shock and confusion, while men in suits look on in alarm, gesturing toward the action. Man in uniform stands in a blurred, frozen environment, a light trail announcing the Arden style's one-slice technique, and then an extreme close-up of an eye with a glowing light trail says, "Fake territory cut." Lunia moves through a frozen world with a sword, leaving trail images behind her, her sword moving slowly as if in slow motion. Corin reaches upward with his spear in the dark void, towards Lunia's sword that is clear as crystal to him, but he grits his teeth in frustration, his spear static, realizing he can't move in this frozen world. He wonders if it was a coincidence, remembering the werewolf-like beastman Dukku. A resourceful strategist Corin, eyes glowing, intensely focused in the dark, asks if he's still not able to control the territory, then corrects himself. No, just one step. It doesn't have to be perfect. Corin's eyes glow blue as he prepares to move, knowing he just needs to take one step forward. Small figure of Corin strikes the ground, causing a large shockwave as he continues his high-speed movement, causing destruction. Three men look on in complete shock and terror. Mysterious figure with long hair and a blade stands in silhouette, their eyes glowing blue. A close-up of those eyes glowing with a sharp blue light. Corin strikes a battle-ready pose with his weapon, confronting a mysterious female figure in a courtyard. Profile view of a character looks toward the distance, and then Arisha Auden appears with glowing blue eyes, looking surprised, calling out as though she barely recognizes her own name. Corin stands in an arena, facing a woman who has her back to him. A returning veteran Corin, sweaty and strained, smiles confidently, delivering the correct answer. "I lost." A shadowed profile with a mouth slightly open says, "Don't." Corin stands in the arena while Arisha Auden looks on with an intense expression. Our spear wielder Corin looks intense, with glowing orange eyes and a smirk, thinking that now that he's shown her his own territory, he bets it won't go as Lunia Arden planned. Students and faculty watch Corin in the tiered seating area, unable to believe he acted alone, as an older gentleman with white hair watches the spectacle in confusion, with deep concern and contemplation etched on his face. A man in a suit crushes his sunglasses in frustration, wondering how Corin Loch is using his techniques, because it doesn't make sense. A returning veteran Corin, in a brief cutaway to a smithy sign, is seen speaking to a shirtless, sweating blacksmith with his eyes closed, telling him not to worry about it. He reaches out to touch a shimmering blue magical energy aura on an object, and bows to a female character in an elegant suit, a confident smile on his face, one eye glowing with a piercing blue light, as he stands with his legendary Shadow Kingdom Silver Knight's spear, glowing with blue light, its immense power now in his hands. Back in the present, Lunia Auden stares with wide, terrified eyes, asking why the blood won't stop. Because it was non-lethal, so how could this be happening? Her distress triggers a flashback to a younger Arisha, standing with a sword in a dark environment, lying injured on the ground, remembering her first battle with a sword, thinking, "W8, Her wide eyes reflect in a sword blade. Arisha is on a train carriage during a mission, with a notification for capturing a werewolf, worth 70 silver coins, then another urgent mission to search for Fog City's murderous vampire, which requires a bachelor's permit. She sits looking down at a blood-stained sheathed sword in her lap, lost in thought. Silhouette looms over her in the darkness, and she wonders, where is my savior? Right now. She glances to the side, listening, as Corin waves a greeting to her inside the train carriage, but he glares at the seat behind him, annoyed at her low, 5th rank. Corin and Arisha then hold hands, agreeing, "Let's do well," and work together, though our resourceful strategist Corin complains about being glared at, warning them, "Stop glaring. The back of my head will burn." They stand together in the train carriage, looking out of the window. Corin touches his chin thoughtfully while Arisha looks anxious, standing close together. Arisha looks down with a concerned expression, thinking, "She's..." Corin and Arisha stand together, looking out a window from behind, and our spear wielder Corin, smirking slightly, tells her, "I don't think you will be able to, for sure." Action erupts in a wooded area as armored knights are engaged in combat against multiple monstrous wolves, with one knight screaming in panic while fighting a dark wolf-like monster. A sword strike slashes through the darkness, with someone saying, "It's a relief that Lady Arden is doing so well," as Arisha performs a sweeping sword strike against shadowy beast-like creatures. Shadowy creatures with glowing blue eyes emerge from a misty, dark forest, with people wondering, where are they all coming from? There are monsters and ghosts mixed. Arisha looks strained and sweaty, thinking that places with few humans usually don't attract evil spirits, and this somehow feels man-made. She prepares to fight as a dark, armored knight with glowing red eyes approaches, clashing blades with him while someone cries out, "Save." Arisha engages in intense combat with the armored knight while another figure rushes in, screaming, "Ki." She stares with wide, shocked eyes, observing the armored knight. Arisha narrowly dodges a powerful mace strike from the towering, dark-armored knight, who looms menacingly over her as she prepares to counterattack. Sweating and distressed, she remains focused on the impending threat, her determined, wide blue eye locking onto her target. Then she strikes the Dark Knight, unleashing a bright, glowing, cross-shaped energy attack, delivering a powerful blow with glowing sword energy. Arisha looks shocked and distressed with sweat on her face as the armored knight swings a large weapon down towards her, screaming, "Ka." But then a glowing weapon strikes the helmet of the armored knight, saving her. A returning veteran, Corin, looks back over his shoulder with a serious, intense expression, holding his spear, impaling the knight, confirming, "Yeah, they're there." Bloodied, faceless, helmeted soldier is held by a hand. Corin looks to the side with a serious, intense expression. Arisha looks up in shock as two dark knights descend from above, and a close-up on a dark, red-glowing weapon appears. A mysterious dark figure in a cloak with glowing red eyes emerges, and our resourceful strategist Corin tells Arisha, "It's fine, just prepare to run away," which shocks her. A hooded dark figure emitting red energy floats in the air, but Corin lunges forward with a determined expression, his arm partially transformed, striking the hooded figure and driving it against a dark wall with a powerful attack. Arisha and Corin stand in a misty forest, looking up at the figure pinned to a tree. Corin, eyes serious, notes that it's obviously not the real boss, because if it were to die here, there's no way it'd be the boss of the opening act. A sinister, glowing entity with red eyes leers, impressed that Corin destroyed his doll, promising, "I'll end things here today. I look forward to seeing you again." A magical blast of red energy erupts as Corin and his allies stand by, Corin staring forward with intense red eyes, his face illuminated by a red glow. Skeletal figure is engulfed in swirling red magical energy, and a spear tip pierces through the center of a swirling, dense red magical aura. As Corin and Arisha scramble and sprint away from the dense, swirling red magical fog, wondering, fog obviously looked dangerous. A spear pierces into the center of a swirling red magical mass, and a glowing rune of return appears over the spear tip. The spear strikes the center of the dark energy with a flash of light. Then it is positioned vertically against a clean backdrop, and again, emphasizing its power. Corin holds his glowing spear vertically while Arisha runs alongside him in the swirling energy, confident he can. A character in a red hood grunts while struggling, and Corin and Arisha fall through the sky. Corin grabs someone's arm, telling them thanks, then to dodge, as Arisha is visible in the foreground. Arisha looks on with a surprised expression. She's then caught in a dark magical vortex, with Corin watching from below, lamenting, "Damn it, this is annoying." Our resourceful strategist Corin lunges toward Arisha to save her from the dark magic, leaping through the air, wielding his spear. Close-up of our spear wielder Corin's determined face shows his resolve, as he fights while surrounded by a swirling red magical vortex. Arisha swings her sword while trapped in a red magical vortex, screaming while struggling against the red magical restraints. A returning veteran, Corin, slashes through the red magical vortex surrounding Arisha, knowing, "All I have to do is cut these things off." But Arisha struggles with her sword while restrained by glowing red magic, looking distressed, asking, "So why? Aren't they getting cut? Am I not strong enough, or is my posture not good?" Her hands grip a blood-stained sword hilt, and she asks, "No." Or, she looks up, disheveled and covered in blood, appearing defeated, as someone asks, "What's with the state you're in?" Arisha is on the ground, defeated, as a mysterious figure looms over her. Her eyes are bloodshot and tearful as she asks, "Is it because I'm weak?" Arisha collapses further while restrained, looking at the floor in despair, apologizing, saying she wanted to be cool and save someone too, and become a respectable person in your eyes, you who saved my life. A close-up of Arisha's mouth and jaw, slightly parted in reaction, shows her agony. Dark figure silhouette dives downwards through red, cloudy skies, wielding a spear, and an extreme close-up of Arisha's wide eye, blood dripping down her cheek, hears this voice. The silhouette of Corin stands in the light, a profile view of him, his face half obscured by shadow, backlit by a bright blue light. Then Corin screams in agony as red magical energy surrounds him. A determined spearman screams in agony, reaching out to a young Arisha Auden, who is engulfed in a swirling, ominous red magic. Skeletal undead soldiers swarm them in this blood-tinted dimension, and Corin desperately holds the crying girl close, a bloody, determined expression on his face. He stares forward, ready to take on the horde, while Arisha, tearful, looks on, feeling the weight of the impossible situation. Corin lunges into the red fog and shadowed creatures, but our sword demoness, surrounded by the same energy, rounds on him, asking, I can't last long here either, so how will you, with a lower aura rank than mine, last? Arisha grit her teeth, her face stained with blood, replying, If you say that to me, I have no choice but to do so. She leaps through the air, surrounded by shadowy, claw-like red energy, walking across a ripple in a dark, starry void as she activates the Eyes of the Boundary, a cursed ability that forcefully allows you to see other territories, fueled by falling tears, dripping blood, and even overwhelming emotions that become the fuel for one step towards the frozen world. Just one step, Arisha Arden and her boot lands on a glowing, rippled surface, unleashing the ARDEN style. With glowing energy surrounding her, skeletal enemies react to a flash of blue light, as an armored hand reaches out amidst the surge of energy, a streak of blue light cutting through the air. Arisha performs a powerful sword slash called Domain Severance, while Corin lunges forward with his spear, joining the fight against the remaining enemies. Skeletal monster screams in pain, its red eyes flaring, as a hooded figure moves quickly across the chaotic battlefield. Another dark-haired character blurs past, moving too fast to track, and the landscape is transformed into a field of tree-like stakes stuck in the ground. A vast field is now dotted with these wooden markers, scattered across the devastated landscape, as a powerful blue energy blast surges through the environment. A massive explosion of light and energy ripples across the sky, and a hooded figure jumps over fallen enemies, sword in hand. Our spear-wielding friend stands in the aftermath, checking on his comrades, asking, Hey, are you okay? A gruesome, skeletal entity lies defeated and bloody on the ground, and Corin looks on, wide-eyed, horrified, his eyes filled with disbelief and sweat on his face. Arisha, however, is visibly excited and cheering, waving her sword sheath, and Corin reacts with shock and confusion as his teammates surround him. Our flustered strategist looks overwhelmed, holding his spear while Arisha cheers, shouting his name and her triumph. Corin makes a distressed and pained face, clearly overwhelmed by the situation, as we flash back to a furious woman with dark hair tearing up a document. She stands in a room while others watch, holding the torn paper, accepting her fate. Another memory shows a woman with long dark hair sitting and drinking tea, while a white-haired man stands with his back to the viewer, flanked by guards. The young woman is exhausted on the floor after training, surrounded by others, and two other women engage in a fierce duel with swords. Our fierce swordswoman is out of breath, panting from the intensity of the fight, her eyes intense during the exchange. The injured character reacts in shock as the blood won't stop, despite the wound being non-lethal. Corin in his memory observes Arisha in battle, his fist clenched, pondering, I didn't see it. No, I couldn't see it. When she pulled herself together, she had already been cut. /IT wasn't a matter of speed, that was different. He realizes that profound path of martial arts. ALISHA had taken a step within that space. Our pensive protagonist wonders how such a young child, a lazy one at that, could achieve something so profound. Risha stands with her sword, clearly taken aback by her own achievement. Then a blood-splattered smile appears on her face as she proclaims, I understand the title that grandfather had told me about. The twisted nature that mortals could not understand. /sword demon, the talent of a demon. We see her grandfather placing a hand on young Arisha's head, announcing, I am appointing ALISHA as the next head candidate as well, which is how she overcame everyone's objections. Young Arisha smiles, holding a sword for the first time, remembering her half-sister rubbing her hair as she grew up neglected by her father's family. Another memory shows Arisha drinking tea from a cup, a close-up of her eye conveying a deeper emotion, and a group of women in formal suits look concerned, making Arisha wonder if they are worried about her. One woman with long black hair stands up, stating she wanted Arisha to step into the domain as well, because if she were to see that sword once more, she too would be compelled. The woman with long black hair steps forward, watched by a group of other women in formal suits. The scene shifts to the exterior of a church building with a dome and a cross, then back to Corin, who stands by Marie Dunnerf's bed as she sits up and talks to him. Our thoughtful young master looks troubled and pensive, hand near his face, while Marie looks at him with a flushed, bashful expression. Corin then looks shocked and flustered as Marie excitedly shouts. A young woman with light blue hair, wearing a sailor-style outfit, opens the door excitedly, and Corin stands by the bed with her and Marie. The cheerful blue-haired girl giggles, and a hand gently touches her cheek as she giggles again. Corin looks alarmed as the blue-haired girl glares at him with a dark, menacing aura, then observes the room where a girl sits on a bed with a companion, and Corin looks even more alarmed as he peers into a room at an inverted girl. Marie looks at Corin with a strained expression, asking if Mariette finds H. Warren uncomfortable, though she thinks anyone would find such an appearance unsettling. Marie smiles broadly at Corin while he looks downcast, confused by what really bothered him. Our overwhelmed hero laughs heartily while talking to a blushing Marie Dunnerf, then looks thoughtful and concerned, hand on his chin. Corin looks at a shocked, wide-eyed woman in a dress, asking, Are you, as a title card appears for the sword challenge. The Arden family symbol and text appear detailing the challenge. A young woman is crying with a flushed face and tears streaming down, while Corin stands pensive, the shocked woman beside him, and announces, I'll tell a condition. He states his condition, party member. Marie Dunnerf and a nun stand together, looking towards the viewer, observing the situation. Corin holds his hand to his face, looking pensive and troubled. Later, a woman walks down a city street at night, looking back with a serious expression, then reacts in shock as her sword is struck, sparks flying. We see shoes walking on a paved street, and the woman looks surprised as someone approaches her in the street. A woman in a nun-like habit stands with a knife, looking down with a stern expression. Corin lunges at the nun with a sword, asking why she is doing this, as she dodges with her knife. The nun's face is serious, illuminated by a blue light, and Corin and the nun clash fiercely with their weapons, sparks and energy emitting from the impact. A woman with her hair in a bun fights with a sword, her expression fierce, as a glowing magical blade is drawn from its sheath, emitting blue energy. A menacing character with glowing red eyes and sharp teeth grins, holding a glowing blue sword, a close-up of the blade emanating intense magical energy. A strategy king Corin grins menacingly, his pole weapon ready, as a nun-like H. Warren prepares for combat with knives. Drinworski readies his glowing swords, Mariette Dunilov clutches her magical staff with a flush of stress, and our sword prodigy Arisha Auden draws her katana with fierce determination. Corin engages multiple opponents in a tense combat sequence filled with magical effects, quickly defeating a female challenger, then cackles menacingly at his victory. Newspaper clippings from the Merkaba Times soon announce our reborn hero's recent string of victories. An unknown voice explains that the Pavilion Master Test, meant to choose who handles the family's important matters, is actually a way to crush competitors, which is why Corin plans to change its entire structure. He transforms it into a dojo challenge, where contestants defeat the 5 swords one by one in a new martial arts format, aiming for a direct one battle in the end. Arisha reveals she initiated this whole process, hoping that if she wins, her forces will be untouchable. She lets out a delighted gasp, surrounded by what looks like a pile of gold. But then the chilling elder sister, Raunia Auden, appears with a cold, intimidating gaze. The pressure hits Arisha hard, sending her into a Chiba-style emotional breakdown, making our strategy king Corin look surprised at her tears. Overwhelmed with doubt and anxiety, Arisha hangs her head, as Raunia's cold expression looms larger, her sharp gaze intensifying the pressure. An unseen voice encourages her to be ready, pushing Arisha to focus intensely on her opponent with a nervous expression. As she faces Raunia in a training duel, our spirited blade Arisha mentally acknowledges that even at her full vampire power, Raunia is an opponent she cannot guarantee victory against. Corin observes this from a distance, holding a small dark pouch, as a mysterious long-haired figure turns with a sharp expression, and a fight breaks out with blades clashing in a blur of motion. The impact causes a powerful illumination, and Corin and the girl next to him look on with wide-eyed terror, as a massive white energy blast erupts upwards, tearing through the building. 2 characters lock swords, their faces close and tense, and our Auden-heir Arisha reflects that she once admired Raunia, who was her idol when her passion for swords still burned, like a hero from a fairy tale. She remembers Raunia defeating a first-rank monster at just 15, cheered on by crowds, and a younger Arisha excited, congratulating her as Raunia looked down, affectionately noting, "You got quite tall." But this cherished memory is shattered by another. "But on the day I first cut a human," leaving her huffing in distress, her face filled with anguish, huffing in deep, painful breaths. Back in the present, Arisha wields a glowing blue sword, intensely focused, clashing with Corin, and she questions his unique defense. Corin, determined, looks at her, planning his next move, advising himself to use his speed, confuse her line of vision, and strike from the closest distance. He dashes across the stone floor like a speeding bullet, a dust trail in his wake, initiating his advance forward, third-form combat maneuver, his face set with intense concentration as Arisha leaps towards him. Corin strikes upward, forcing our sword prodigy to dodge, then holds his weapon ready to counter. But Arisha, with sweat on her intensely focused face, grapples Corin with her body like a trained wrestler instead of her sword, forcing him into a close-quarters situation, making him react with a shocked expression. He realizes SH's not attacking with her sword, but with her body, leading to a mid-air struggle, where Arisha continues her relentless pressure, landing decisive physical strikes, their swords clashing fiercely in a flurry of sparks. Arisha executes a high-level sword technique, and thinks to herself that everything is exactly as Corin said it would be, wondering what she can achieve now. She delivers a powerful combo strike, their blades clashing again in a flurry of sparks, with Arisha grunting and straining, sweat visible on her face. She jumps into the air to strike Corin, who deflects her powerful magical sword strike. But Arisha swings her glowing sword again in an intense melee exchange. Corin blocks another strike, but he starts to panic, realizing, SH's catching up to me, and that our spirited blade Arisha is not only gaining ground, but also perceiving the domain right now, which causes sweat to drip down his face from the intense exertion. Arisha, with her eye glowing blue and a bared-teeth grin, is intensely competitive as she leaps and swings her glowing sword at Corin, who parries. Panting heavily, gripping her sword hilt, our Auden-heir stands determined and focused, and an unseen observer notes that she seems to have realized victory is not 10 steps away, but just 1. Arisha prepares for a sword strike surrounded by blue energy, then lunges forward with her glowing sword, striking the ground to release a powerful shockwave. He leaps off a wall like a parkour master, face focused, towards her opponent, while a flashback shows a younger Arisha smiling happily, reaching out and declaring, "I want to become a cool swordsman like you." Back in the present, Corin looms over a shocked Arisha, whose foot lands, creating another shockwave of blue energy, and her eyes widen in a critical moment of realization. Blue energy slashes through the air, culminating in a bright flash of light, as Arisha, silhouetted in blue, wields her sword, unleashing a massive vertical beam of blue energy. Energy flows down her hand and sword, discharging and swirling in the dark space, as Corin stands calmly beside a shocked Arisha, who stares in disbelief at the dissipated power. The chapter closes with a close-up of boots stepping onto a flat surface, and a silhouetted masked figure appearing through a cloud of dust, holding a long-bladed weapon and standing in a red-trimmed black suit and fedora, a rose on the lapel. Our strategic spearman is already standing victorious, with his opponent kneeling in defeat, as we catch up to the end of the last brutal duel. The blue-haired Arisha, his opponent, looks absolutely shocked, but our earnest regressor just flashes a slight, knowing smile. He explains how he won, saying that by exploiting Lunia's known habits and patterns from his past life, they had seized the only opportunity to win in a domain battle. Arisha, exhausted, finally sheathes her sword, still breathing heavily and just completely spent. She stands there with her back to us, almost shaking from the effort, letting out a final, weary sigh. We see a glimpse of Arisha reaching out towards a falling Lunia, an image of pure panic, her face terrified and pained as if she's seen her worst nightmare. And then she's supporting the injured Lunia in her arms in the academy courtyard, clearly devastated. Her eye close-up shows intense emotional distress, the kind that makes your stomach drop. A gloved hand presses down on her head, making her wince, and she looks up with surprise before we shift to Corin's narration about Lunia. He walks past Lunia, who he calls Lunia Arden, remembering that the first time he met her in his last life was before Mariette's incident even happened, and he was a bit taken aback because they met way sooner than they would have in the storyline. In a flashback, we see a mysterious attacker with glowing red eyes, which Corin reveals was Alicia's murderer, and Lunia searched for him the whole time, never finding him because the true culprit was Park Sihu. Even on Alicia's third death anniversary, Lunia still prays at her gravestone in the rain, which makes Corin ask if she hates her sister, and Lunia flatly replies, "I do." Our somber strategist remembers Lunia only as lazy, unserious, and annoyingly clingy, but then Lunia thinks that other than her, there is no one who can resolve Alicia's bitterness. A faint smile crosses Lunia's face, a hint of something complex under her tough exterior, and we see a memory of Lunia gently touching Alicia's face as Alicia cries, with Corin looking on, arms crossed from the side. Alicia is shown crying, hand on her head, calling out her sister's name, Lunia. Then it's back to the present, as a system display pops up, showing Corin's rewards for defeating the Arden sisters, including an aura rank rise and the domain severance skill. Under the night sky, our protagonist admits he is scared of fighting, but also that there's a part of him that fights with a smile. He's peeling an apple for a woman, saying he used to seek only simple tasks. The woman listens intently, absorbed in his words. She looks down, lost in thought. Corin then looks up, asking, "Pardon," as he focuses on peeling the apple, clearly deep in conversation. The woman stares forward with wide, surprised eyes, probably reacting to something he just said. She tells him he did a good job, but then a flashback shows young Corin being kicked by thugs in an alleyway, and the apple-peeling philosopher explains that when he was younger, all he did was get beat up by the neighborhood thugs. He recalls that later, what made it hard wasn't the physical pain, but his anger towards himself for never standing up for himself. The woman looks down, her expression showing compassion. A close-up of her eye reflects deep thought. Corin looks startled while peeling the apple. He then asks her gently, "For what?" Corin sits beside the young woman who is stretching her arms high, and Arisha in a flashback asks him directly, "When you saved me in the forest, that was you, right?" as he holds her injured form. The woman with Corin smiles and points, a playful expression on her face. Corin, looking a bit huffy, then smiles back. He gestures with his hand, talking to her. She confesses she's never had a boyfriend, emphasizing the word friend. The young woman winks, her face flushed. Another woman rests her hand on a younger girl's head, possibly in a memory. The young girl with brown hair holds a sword, blushing with wide eyes, looking up. A plate of sliced apples sits on a wooden surface, a quiet moment. A fancy chandelier hangs in a lit room. Then Isabel Carmen peeks out from behind a pillar, introducing herself and stating she has a concern these days. The young woman with light blue hair looks back with a smile. Corin kneels before her in a formal room, a stark contrast to his usual demeanor. The blue-haired woman looks utterly shocked. Another woman with glasses looks annoyed, commenting on what an idiot Corin is, and that those words make Mariette the most uncomfortable. Corin then walks with the blue-haired girl in a dress, as a man in a suit looks on. The blue-haired girl's face is flushed and bashful. Someone comments that, Corin Loch, he's a first year who's close to Mariette lately. An observer thinks that the fact he could hold his own against Swordmaster Lunia Arden means he is definitely talented, but what bothers them is something else. The blue-haired young woman stands blushing, looking away. A set of wooden double doors stand closed, building suspense. Corin is pressed closely against the blue-haired girl, and an observer with glasses is in shock, shouting, "They locked the door." Someone in the darkness wonders, just what are those two up to? The woman with glasses looks surprised, straining to hear, and says, "Proposal." Corin gestures as he talks to the young woman sitting at a table with candles, confidently declaring, "It's a sure bet." The woman with glasses looks stressed, questioning, "I invest. Profit. Is this jerk trying to make business off of MARIETTE?" Corin continues talking about exercises. He then states everything. Another woman with a ponytail is surprised, asking who this is, then realizing, wait, isn't SHE the second daughter of the ARDEN family? Corin holds up a small card with a panda face to an agitated young woman, perhaps diffusing tension. An older woman with glasses glares aggressively, clutching her chest. Close-up of a hand grasping a ledge tightly, implying someone is watching intensely. Wall panels are lit by square lights, an atmospheric shot. Corin and a woman stand side by side in a corridor, viewed from behind. The woman with glasses is now kneeling, clutching her chest in distress, angry and overwhelmed, exclaiming that he not only hit on two girls, but he's talking about money again, yelling, "Corin Loch, you!" Corin then sits across from a woman dressed as a nun, eating at a wooden table. The woman with glasses, now with messy hair, glares intensely through a window, saying her concern is over Corin Loch, even H. Warren. Her eye behind cracked glasses shows shock and fury. Our financial wizard stands by a limousine, recounting how Lunia offered 50 gold coins for the reconstruction, and how surprising it was that mages earned so well. He stands before a long line of people in suits by a limo, clearly in a position of power or influence. Someone explains that it will be peak season for the lodging industry, with tourists flooding in from the entire continent. Corin flashes a sharp, confident, toothy grin. He stands confidently in a dark suit and sunglasses, looking like a total boss. An exterior view of the large, imposing academy building sets the scene. A woman discusses politics with an official, explaining that the stance of the Catholic Church, the royal family, the Mage Tower, and the association toward their school isn't very good. The official reviews documents as she speaks. A woman in a red hat says she could have gone instead. She stands in a large room, waiting. Close-up on a woman's long hair and glasses. Her eyes obscured by shadow hints at deeper machinations. Hands hold a folder and documents, suggesting official business. Lencha Dunnerf sits at her desk, reviewing documents, wondering what's next. She then looks utterly shocked at the document she's holding, ending the chapter on a cliffhanger. Looking up from the cliffhanger, a woman with blonde hair and glasses looks utterly shocked at a document, which turns out to be a harvesting mandrake's land provision request from none other than Corin Loch. Meanwhile, an aerial shot of the Merkaba Academy courtyard shows us the sprawling campus, where our frantic harvester and a female companion are already crouching, preparing to harvest mandrakes. Corin and Arisha, both wearing earplugs, look ready, with Corin even examining an item card for the earplugs. Corin kneels to pull a mandrake, while Arisha stands by with a shovel, looking nervous. They both adjust their earplugs, getting ready for the inevitable shriek. But then Corin screams in agony, holding a mandrake above his head, as the creature lets out a piercing shriek. Ki. Arisha recoils in distress, and Corin shouts with an intense expression, his eyes glowing red, realizing his companion didn't put on her earplugs properly. She stands there in shock, foam bubbling out of her mouth, while our hero realizes he'll have to handle this alone. Corin screams in rage as he grapples the small beast. "Damn it, looks like I'll have to handle this alone," shouting intensely. The creature is flung into the air, knocked by a powerful strike, as Corin follows through with his hit, launching the creature upwards with brute force. Close-up of Corin's eyes shows them still glowing intensely from the effort. He reacts with frustration, sweat wiping from his face, letting out a relieved phew. Then he turns, wondering who the visitor is, since he thought he put up a no-entry sign. It's Marie Dunnerf, appearing with remarkable grace. Someone asks if she came from the 12th floor, wondering how that's possible. Character with red hair, eyes closed, reacts to magic energy, hinting at Marie's power. Corin and Arisha look up in shock at a glowing, levitating figure, who is undoubtedly Marie. As Marie runs towards them, Arisha asks, what was that just now?" Corin looks nervously at Marie, who is now holding a plant in the background because she's just pulled a silver mandrake from the ground casually, as Corin watches in terror, knowing it's too late. The mandrake screams in agony, but Marie just smiles happily, holding the shrieking plant. Someone asks Arisha to get something to eat. Our aura-wielding strategist looks confused as someone runs in the background. Close-up of a character with long hair and purple eyes smiles mysteriously. Corin smiles widely, expressing his delight. "Yay, Mariette! This is amazing." The mandrake root is shown on a plain background, ready for use. Character in traditional white clothing stirs a large boiling pot over a fire, preparing a potion or meal. Teapot pours a dark liquid into a bowl on a wooden tray, showing the result. Corin crouches, pointing at something, with Marie holding a large pot behind him, as he recalls his master taught him. Corin looks up with a blank expression, while Marie looks down at him with wide, surprised eyes. Contemplative, he says, "My master taught me." and until even just a year ago, I learned RUNES and the spear from her. We see his master's feet moving gracefully in combat, demonstrating her skill, and then her back covered in glowing runes. Corin explains that original runes were retrieved and engraved onto the body, a power usable by only one person, and that his master tried to leave the original rune to him but passed away before she could. He adds grimly that it was because of HIM. Corin crouches in front of Marie, describing his master as just a normal person that you can find anywhere, a person who always did her best. Close-up profile of a character with pale, long hair hints at another individual. Someone shouts, "I brought SOME, hey," as they applaud. It's Duku, a muscular, red-skinned beastman, holding a wicker basket and an ex-vampire's orb. Corin looks back with a shocked expression, sweat dropping from his face. A pale-haired girl standing beside Corin tells him, "It's thanks to you, Corin." Duku breathes heavily, looking a bit tired. Corin talks to the pale-haired girl, who covers her face in surprise. Corin interacts with Duku as Arisha watches, amused. Duku makes an expressive, beastly face, panting with his tongue out. Corin is suddenly swarmed by an explosive cloud of smoke, while Arisha watches, giggling. Hee, how nice to see. A cooking pot boils with a thick liquid, hinting at what's next. Corin drinks from a bowl as Arisha watches. He then looks at a system window, showing his mana recovery ability has greatly increased, and his max mana amount has increased by 1,300. Corin holds a bowl and asks Arisha and another person, "Can we?" The silver mandrake plant appears as a blue-tinted creature. Corin forcibly bites into the root of the silver mandrake, a system message confirming he has consumed it. He's then surrounded by bright blue magical energy, having gained an aura core, saying, "An aura core is a storage vessel for a knight's aura. He. Corin's lower body and hand glow with intense blue aura energy as he proudly states he already has an aura core, and once his aura rank becomes high rank, he'll be unstoppable. Our aura-wielding strategist stands with blue aura, as Arisha and another character look on in shock. Corin looks to the side with a calm, mysterious smirk, agreeing that his reasons are a bit different. Bright light glows behind a globe-like artifact in a dark room, displaying 5th rank knight Corin Loch. A middle-aged man with graying hair and a white mustache stares downward with a serious, intense expression at a desk. Council of Individuals discusses the data, finding Corin's stats underwhelming and questioning why a student like this needs reassessment. A man with dark, curly hair and sunglasses looks focused at the glowing table. Another man with a mustache and glasses just grunts, "HMPH." A close-up of a man's eye shows a serious, intense look. The group is seated around the glowing table in a dim, formal room. 3 individuals look intently at the central glowing light. An older man with graying hair listens during the tense meeting. The man with the mustache and glasses thinks it needs more. A group of cloaked individuals sits around a circular table in a dark, glowing chamber, adding to the mystery. The man with light hair and a mustache ponders, chin in hand. A dark-skinned man with sunglasses and a suit sits at the table, murmuring, "HMCORIN Loch." He finds the reassessment seems excessive based on his stats, but his duel with Lunia was undeniably remarkable, especially his spear technique. Corin strikes a pose with a glowing spear, looking intense, as the man thinks, "No matter how I look at IT." He holds his glowing spear, displaying a complex Celtic knot tattoo on his muscular arm, completing the thought. The man wearing sunglasses adjusts them, looking thoughtful, concluding that there is a need to remeasure him. Arisha Auden stands with a bright, friendly expression, holding several books in her arms, probably in the library. He sits at a counter, talking to Corin, who is seated nearby. A blonde man with a bandaged face reacts with surprise to someone off-screen. He stands up from a bench, startling a woman beside him. Muscular blonde man is angered by a fiery explosion behind him, shouting, "W what?" A cheerful blue-haired girl with a beret says that Corin is with the most famous person in the academy, Senior Potato, and the super cute demon tribe girl. The distressed blonde man shouts in frustration, weeping, "Jealous. Why is he the only one filming a dating simulation game?" He lies on a desk, defeated and crying, as Corin and a woman observe him. A dark-skinned man with black hair and sunglasses poses with his fingers up, looking smug. He walks toward a table topped with a stack of papers, saying, "Just AS." Students sit at desks in a lecture hall looking dejected. The instructor stands behind a desk, with glowing magical energy emanating from his hand. He snaps his fingers, causing a burst of magical light. Corin gestures towards a swirling magical display of floating papers, standing at a wooden desk. Close-up on Corin's eyes and face shows his focus. Our inadvertent heartthrob strikes a martial arts pose while holding his spear against a grid backdrop. He reacts in shock with Arisha looking on, realizing that in his last life it was boxing. A man with spiked hair and sunglasses stands at a podium observing. Corin then wears a smirk, with a dark, determined expression, ready for whatever new challenge awaits him. The Academy's martial arts professor, a man with an impressive afro and shades, announces their new class will be decided by drawing lots, and the chosen students are off to a very active start. Our exasperated young master finds himself hauling a girl on his back, with another blonde student joining them in a playful trot, which leaves him utterly frustrated and slamming his head on the desk. But then our cunning strategist flashes a mischievous grin, as he's assigned to a group that includes a nun, a blonde student, and Arisha Auden. The blonde student is absolutely thrilled to land in Corin's group, gushing over how lucky she is, while other students are already offering 20 silver to switch groups, finding the competition absolutely cruel. Among them, a stoic nun named H. Warren stares straight ahead, as Corin gives a dark, devious grin, clearly already planning something. Suddenly, an explosion rips through a pristine room, leaving Corin and another character wide-eyed and sweating, standing in a large, cracked chamber after a mysterious impact. Nearby, a beast-eared girl is sprawled on the ground, shrieking near a smoking hole in the wall, and the red-eyed nun looks down with a serious expression, unfazed by the chaos. Soon after, Corin, the beast-eared girl, and the nun are all levitating midair in a hallway, clearly under some mysterious influence, before they find themselves settled into a church pew, with Corin sitting between a muscular man and the beast-eared girl. Arisha Auden, looking rather nervous, clears her throat, as the muscular man coughs awkwardly into his hand, while Corin and the others are gathered. A woman in a habit then approaches them, holding a tray with glasses, and our exasperated young master looks up at her as she serves. When the nun brings up flesh and blood and declares weekend service mandatory, Corin, asked about volunteer work, simply replies while looking up at her, as glasses of red wine sit on a wooden table with a cheeky smile. Love. The dark-haired nun looks down intently, her expression unreadable, her red, slitted eyes glaring, leaving Corin to wonder what exactly he's gotten into. A resident schemer looks down at a girl in a school uniform, while the nun stands with her eyes closed, seemingly in thought or prayer, before Corin reaches out to touch her chin, signaling silence. Corin puts a finger to his lips, emphasizing the need for quiet, as the red-eyed nun looks down with a solemn expression. In a dynamic movement, someone calls out that this spot will do just fine, as boots hit the floor, taking a ready position. Arisha and the blonde man look on with shocked expressions, anticipating what's to come. Corin stands ready in the hall, facing the dark-clothed nun, who challenges him to prepare for what's next, her intense red eye fixed on him, as Corin's determined orange eye glows back. Our spear-wielding protagonist lunges forward, announcing his intention. From the beginning, I'll go with my secret ARTS, the highest RA and KED techniques, unleashing powerful moves like the slithering serpent. His spear strike connects, creating a shockwave. The nun stares intently, surrounded by magical energy, and deflects Corin's spear attack with her bare hand, reacting with surprise, leaving Corin surprised as his weapon breaks during the combat. The mysterious nun then maneuvers midair, a blur above Corin. Close-up reveals the nun's smiling mouth as she moves in, striking at Corin with a glowing martial energy attack. Corin evades the high-speed exchange, but the nun presses on, asking him what he intends as Corin leaps midair. Her red eyes glow with intense focus, and Corin's gaze is equally focused and intense. The nun charges up a glowing red attack with her fist, as Corin channels powerful blue energy, his body crackling with magical lightning. Engulfed in surging blue energy, he prepares to take the attack head-on, deciding blocking it is worth a shot. The nun charges forward, her fist crackling with intense magical energy, and our resident schemer grits his teeth in pain, struggling as the blue energy surges through him. The red-eyed nun stares, utterly surprised that Corin didn't dodge, her face showing shock and confusion as Corin stands over her after blocking her attack. Corin moved with the silent speed of a phantom, appearing behind her without a sound, leaving Arisha Auden wide-eyed with surprise, and the blonde man in disbelief, demanding to know how Corin moved so quickly to get behind them. Corin looks toward the camera with a confident smirk, his orange eyes glowing, and still smiling, grabs the nun by her hood, coolly saying, "Yeah, no." The red-eyed woman in the nun-like habit looks furious, gritting her teeth, as Corin looks up with a mischievous, wide-eyed grin, already plotting his next move. The red eye narrowing intensely, Corin later holds a white sheet of paper, dressed in his academy outfit that reads, "I'm sick, do it without me." Our young master clutches the crumpled paper, looking thoroughly irritated and annoyed. But then we're welcomed to a traditional Japanese-style wooden building under a blue sky, where Corin looks down with a cunning, slightly devious smile on his face. The dinner table is spread with a large grilled fish and side dishes, clearly calling for some serious eating. The nun stares forward intensely, with drool coming from her mouth as she devours the grilled fish. Corin smiles cunningly in the foreground, while the nun happily eats in the background, and our spear-wielding protagonist casually remarks that preparing it didn't even take 30 minutes. As multiple plates of food fade into view, and more appear on the screen, filling the frame, arranged neatly on the table, with a close-up of a single prepared dish. Corin then corrects himself, admitting it took slightly longer than he first implied. Our cunning strategist looks down pensively, hand raised to his face, as he practices fighting with wooden spears near training dummies, emphasizing the importance of small details. A close-up shows Corin and his partner's feet moving in unison. Then the nun, holding a dried fish, stares silently as a giant hand reaches down from above her, and Corin grins widely, playfully presenting a fish to her. This interaction ends abruptly as a hand slams a notebook onto Corin's face, surprising him. Despite the assault, the red-eyed nun sits at a table, happily eating a fish. Corin, still holding a book, happily pats her head, a tender moment between them. Back at the academy, an exterior building with a red lantern is shown, where Corin stands before 4 students, holding a book while they face him in a line. His group, including Arisha Auden, listens intently to a presentation. Corin looks surprised or shocked during the presentation, as students launch into a spear demonstration, shouting with each strike. Our cunning strategist observes a student during the demonstration, looking visibly nervous during the training session. Finally, a pair of gloved hands are clasped together, crackling with purple magical energy, leading to a person with dark curly hair and sunglasses, who is also covered in magical energy. A cunning strategist suddenly finds himself face to face with a mysterious man, his eyes widening in surprise as purple energy crackles around his opponent. It's a confrontation that starts with a gauntleted hand reaching for a book, and our young veteran can only blink in surprise as the man with the glowing blue aura prepares to attack. The opponent lunges forward, but Corin slides low to the ground like a speeding bullet, completely evading the attack, his internal monologue confirming that this guy is really not holding back. Soon, Corin grabs a blue clipboard, taking charge of the new academy duties. He stands before a group of students with his gold-trimmed gloves and sunglasses, watched by guards from a balcony in the massive training hall, and addresses them, ready to demonstrate his skills. Our spear master executes a powerful spinning attack, demolishing armored targets, and looks forward with a calm, confident smile. His team then gathers before a leader who announces the block capture plaque test, and his teammates, like this one, skillfully deflect incoming attacks. Determined young woman wields her spear with intense focus, while Arisha and H. Warren, still training, hold their long spears, sparking excitement among their fellow students, all while the mysterious instructor with mechanical gloves and sunglasses takes notes. Corin finds himself back in a room with the blonde man, a girl, and the nun, looking surprised, as the curly-haired instructor in sunglasses turns to face him directly. Our determined hero returns an intense gaze, and the instructor's eyes glow purple beneath his sunglasses, as he lunges forward with a powerful, glowing, purple-fisted punch. Corin's eye glows with intense focus, but he reacts with wide-eyed surprise as the instructor unleashes a powerful energy attack and then stomps the ground with incredible force. Corin strikes with his spear, engulfed in purple energy, and pointedly states, "That your left HANDED." The instructor is utterly shocked, unable to process how that's even possible, leaving other observers reeling in disbelief at the sudden turn of events. A bright energy flash explodes as the spear strikes, and Corin blocks a powerful punch with his spear shaft, creating an immense energy explosion. But the force is too great, knocking him backward, and he flips through the air like an acrobat, somehow maintaining his grip. The instructor stares intensely, directly challenging Corin, wondering aloud if he's already ascended past the level of a mere student. He then issues a command to Corin, "Show ME." Corin readies himself to counterattack with his spear lunging forward, his strike engulfed in purple energy, and stands resolute, his eyes glowing with determination. The instructor punches the ground, causing a massive shockwave to erupt, leaving 3 more characters looking utterly shocked in the purple-lit hall, where energy crackles through the air. Corin maintains his determined expression in profile, as the opponent and Corin face each other in a tense standoff. The instructor continues, directly addressing Corin, who remains composed, as the instructor looms over him, observing that he had only used his right arm until now, showing off that he was right-handed. The instructor presses him on it, repeating that he's used nothing but his right arm this whole time. Corin parries another strike and clarifies, "My response was due to me already knowing that FERMAC was left HANDED. What does this signify?" The instructor turns his head towards Corin in the empty arena, silently acknowledging the truth, as Corin stands confidently with his spear. Later, Corin and the other students stand in a line, observed by the sunglasses-wearing instructor, who looks to the side, perhaps still pondering Corin's earlier revelation. Corin raises his spear triumphantly, surrounded by his cheering academy classmates, and they all celebrate their success in a cute chibi-style drawing. The instructor then looks down, speaking to someone, as a student is observed from behind by others. In a quiet meeting, the man in sunglasses and a blazer sits across from Corin, observing him, and remarks, "A 5th-ranked knight at your age is not easy." The instructor then hums thoughtfully, while Corin listens attentively. The instructor, now at his desk, informs Corin that the highest rank allowed will be a semi-first rank. Corin thinks to himself, and figures that if he were a player, this is a privilege he wouldn't unlock until becoming a 2nd year. The instructor gestures toward the documents, making clear these missions are Corin's to handle on his own. System interface icons display 4 semi-first-rank raid missions available at the Guardian Association. Lucky for Corin, there are 2 monster and 2 evil spirit missions. Our cunning strategist looks thoughtfully at the displayed mission icons, as the instructor stares intensely, purple energy glowing ominously behind him. Soon, Corin walks through a forest, followed by Old Man Heyman holding his staff, who reflects on his past, reminiscing about the old days. The mission details are laid out. Corin's first hunt will be for the semi-first-rank twin-headed ogre in the city's western mountains, described as slow but dangerous. Corin questions why it's evaluated as a semi-first rank when twin-headed ogres are usually first-rank monsters. The ogre's powerful hand rests near a wolf creature, hinting at the danger. Corin listens intently, a bead of sweat on his face, absorbing the briefing. A stern-looking older man with white hair speaks directly, giving guidance in the misty, forested mountain landscape. The older man, likely Haman, stands with his arms behind his back, surrounded by ghost-like outlines of other students, a visual reminder of those who have gone before. Corin holds his spear, looking towards Haman in the forest, deep in thought, and contemplates the ghostly figures, mentally weighing his options. Close up on multiple large footprints in the dirt confirms the ogre's presence, and Corin kneels to examine a long, deep furrow, reading the signs of the beast. Haman looks on while in the background a student speaks to a witch, a detail Corin barely registers, as the silhouette of the massive ogre-like creature looms in the forest, surrounded by its wolf-like hounds. Corin makes his plan, stating, "First, I'll separate the ogre from the hounds." He stands in the forest, spear by his side, talking to Haman, ready to execute his strategy. Out in the forest, the twin-headed ogre stomps its heavy foot, patrolling with its pack of snarling, wolf-like hounds. They growl with bared teeth, sniffing around a large, empty nest, their glowing eyes scanning the woods. The wolves bark at a cliff, seemingly drawn by some monstrous, glowing yellow eye that belongs to their two-headed master, who looms over them in the menacing red forest. Suddenly, the wolves growl and leap, but a bright flash of intense light erupts in the center of the dark forest, catching them in a trap. As one snarls and rushes forward, 3 of them whine in distress, caught in taut ropes, struggling against the binds, before they are forcefully slammed against the ground by a magical force. They react in surprise, barking. But the beastman Dukku, Corin's hot-headed creation, won't let his biological father's targets be tied down so easily, as he stands in an orange magical explosion, blasting the ropes apart with red magic. The creature is pushed back by the impact. Dukku stares forward with a fierce snarl, bathed in red light, leaping away as powerful magical spears barrage the ground, panting heavily from the exertion, his wide, glowing eyes reflecting the intensity of the fight. He moves through the area, sweating intensely. Dukku then unleashes a massive magical explosion amidst floating stones, consuming the forest in flames, which enrages the muscular two-headed beastman, who looks back at the blazing forest fire, snarling with sharp teeth, before roaring in anger and leaping forward. But our spear-wielding strategist Corin counters with bright magical light, tearing through the air and striking the beastman, who is suspended in the air amidst a massive explosion of flames, and propelled backward by the fiery blast. Corin stands silhouetted against the wall of fire, facing his enemy. Despite the attack, the two-headed beastman, now glowing with red demonic energy, resiliently sits in the muddy shadows, its dark, pointed ears visible, as glowing runic crystals fall from the sky, and it deflects them with its arms amidst intense magical clashes. Explosions erupt around it, consuming a section of the forest in flames, yet its faces express only rage and exertion, not defeat, as it walks away through the path. Scarred back showing, the beastman still looks intensely enraged, its red eye glowing menacingly. Our relaxed hunter Corin, yawning widely and looking like he just rolled out of bed, prepares to strike the roaring monster with his spear, his own eyes glowing red as he leaps into the air. His boot steps firmly onto the forest ground, creating debris. Then he performs an agile jump. The blue-furred creatures watch from behind as Corin, with a confident smile, holds his spear, ready to deliver a powerful energy discharge. He strikes downward with his glowing spear, hitting the creatures and causing a massive blue energy shockwave, making them scream in pain. Corin then leaps into the air with glowing blue energy, attacking the massive two-headed monster with a powerful palm strike, which hits it with a massive surge of blue energy, knocking it backward by its clawed feet. The monster screams, overwhelmed by the blast, and lies defeated on the ground after Corin's successful attack. Our tired hero stands holding his spear, then yawns and stretches, his mission accomplished under a clear blue sky. Back at a building, our young master Corin sits on a bed, casually eating a meal while Marie Dunnerf watches him, then spits out blood in shock as Corin flatly states, "I have a plan." Marie, looking pale and overwhelmed, later stands in the shower, the water pouring over her, clearly distressed by whatever Corin's plan entails. She looks down, her long, pale hair hanging. Elsewhere at the Merkaba Academy, Corin and Marie stand before a massive structure encased in glowing golden chains, as a man with an afro and glasses gestures, pointing with a magical aura, while discussing a thesis he wanted to write. Another witch-hatted woman smiles, listening intently to the discussion, as Marie looks down, smiling gently, watching the giant glowing structure bound by chains. What could our young master be planning now? Sharp-eyed strategist Corin gears up for a haunted house mission, a deceptively simple task that experts call out for its hidden difficulty, requiring him to fight off poltergeist-like attacks from household items and find a hidden magic circle in the basement. He explains how he can now sense spirits, unlike before, like the Sabancha Duke who possessed Lark, describing it as the terrifying Geist phenomenon when a spirit possesses an entire building. Then our prepper prince approaches the dark house, ready to demonstrate exactly how it's done, leaping through the air with his spear glowing, striking forcefully at unseen enemies in a room charged with magical blue energy, sliding across the floor to dodge phantom attacks, and performing a jump slice 3 times to destroy nails popping up from the stairs. Corin then offers a full-on walkthrough, complete with 3D glasses and popcorn, detailing how to cut a flying table in 2, damage the magic circle, kick a candlestick, use fire magic, open his eyes intimidatingly at a flying picture, then switch to a friendly expression to run up the stairs. And finally, prepare to dodge randomly flying chairs before facing dishes that give a tetanus debuff. The scene shifts to bright, glowing geometric patterns, leaving us all momentarily taken aback. But our smiling schemer is just radiating confidence in front of a massive, burning structure as he casually steps onto a dark, fiery surface. He even lets out his signature devious chuckle, that little kayaha that never means anything good, while an older man wonders aloud what he keeps muttering to himself. Corin then confronts the man, who simply answers with a knowing chuckle. Our strategist then looks up with a serious expression, before being seen walking with an arm around a muscular man's shoulder in a glowing, dark environment. Close-up of Corin's intense orange eye suggests a deeper plan is unfolding, and Dukku, Corin's beastman creation, confirms from the darkness that he's following along nicely. Elsewhere, 2 startled miners react with alarm, as a monstrous boar-like creature with glowing red eyes bares its tusks, standing under a dark blue aura. The 2 workers stare up in terror at the demonic beast, while Arisha Auden is rushing through a corridor, panicking. Why did I sleep in late on a day like this? Did he say it was the 4th floor of the testing facilities? She keeps running, determined not to be late, because this is exactly what Corin asked of her. Arisha soon finds Marie Dunnerf with Dukku, explaining that Diaku told her to come, so she did. Marie confirms Corin asked her to explain things around this time, surprising Arisha. Marie then offers Arisha a bottle, asking if she wants to try what she vaguely calls an elixir, which Arisha immediately sees through. As Arisha drinks, Marie nervously mutters about needing to check if it's safe, causing Arisha to pause and question her. Arisha, however, reacts with pure delight, exclaiming, "It's tasty, almost tastes like home, I could feel that." Marie, clipboard in hand, is visibly relieved and notes, "Taste is good, safety is good, toxicity is good." Arisha asks what Corin wanted Marie to explain, and Marie replies that it's about what's going to happen soon. Arisha listens intently as Marie prepares to reveal the looming events. Meanwhile, Arisha pushes through a crowded corridor, urgently calling out for people to make way. She runs past buildings, still thinking about Corin's mysterious request, knowing she needs to go quickly. The scene shifts to a dark, mysterious facility interior, illuminated by an eerie blue light. A man in sunglasses observes, wondering if she just called her Mariette. Midst beastmen and goblin-like creatures, someone explains the concept of alpha entities, then recounts a chilling memory of Mariette, driven by thirst, controlling monsters and making them offer their blood, describing them as monsters, evil spirits, and demihumans alike. Scientists in lab coats are shown in a facility with boar-like monsters contained in rolling cages, and researchers stand near even more caged beastmen. Marie Dunnerf watches the red-eyed boars snarling aggressively in their cage, a close-up of one intense red eye showing their feral nature. Suddenly, a feral boar with glowing red eyes lunges forward, and several researchers flee in panic as aggressive boars break out of their containment. Female student, presumably Marie, stands with her hand raised in a glowing red magical field, surrounded by the rampaging boars. Close-up reveals her own red eyes as she holds up her hand in a gesture of command. Arisha Auden stares in shock at the spectacle before her, while the man with sunglasses and a laurel leaf headpiece looks on intently. He points at a glowing magical seal projected into the air, as a monstrous beast roars with glowing energy, screaming loud enough to shake the walls. Another chained beast lets out a roar of its own. Arisha faces a group of monsters, hearing that the 1st, 3rd, and 7th resistance circles have already been compromised, and a monster's eye glows red intensely, growling. Multiple monsters roar with red eyes, creating a terrifying cacophony as Arisha runs alongside Marie, confronting the monstrous horde. Marie casts a spell at one of the creatures, attempting to hold them back, but Arisha stares in shock at Marie, overwhelmed by the dark situation. An explosion then erupts, indicating a door or barrier has been breached. Arisha and Marie look on in terror as they realize the breach is coming from cage A107. Scaly, serpentine creature's tail moves menacingly through the air, and Marie reacts in utter shock as a manticore lunges forward. The manticore moves swiftly past Marie and her summoned wolves, an unstoppable blur. Arisha stares with wide, red eyes in pure panic, frozen by the sight. But then a beast-like entity glows with intense purple energy in a close-up, as a man in sunglasses performs a martial arts strike against the powerful, serpent-like creature. The man delivers a powerful punch, charged with purple energy, creating a shockwave from his glowing left straight punch, and a powerful purple explosion erupts upon impact. The man in the suit and sunglasses looks intensely forward, energized by purple power, his face grim. The creature roars, hissing and shrieking in pain. A man in a white coat reacts with alarm, as a figure works at a terminal, suggesting system failures. Young woman with long dark hair, Marie, reacts with an intense, pained expression, declaring, "I can't do this." A young man in a lab coat reacts with shock and wide eyes, muttering that it's the same, while another young man with light hair reacts with alarm, exclaiming, Damn it! A woman in a large hat looks over her shoulder, appearing stressed at a terminal, asking what's happening. Glowing's golden chains are violently breaking apart in the air, and the woman with dark hair and a wide hat looks up in shock as they shatter. Close-up of an eye shows immense fear, reflecting the chaos, as a monstrous boar-like beast stands wreathed in broken golden chains and blue energy. The golden chains shatter completely against a dark background, pulsing with blue energy as the monsters are fully unleashed. Port City SAR is buzzing with life, and our black-haired schemer, Corin, is out enjoying the local cuisine with a few new friends, though he's clearly more focused on the drink than the food. He shares a laugh with an older gentleman, pretending to be a happy drunk, making a playfully flushed face to reel him in. And soon enough, Corin is sprawled on the floor, surrounded by empty cans and fried chicken, putting on the performance of a lifetime. The old man, completely charmed, watches on, while our planning prodigy gazes at him with an innocent, slightly mysterious smile. The older man is totally taken in, convinced Corin genuinely wants to talk, not just get more free alcohol. Corin grins maniacally, cheeks flushed, as someone pours him another drink, thinking he fell for it, but then his eyes snap open in alarm. Wait, that sound! Both men are suddenly trembling, looking tense and afraid, as the red, demonic form of Duckgu looms menacingly behind Corin, who clutches his head in distress. Slumps onto the table in defeat, lamenting, "Fuck, this was supposed to be my first drink in YARS." Meanwhile, the golden chains holding back the monstrous boars are shattering into glowing pieces, releasing immense magical energy, sending a woman in a wizard's hat reeling back in terror, as a dark, demonic beastman emerges from the light, glowing with red eyes and golden chains. The mysterious man in sunglasses from before shouts, "Yes," to Marie, who is standing nearby. Marie wastes no time, shouting "Crystal Lance" as she summons a massive magical spell. She stands defensively, surrounded by fierce blue energy, firing her powerful lance at the unseen target, her staff a blur of motion as she unleashes her magic. But Marie looks on in utter shock, realizing the Crystal Lance has shattered against the monstrous beast. He stares with wide, disbelieving eyes at the failure of her strongest attack, as the man in sunglasses strikes at the glowing, beastly figure, delivering a powerful, energy-infused punch. He leaps back from a large, horned monster in the hazy, chaotic atmosphere, and then Corin is blasted backward by a powerful, fiery, explosive force. He's thrown through the air as a massive barrier crackles with energy, barely holding, while Marie screams in distress, watching the chaos unfold. "All workers!" A voice shouts as a massive swarm of demonic wolves and monsters attacks the facility, overwhelming the guards. Then, mechanical spirit golems with glowing green visors stand ready, engaging in a fierce battle against the shadowy demonic horde. The demonic beast screams, "Siek!" as a spirit golem watches it charge, with another scaled-tail creature lashing out at the golems. A huge demonic beast screams, "Sie!" as a swarm of lesser monsters advances in the encroaching darkness. Marie operates a control console in the dark, nervously asking, "Will our budget be okay?" Suddenly, a demonic horned beast emerges from a golden magical aura, roaring "Grahhhh." Marie screams as she barely dodges the massive monster's attack, but a gray-haired character wielding dual glowing blades slashes through the demonic beast, causing an explosion. He leaps over shadowy beasts, striking with his blades, as a fiery beast opens its mouth to unleash a powerful blast of energy. It bellows "Grahhhh" while channeling a concentrated stream of fire. But our spear-wielding tactician, Corin, drifts through the air with multiple spectral swords hovering around him against the fiery explosion, completely unharmed. He pulls pieces of rock together with green magic, forming a large stone hand and a massive mechanical stone golem. A castle golem rises amidst the flames. The towering golem looms forward as flames roar around it. Corin cheers with fists raised in excitement, having just summoned it. Sits on the floor holding a green book, remembering a few days ago he said that stamina is power, and forced me to train in the training room before giving Emmy some golem magic techniques. The newly summoned stone golem clashes in combat with a reddish beast-like creature amidst the fire, which screams, "Grahhhh." The golem's body is reinforced with glowing magical wooden roots, thanks to Marie, who floats in the air, glowing with bright green magical energy. A large snake-like creature attacks as another character looks up in shock, who then strikes at it with a glowing sword, leaving the creature's tail coiling through the air. The sword wielder stands ready, gazing at the monster, as a witch-hatted mage watches the magical battle unfold, impressed and thankful that each student who has appeared is at least a second-rank knight or mage. A diverse group of students stands gathered in a magical, glowing arena. Corin sits alone at a tavern table thinking, "What? Right now the plan that a boy who was not currently at the academy was going down splendidly." Suddenly, a monstrous, glowing, red-eyed boar charges forward amidst a swirling red aura, towering over Marie Dunnerf as she stands in the arena, confronting the beast. 3 other students look on in shocked, wide-eyed terror. Marie wields a glowing magic staff, prepared to cast a spell. Another creature with a horned head and glowing yellow eyes roars loudly, "Grahhhh." A boy with orange hair uses a control console, shouting "YUEL, support me more," as a green-haired figure manifests above him, who replies, "Do you really want me to move it?" A mechanical golem arm strikes forward with a green glow, clashing with a creature, creating an explosion as it screams, "Grahhhh." The golem clashes against a brown, beast-like creature, which screams, Our planning prodigy, Corin, operates a control console while the green-haired Yule manifests above him, guiding the golem's attacks. The mechanical golem arm clashes against a large beast-like creature, creating a bright explosion, as a wooden golem strikes forward, crackling with intense green magical energy. Corin grins wildly, looking toward the green-haired Yule and asking, "When did you give it a name?" We cut back to Port City Sar, a busy coastal hub, where Corin is arriving at a quiet church. He knocks on a door, the red beastman Duckgu nearby, and speaks to a nun at the doorway. Soon, Corin sits alone at a wooden table in a dimly lit chapel-like room, looking up at a wooden cross with a knowing, almost pleased smile. Back at the academy, our confident Commander Corin reacts with intense excitement, as Yule, the green-haired figure, stands behind him. Suddenly, a large, monstrous serpent looms over a small woman holding a sword who screams, "SIE," and curses, "Oops." Corin thinks to himself, "I need to face this guy alone," and a woman with light hair and a beret, Marie, warns, "You cannot use IT /domain /severance." Arisha, the swordswoman fighting the dark serpent, reacts to the command, "Without domain /severance." She thinks Corin must have said that because he saw SOME potential in me, but then doubts herself. But can I really do /IT? Suddenly, a woman falls through a fractured reality as the environment collapses around her. She lies on the ground, wounded, a staff nearby, realizing with a pained expression, "It's really as Corin said." A dark, ominous monster, a monstrous pig with glowing red eyes, looms in the darkness. A woman stands facing it, holding a spear-like staff, thinking, "HOO. Probably won't be able to defeat the demonic pig." The large demonic boar is engulfed in intense blue flames, and it opens its massive mouth, screaming in rage, "KAH." The small woman, Marie, faces the enormous shadow of the boar in the large arena, looking determined. He's crouched on the ground, injured, surrounded by red energy, but declares, "I give up." She looks surprised as a dark, monstrous, shadowy creature lunges at her with an open mouth. Another young woman swings her blade with blue energy, struggling but resolute. Have no choice but to succeed as well. A demonic creature is struck by intense red magical energy, and Marie is knocked back by a massive wave of red energy while wielding a glowing staff. The demonic boar screams with its mouth wide open, displaying sharp teeth, and Marie stands small before the massive dark demonic creature. She casts a spell, surrounded by ice shards, as the large dark creature lunges forward with glowing red eyes, muttering TCH. Marie activates a glowing red magical shield, a multi-layer shield, against the monster, which strikes the barrier, making her grunt. Our black-haired strategist Corin looks on with a wide, shocked expression in the dark. A large beast-like creature with blue fur and horns stands against a shattered wall background as a red claw slashes through the air. A large red beastman holds the wounded mage Marie Dunnerf in his arms. Meanwhile, Arisha Auden is fighting, striking her blade against the scales of a giant serpent, which screams, "SIE." Arisha looks stressed, contemplating Corin's strategy. "I can't use domain severance. Then what can I use to beat this guy? If I were Corin, what would I have done?" She dodges as a massive dark serpent lunges at her with its mouth wide open. "SIE." Arisha prepares to unsheath her sword, thinking, "Yes, if I were Corin. There's no other choice." She vaults into the air and slashes the serpent's thick tail with her sword, focusing intently, lunging through the air with her sword surrounded by blue energy, determined to dodge and cut. "Erase everything but that from your head." Arisha moves rapidly in a blur, slashing at the serpent's body multiple times, delivering a powerful glowing blue slash against the serpent's jaw, and finishes her attack, causing a bright explosion against the serpent, leaving her victorious. She stands with sword in hand, looking triumphant. Corin then appears, spear in hand, calm and pleased, telling them, "Y'all did well." An armored mech-like machine floats in the air, while a dark, spike-covered beast stands below, looking up. Frantic, orange-haired character with goggles leans over a control panel, shouting, "Need LUDN/warrior." Our cunning Corin, holding a spear, faces a sword-wielding figure, while another person observes from behind. He stands with a confident, slightly smug expression, a glowing-eyed figure in the background. A sharp, spear-like magical projectile strikes a glowing circular barrier. Marie stands within a circle of glowing red magical runes, surrounded by multiple demonic pig-like monsters, explaining, "That was to feed rocks with rune magic, engraved on them to the monsters of the testing facilities." Multiple bestial monsters roar with burning energy, looking shocked, before they are engulfed in a massive, intense magical blaze of fire. Corin kneels, holding his UCAP spear, looking determined in the middle of the battle, then sprints forward with his spear, accompanied by an ally shouting, yes." A fearsome demonic beast with large curved horns stares out from the dark, fiery surroundings. Corin then turns around in agitation as a hooded woman watches him from the right, snapping, "What? I don't need you." A blue-haired girl smiles with sharp teeth as a green monster looms below, saying, "Yup, then let's start again." Corin stands with his group, including Marie and Arisha, surrounded by blue flames, ready for whatever comes next. Just as Corin and his allies think they've dealt with one wave of monsters, an unknown voice declares, "Then let's start again," as new monstrous forms emerge from the shadows, forcing Corin and his team to stand ready, surrounded by their defensive blue energy. Our sharp-eyed commander, Corin, stares ahead with an intense, orange-eyed gaze, facing down a massive shadowed boar-like creature whose red eyes glow with malevolent intent, alongside a demonic, horned entity that leads a swarm of smaller, red-eyed minions. The colossal boar looms large in the darkness, leaving our quick blade, Arisha, staring forward with wide, shocked eyes and an open mouth at the sheer scale of the new threat. The creature slams downward with immense force, kicking up dark magical energy that threatens to overwhelm them. But Arisha shouts out orders, urging her mechanical ally straight into the fight as she works the controls. Not one to wait, Corin grips his spear and charges into battle with a determined expression, like a batter running straight for the pitcher, while a mechanical construct leaps down toward a blue-haired figure, joining the fray. An orange-haired character shouts out, calling to an ally in the middle of the chaos. As a spirit construct attacks a golem with a powerful, glowing mechanical limb. The mechanical construct crashes into a defensive energy barrier, which holds firm, sending dust and energy exploding outward upon the impact of the attack. A young character with goggles, perhaps a technician, reacts in shock at a control panel, shouting in alarm. Brown-haired man, looking alarmed himself, urgently commands, "Keep attacking the demonic pig no matter what," while a character operating a machine is guided by a glowing spirit figure who whispers, "LUDEN warrior, you can't lose." Meanwhile, Arisha casts a spell with her wooden staff, causing green magical energy to swirl around her, and green, vine-like magical energy snakes through the air, restraining the demonic pig with surprising force as it struggles against her magical grasp. However, the demonic creature with glowing red eyes stares intensely, clearly unbothered by her efforts. True to form, the demonic pig undergoes a horrifying transformation, growing jagged red spike-like features that burst from its body. A nearby character can only react with disbelief, stunned speechless by the sight. Even our determined tactician Corin and our quick blade Arisha look on with matching expressions of shock and concern. Corin, ever ready, leaps through the air, gripping his spear while magical weapons fly past him. As an unseen voice, perhaps his employer, proudly declares, "As expected, my employer is a strategist who waits for the perfect timing with the best safety measures." Now a magical longsword glows brightly amidst intense flames, a blade of flames and lightning at his command. These extra weapons, strengthened with top-rank mana stones and handed down as a reward after the Mariette Dunilif incident. The monstrous beast charges forward with glowing red eyes and spiked fur, its handler warning that it be easy to handle HIM. Energy crackles across a dark background, underscoring the raw power of their opponent. The beast's menacing, glowing red eye fills the panel, signaling its unwavering intent. Glowing magical strike finally hits the monstrous, dark-furred beast, sending sparks flying in the battle. A young woman with light-colored hair glares with an intense, pained expression, caught up in the chaos. Corin shouts back in agreement, as Arisha stands behind him ready for combat, their teamwork in full swing. Our loyal beast son, Dukku in his beastman form, lunges forward and strikes a massive, dark monster in combat, like a wolf tearing into prey. He strikes the monster again with a forceful physical attack, relentlessly pushing the assault. Corin stares intensely, focused and determined, completely absorbed in the mid-combat strategy. Meanwhile, a mystical blue crystal floats in the air amidst golden light and fragments, revealing the original runes and the 8 texts that were needed to reach paradise. Runic shards drift against a golden sky, and we learn that paradise, which existed and then stopped existing, could still give the demonic pig its power through the original runes its new power, now visible as a dark object with a glowing blue circular rune carved into its surface. This transformation is evident in the beastly creature's face, now sporting dual-colored red and blue fur and glowing yellow eyes. Corin holds his spear over his shoulder with an intense, determined expression, ready to adapt to this new enemy. Marie, our blood weaver, her clothes splattered with blood, speaks with an intense, concerned expression, laying down the law. "TODEOKGU. MARIETT, you just move exactly to MY commands. Everyone don't think about afterwards." Corin looks to the side with an intense, determined expression, holding his spear, processing Marie's urgent commands. The demonic, horned creature shrieks with glowing red eyes in the dark environment, enraged by the combined assault. The lower half of the monstrous beast charges forward on solid ground, relentlessly pursuing its targets. A green armored mechanical figure descends from above, heading straight toward the dark beast, but is quickly ensnared by glowing green vines while attacking, a testament to Arisha's lingering magic. Despite this, the green mechanical figure strikes the beast, creating a large red explosion impact that sends a shockwave through the air. Energy blasts of fire and blue electricity arc across the screen, a chaotic symphony of destruction. The dark beast is shown from above, looking down menacingly, seemingly unharmed by the barrage. Still, the mechanical figure strikes the beast with another bright energy impact, refusing to give ground. Dukku, glowing with red energy, continues his relentless assault in his beastman form, as the large beast creature is struck by an intense energy attack, roaring in pain. For a brief moment, Corin celebrates with a clenched fist, looking ecstatic with Arisha, his female ally, standing right behind him. However, Dukku looks to the side with a shocked expression, still glowing in red energy, realizing the fight is far from over. He leaps through the air to strike the dark beast once more, unwilling to let up. The large, demonic beast bares its teeth, its glowing red eye still burning with malice, proving its resilience. A bright light erupts as the creature is struck by another powerful energy blast, but it's not enough to stop it. Beastman, possibly Deku in a powered-up form, leaps through the air amidst a large explosion of energy, unleashing a massive attack. Marie and Corin stand together in a dimly lit, tense environment, ready for the next move. Marie, our crimson mage, casts a spell, launching numerous red spears made of blood and commanding them onward. A monstrous beastman with sharp tusks roars in the face of the incoming attack, defiant. Corin looks on with a focused, determined expression, partially hidden in shadow, meticulously planning their next move. He sprints across the floor, weapon in hand, charging towards the beastman like a bullet from a gun. The beastman, unconcerned, speaks down to Corin with a mocking expression, calling him, "Hey, SMURF." But Corin leaps through the air with a glowing spear, his eyes shining with blue energy, completely ignoring the taunt. He strikes downwards with his spear, unleashing a powerful shockwave of blue energy that ripples through the air. A bright blue energy explosion occurs, overlaid text explaining that a single hit is enough for a blow this massive. Close-up of a creature's face with a glowing red eye shows the beast's continued fury. An orange-haired boy and a green-haired girl look on in shock, their eyes wide, marveling at the power displayed. Corin crouches on the ground, his spear planted firmly nearby, recovering from his powerful strike. Suddenly, he blocks an attack with his spear, sparks flying from the impact as he holds his ground. Deku is shown in close-up, his face twisted in a fierce, aggressive expression, ready to leap back into action. Close-up of Deku's snarling mouth and fangs during combat reveals his primal ferocity. Corin is knocked back by a powerful blast, shouting in pain and effort as he struggles against the force. Marie, our blood weaver, wields a magical staff, standing amidst flying red energy spears, protecting her comrades. Corin reacts with shock while operating a control panel, realizing the situation is still escalating. He sits on the ground in a smoke-filled room, shouting in pain, clearly taking a heavy hit. The fiery beast with large tusks roars intensely, engulfed in flames, a true force of nature. The beast's face with a glowing red eye confirms the flames are erupting from within it, amplifying its destructive power. The beast crashes down towards Corin, who stands in the ruins, facing imminent danger. Corin looks back with an intense and desperate expression, bracing himself for the impact. He looks to the side with an intense and concerned expression, his hair blowing, fully aware of the dire straits they are in. Suddenly, Corin, Marie, and Arisha stand ready before a giant dark monolithic golem in a cavern, surprised by this new, massive foe. Corin scowls with a tense, angry expression, his brow furrowed in frustration at the never-ending challenges. An aggressive, glowing, beastly eye set against golden fur or scales watches them from the shadows. Corin wields his spear in a combat stance, supported by Marie and Arisha in the background, ready to confront this latest threat as a united front. Mechanical construct, likely the Luden warrior Arisha was guiding, pulses with glowing green energy in its hand, confirming its presence. Creature with fiery golden fur lunges forward, attacking the mechanical golem construct with immense force. Marie launches a wave of magical red crystalline spears, adding her power to the ongoing chaotic battle. A beast-like creature lunges forward, glowing with intense energy, joining the assault on the golem. Blazing golden energy emanates from the creature, an abstract close-up of its raw power. Close-up of the beast creature's face reveals its fangs and glowing eyes, a truly formidable foe. Small particles or droplets drift through the air against a white background, the residual energy of the intense magic and combat. Our spear-wielding brainiac Corin stands with his back to the camera, spear in hand, facing the unknown challenges that still lie ahead. Our orange-eyed strategist grips the hilt of his glowing sword, preparing to unleash the Arden First sword style, with a severing demon blade aimed right at the monstrous creature's glowing red eyes. He moves dynamically through the air, his glowing blue sword striking with such force it causes a domain severance, and a massive explosion rocks the entire battleground. Marie's eyes widen in surprise, as she can only ask if he's serious, while Deku cheers wildly in the background. A magical circle glows intensely, binding Deku with golden chains as a voice announces, "It's time for the Madame to shine," and Alentia Dunnerf appears with a magical whip, striking a proud pose like she expected nothing less. A confident combatant crosses his arms, a confident smile playing on his lips as Marie glares with intensity and casts a powerful blood magic spell, surrounded by massive glowing red crystal shards that slam into the demonic pig. A startled ally can only shout, "Fuck!" as Marie channels even more power, sending a massive magical explosion ripping through the air. A bright light beam strikes downward, and a voice proclaims that the demonic pig of Dingle Peninsula has met his end, its origin light disintegrating as a spearman observes the remnant. This glowing stone is one of the 8 texts needed to go to paradise, a remnant of the divine generation that nobody dared touch, because it granted near-immortal power to its bearer. But today, with the demonic pig defeated, the rune stone inside him has shattered. Our spear-wielding hero's hand glows with intense energy as he walks away from the light source in a dark tunnel, collecting the fragment. Corin and his allies move through a dark area filled with glowing crystals, still fighting a few lingering monsters as he adjusts his sunglasses, his eyes sharp and focused, ready for whatever comes next, his ornate spear hilt hinting at his readiness. Later, Corin sits in a sunlit building, resting his hand on his chin while conversing with a standing man in a suit, a professor type with sunglasses, and a laurel wreath looking downward. Corin looks thoughtful, having just shown off his spear style, as the man in sunglasses sits at a table with his arms crossed, a suspicious expression on his face. The professor hands Corin a paper, pointing at a document as Corin takes it, and then our orange-eyed strategist grasps the situation as flames appear in the background. The man in sunglasses stares intensely, surrounded by purple magical energy, as Corin's dark gauntlets glow with purple runes on his forearms, and our orange-eyed strategist takes in the situation. Vermactamon, the man in the blazer and sunglasses radiating dark purple energy, marks Corin as his enemy on the spot. Corin, seen from behind, turns his head, his eyes serious as he takes in the information. This is one of the 4 executives, his power at least the rank of Lunia Arden, with the potential to reach special rank under the right conditions. Our orange-eyed strategist observes as Vermactamon, now surrounded by a purple aura around his lower legs, begins to summon shadows, calling, "Arise, SHADOWS." The executive grips his jacket, his gaze sharp and focused, while Corin activates the glowing golden rune of the sun, Soillo, to counter. Vermactamon looks toward the glowing figure of our hero, who stares intensely through his own sunglasses. Silhouettes of multiple shadow figures walk across the dark purple surface, but Corin leaps through the air with a clenched fist, a burst of golden magical light flashing across the frame, then glowing fiercely from the side. Our confident combatant looks forward with a serious expression. Then a smug, self-satisfied smile spreads across his face after realizing something, as his feet strike the ground, creating a flash of purple energy. Corin dives through the air with glasses on, punching downward with a purple energy aura, and then he reacts with shock, realizing he just moved 10 meters instantly, like a blur of light. Our spear-wielding hero swings his weapon overhead with a strained, determined expression, lunging forward against multiple purple-tinted enemies. He delivers a punch infused with purple energy, yelling "Southpaw Jet Boost," then leaps into the air and strikes again, his spear hitting an opponent in a fluid combat move. Our orange-eyed strategist stares intensely, his glowing purple eye visible behind his glasses as he executes a precise martial arts step. Corin and his opponent clash weapons in a high-speed duel, our hero lunging with his weapon, and they clash again with purple energy sparks flying. Corin leaps through the air with his spear, as his opponent, Vermactamon, focuses his power on a glowing purple sigil in the air. Vermac's gaze is focused, and Corin confronts him with his spear, a smug expression once again on his face. Vermactamon stands before a spectral building, declaring he won't refuse duels, and Corin looks to the side with a serious, intense expression, his gaze fixed as Vermac explains the conditions, stating that the imprisonment's limitation means the duel has to be one-on-one, and our spear-wielding hero stands alone in a vast, empty, sandy arena. Vermactamon stands ready with dark, glowing energy around his fists, enveloped in glowing purple energy as he prepares for a strike, while Corin stands braced in fire, his expression determined against Vermactamon. 2 powerful energy attacks collide, causing a massive explosion of purple magical energy, and Corin, energized with golden flames, punches upward toward his opponent shrouded in purple magic. Vermactamon, one of the 4 executives, faces our orange-eyed strategist, Corin Loch, who stands wreathed in magical flames, ready to unleash his full power in this one-on-one duel. The fight begins with a massive collision of energy blasts, but Corin is fully committed, declaring, "There is only one conclusion." As he looks up fiercely, ready to strike, the system reveals a powerful backup boost tied to his commandments, duty, restraint, and his oath to save the world, giving Vermactamon a high-relevance score for his current mission. This immediately skyrockets our determined spearman's stats, sending explosive impacts across the battlefield and generating massive shockwaves, cracking the very ground beneath them. Corin lunges forward with his spear, unleashing a powerful move called Calamity Serpent Intent, while Vermac, our sunglass-wearing foe, prepares his slithering serpent counter. Corin strikes downward in a fluid motion, but Vermac grimaces, then performs a sweeping maneuver with his spear, swinging it as Vermac looms behind him. His spear tip strikes the ground with a flash of light, executing another high-speed maneuver, but Vermac is already winding up for a powerful dark energy punch. Corin leaps over his opponent, who's engulfed in dark energy, then clashes his spear with an explosion of energy called Chaos Spear. Vermac reacts defensively to the sudden attack, as our spear-wielding hero lands firmly on the ground and immediately strikes again, focusing all his energy for the next blow. But Vermac delivers a powerful demonic spear punch, connecting directly with Corin, who counters with his spear in a mid-air clash. Our stubborn young master continues to trade blows with his aura-enhanced opponent, who intensifies his aura and charges, thinking, "Despite bleeding from a cut arm, I cannot give up the attack. I must close the distance. Corin looks up, shocked, realizing his opponent plans to attack even while enduring the impact, as Fermac launches a flurry of rapid punches at Corin's spear. The spear clatters under the relentless assault, and a final heavy punch lands with an explosive purple energy. Fermac prepares for a major attack, announcing Meteor Strike, and Corin grips his spear, convinced that if he can just block this ending attack, it will be his turn. But his eyes widen as he notices a critical detail. Fermac's fist is opening, and Corin shouts in realization, "This guy the spear! That attack was a fake." A glowing rune is etched onto Corin's spear, and our orange-eyed strategist lunges forward, closing the distance between them. But Fermac is ready to strike Corin with a surge of purple energy, landing a devastating, energy-charged punch directly onto Corin's face. Corin gasps for air after taking the direct hit, and another powerful, energy-infused punch knocks him back. Our determined spearman struggles, bracing himself, realizing he desperately needs to retrieve his weapon, stretching his hand out, desperate to magically summon his spear back to him. But Corin's spear remains stuck deep in a wooden structure, as Fermac charges with another surge of purple energy and delivers a powerful jab to Corin. Corin retaliates with a glowing palm strike, hitting his opponent with a powerful shockwave, stares intently with burning orange eyes, showing extreme focus, and strikes the ground with a glowing palm, emitting intense light and energy, calling out 8 trigrams. A blade plunges into the ground, radiating bright energy, but Fermac shows no reaction other than slight surprise, while Corin looks on, sweating and pained. Shadowed, glowing figure looms over our hero, who reacts in shock as the figure strikes him, realizing, "No damage at all." The opponent strikes Corin in the midsection with a purple glowing fist, staring down with glowing purple energy around them, and delivers another powerful punch. Corin's face is dazed and pained, as Fermac unleashes a flurry of glowing strikes. His opponent moves quickly, delivering a southpaw elbow, preparing another powerful strike, and throws a glowing purple punch. Corin blocks the incoming punch with his spear, making Fermac stare in shock and confusion, demanding, "The spear? How? I definitely threw it away." Corin glares intensely with a dark, determined expression, realizing Fermac had intentionally led him here, making him get hit until he was near his spear's location. Our orange-eyed strategist strikes his opponent with a powerful, glowing spear attack, gripping his spear tightly as he engages in combat. He executes another powerful spear attack, Calamity Serpent Intent, landing a heavy blow that sends debris flying and violently throws Fermac back. Fermac acknowledges Corin's skill, impressed, standing up in the academy courtyard while Corin holds his spear, confronting his foe. Fermac lowers his sunglasses, revealing his intense expression and some strange runes beneath, as Corin clutches his hands together in a focused combat stance. His gloved hand displays glowing runes labeled Tiwaz, Athala, and Ingwaz, and carved glowing red runes appear on his skin. Energy crackles against a wall, as purple magical energy engulfs a rocky landscape. Dark, swirling vortex appears above a Gothic citadel, summoned by Fermac's simple summons for paradise, and our shadow-touched fighter Corin stands surrounded by dark magical energy above the ominous Shadow Citadel. Corin, wreathed in dark, glowing purple aura, his eyes burning with magical energy, announces a change to his third commandment. "I will serve the SHADOWS." Spectral, skeletal figure made of purple magical energy looms over a shadowy form, and Corin explains this is a place allowed only for the great warriors of the Shadow Paradise. He lunges forward with a punch, trailed by a massive purple spectral demon construct, reacting with shock and intensity, his eye glowing with magical power. Corin holds up a glowing, golden artifact shaped like a star creature, as an entity with a glowing, golden face screams upward. The entity screams as purple energy surges, causing it to descend rapidly, and Corin braces himself with his spear as the creature crashes down from above. The golden-faced creature screams with its mouth wide open, as 2 ghostly, glowing purple figures strike with energetic force. Corin, bleeding from the forehead, faces them with glowing eyes, his face bloodied and rugged. He glows with immense golden energy, holding a magical item in his hand, preparing to face Damon. Our orange-eyed strategist launches his final, furious assault, driving his spear into an unseen enemy whose distorted face screams in agony, and a dark-masked figure grimaces and bleeds from the hit, as Corin stands enveloped in flames, holding up a captured, screaming, glowing entity. He prepares to strike again in the wide, dark chamber, grinning intensely with his face illuminated by warm, fiery light, and his eyes glow with fierce purple energy, as 12 glowing purple shadowy figures surround him in the Shadow Fortress. Our stubborn survivor poses defiantly, telling them their chances were 0, before leaping through the air with his spear to attack, spinning and slashing to create a bright orange arc. But a shadow servant grabs Corin from behind. Despite being grabbed, Corin spins into a returning demonic spear attack, engaging a shadowy, glowing-eyed adversary amidst dark magical energy, as he strikes his opponent in a flash of light, with dark magical energy engulfing the frame, and leaps through the air, his spear creating a large magical shockwave. Stubborn survivor charges forward, surrounded by purple shadowy enemies, but clutches his chest in pain, his face twisted before he leaps through the air, silhouetted against a hazy background, continuing his movement through the air, and performs a dynamic jump kick above dark magical energy, asking, "I." then stands in a combat stance as multiple purple flaming figures descend upon him. Even as a muscular, glowing-skinned enemy swings a staff at him, our determined rune-bearer's torso is covered in glowing golden sun runes, an act of sheer desperation that renders the shadow servants powerless. But it's a suicidal move, risking his entire body going up in flames, making an observer call him an idiot, and he cries out as he leaps to strike an opponent below. Facing his opponent in a grand hall, his body glowing with sun runes, our battle-scarred spearman stares down in fierce determination, bloodied and battered, screaming in agony that he will risk his life for this, risking everything he has as purple energy courses through his body and he surges forward, engulfed in intense purple lightning, grinning wildly with glowing eyes as he shouts, "Let us go." He is engulfed in flames and energy, preparing a powerful strike known as Sixth Step, Sura, and leaps forward, his body glowing with intense red energy. Our orange-eyed strategist strikes against his powerful opponent, engulfed in dark energy, engaging in a high-speed clash with his spear, as an intense explosion of purple energy erupts during their combat, and Corin drives his attack into his opponent in a fierce duel. The opponent's face distorts from the dark purple power. Locked in a violent, high-speed exchange, Corin lands a devastating blow against his opponent, with intense kinetic energy impacting as the attack continues, and his face is illuminated by a fierce purple glow, his teeth bared in a fierce expression, but then he lies prone on the ground, his face bloodied and partially obscured by energy effects. As our stubborn survivor lies injured, his shoulder and upper torso bloodied, his face bearing an intense, bloodied expression, sweating and exhausted, his mind drifts back to a horrifying memory. He sees a distant dying person amidst purple energy, crying for help, and a wounded companion calls his name in a dark, blood-filled nightmare realm, a hell known as Paradise, under a full moon. Corin recalls how innocent people died in that hellish realm, where a spectral cathedral loomed over a battlefield, and a shadowy figure with glowing eyes appeared, identifying him as Firmak Damon, one of the four heavenly kings and Tades Valtazar's confidant, the evil king trying to introduce that very hell into their world. Kneeling over his defeated opponent, his body covered in battle wounds, our battle-scarred spearman thinks about the Phalia's Stone of Fate, one of the four secret treasures protected by the Druids, and how Damon possessing it would have significantly reduced his chance of winning, which is why he now holds the original rune to his chest. Tades Valtazar is gathering 8 original runes to bring Shadow Paradise into this world, and this is the one thing our visionary leader cannot let him have, as he looks down at his defeated enemy, bloodied and shirtless, with intense resolve in his eyes, and stands with arms outstretched as a golden aura flares. Examining his heavily wounded and scarred torso, our stubborn survivor notes his left eardrum is busted from carrying that mandrake, and his right isn't fine either, and the rune of sun burned his upper torso, leaving him struggling to move his arm, as he lies on the ground, wounded and bloodied, looking up at the sky. As consciousness fades, system windows confirm he has defeated Firmak Damon and distributed commandment rewards for defeating a great evil, but our orange-eyed strategist barely notices, focused only on the runes, gold, and mandrake, especially when an extra reward appears, a map of the 4 secret treasures. Carried through town by Arisha Auden, who has our wounded, unconscious Corin on her back, she tells him that Professor Dana is upset, Drin left, and Yule and the others were the ones who found him, saving our stubborn survivor from his injuries. As Arisha carries our bloodied hero on her back, looking concerned, she says the rune. Later, she sits on a bench with him resting on her lap, her eyes filled with concern, and Corin thanks her in a flashback, saying if it weren't for her, he wouldn't have defeated the king of the Iron Mountain, which she modestly dismisses. A bright magical explosion impacts as he remembers their shared battles, recalling her making the mandrake potion and drawing runes with him on the ground. Arisha looks up with shock and surprise, as our exhausted hero lies with his eyes closed, hand resting on his forehead. Then she stares forward with an anxious, questioning expression, and Corin stares upward, bruised and exhausted while lying down. As the sun sets over the Academy City buildings, our visionary leader rests in a sunlit area, looking out with a thoughtful, weary gaze, sitting alone on a bench during a beautiful sunset. After the battles, our stubborn survivor recovers, in a sterile white hospital corridor of the Academy building, where a beastman companion and a young woman with glasses arrive at his room with food, and Marie Dunner feeds him, saying, "Corin, have some dessert too." While chewing, Corin looks toward the viewer with a surprised, slightly goofy expression, but then he and a companion look enraged as they react to a situation with Corin cursing, "Son of a bitch." After his brutal battle, our recovering hero is surrounded by a feast of desserts, and friends who just can't get enough of him, bringing all the food. He even shares a tearful, bandaged celebration with a companion, while 2 others laugh and exclaim that everything sounds like so much fun. The joy is contagious, and soon our orange-eyed strategist and another friend are both crying tears of happiness, declaring this reunion the greatest. But the peace is abruptly shattered when an ornate blue door opens, to reveal an unexpected guest with long blonde hair and a wide-brimmed hat, leaving our hero surprised. The arrival leaves both Corin and Marie Dunnerf looking utterly startled, as a formal man in a suit and a woman in a dark dress enter the room, setting a much more serious tone. Our recovering hero, still with a bandage on his cheek, listens intently, But to understand how our quiet genius ended up in such a fierce clash, we need to rewind a little, back to the start of a rather eventful day, as the bright sun streams into a simple room. As a stern woman in a red hat and glasses stands over him with a man in a white suit. Corin's expression darkens, and she rounds on him, asking him flat out if he remembers teaching someone six-step spearmanship, infinity, and commandment. She stares at him. Our savvy strategist's eyes are already heavy with thought, demanding to know if he remembers those very things he himself taught. A glowing pink aura surrounds her, showing the raw power behind her intense gaze as he moves silently through the tiled corridors. We flash back to a solemn-looking man with long light hair and a forehead marking, as Corin looks down, clearly somber, who Corin once confronted, holding a glowing orange stone and offering it to him. He quickly encounters a blonde woman in glasses who looks utterly surprised by his presence. This powerful object, once held by Chairman Weig 50 years ago and currently by Chairman Kassar, is a significant part of the Academy's history, as Corin quietly reminds her of something serious, perhaps a secret they must protect. Our orange-eyed strategist, shirtless and muscular, stands enveloped in a golden aura with glowing runes on his chest, a testament to his power back then. He once knelt before an elegant, tall figure, asserting his adulthood with a burning spear in hand, stating, "I'm an adult child." His bare chest displayed those same powerful runes. Meanwhile, our pensive priestess with her pale, flowing hair closes her eyes in deep thought, perhaps sensing the coming danger, before she makes her way through the shadowed stone corridors, her long garment flowing behind her. She stands before another individual, her distinctive pale hair catching the dim light. Back in the present, Josephine, the woman in the red hat, now sits in a dim room with candles, eventually sitting to confer with another woman in a dimly lit room, explaining that she cannot easily decide on Corin's fate due to her great responsibilities, calling everything he said a potential lie. She then wonders, why did he look at me with such sad eyes? A question that lingers as she looks down, still troubled. Later, the vast auditorium fills with students. After the intense interrogation, our hero is back at the Academy auditorium, eating with other students. A fellow student kindly offers Corin some potatoes made by Mariette, which he gratefully accepts. Our orange-eyed strategist seems surprised, then chats with Marie Dunerf, including our kind-eyed Marie, while elsewhere, a girl with long hair and glowing eyes is surrounded by red energy. We learn that despite turning into a vampire and being unable to leave the city, Mariette's mana increased tremendously, and her efforts holding back the King of the Iron Mountain greatly prevented casualties, earning her a promotion. As a blonde instructor hands out folders, Corin and his friends are openly crying with emotion, making a sniff sound, as they discuss how the happenings with the King of the Iron Mountain and Fermac Damon's betrayal have been kept a secret. This includes the betrayal of Fermac Damon, as other students like Alicia Auden and Drenworski are called for their promotions. Our hero stands with a confident, slightly mischievous grin. A calm, collected figure begins to make an announcement to the assembled crowd, with Corin listening intently from the back. He listens attentively. They reveal a new defensive skill, while students whisper in amazement, wondering if his promotion does that even make sense. He is promoted from 5th rank to 1st rank Guardian, glowing with an aura, knowing this incredible rank surpasses semi-1st rank, and is meant to ensure his silence regarding Fermac's betrayal. Represented by a shielded silhouette, our newly ranked Guardian smirks with ominous, glowing eyes, causing another student to express a bad feeling about the situation, prompting varied reactions from the students. A gray-haired student looks surprised. Another in a dark uniform watches closely, while various students react to his promotion with smiles and thumbs-ups. A young man with glasses smiles, a green-haired girl silently ponders, and another student with goggles gives an enthusiastic thumbs-up. Corin looks on at a weeping woman who makes an ooh-woo sound, then he turns with a serious, observant expression. Afterwards, our tired tactician stands alone in a dim room, with a calm and observant demeanor, then an exhausted and skeptical look at Arisha Auden, who is blushing intensely, looking exhausted and skeptical, then waves to an unseen companion as he prepares for a journey. Our hero prepares to leave the Academy Plaza, smiling confidently in front of a Gothic tower. Boarding a train whose mechanisms hum steadily, its undercarriage moving parts a blur, Corin is now on a train heading to the southern continent, where other passengers are already settling in for the ride. 9-hour journey through endless fields. A masked, hooded individual prepares weapons in the train car, confirming that their preparations are perfect, just before a muscular, bald antagonist with a sword appears among the passengers. Our hero and another student raise their hands in fear, as the antagonist sneers with glowing eyes, threatening the passengers, saying they'll face a semi-1st rank if they don't comply. But unknown to our hero, a shadowy foe is already on board, their waist crackling with ominous magical energy, intently watching two figures walk further down the train corridor, clearly marking them as targets. With an outburst of purple magical energy, the antagonist swings his sword, bringing it perilously close to Corin's neck. Our sharp-witted passenger, looking at his hands with a confused expression, wondering about them, suddenly strikes the grimacing opponent with a powerful vertical punch. The swift counterattack leaves two cloaked individuals in intense shock and fear. as Corin strikes a dramatic pose with a raised fist, a female companion by his side, signaling a clear victory. Our orange-eyed strategist reflects on a powerful red grimoire that holds the secret to persistent warrior regeneration, a memory of standing on a battlefield reeking of blood, where he asked a dying warrior if he wanted Corin to slit your throat. But instead of accepting, the warrior simply responded, "Be thankful for some water to quench my thirst." Respecting his incredible tenacity, Corin gathered water in his hands and quenched the warrior's thirst, only for something surprising to happen next, as the warrior's wounds glowed and healed completely, which baffled Corin. Back in the library, our memory-haunted hero is still processing the warrior's impossible feat, amazed by how upright he stood despite being torn apart, comparing his posture to a legendary general. Then asks a companion if his castle in the south is still standing, mentioning that if they ever go there, they should look in his office, as it might still be there. The companion questions what might be there, but Corin, recalling his last life where he found nothing, tells them, "You need to find that yourself, rune sorcerer," hoping they possess the courage of that warrior. Corin glows with a red magical aura, emphasizing that with such courage, there will be nothing they can't do. He reminds them there is always the option to run away, but the warrior didn't choose that path. Spectral version of the brave warrior then appears, telling Corin, "I respect you, young man." As the red energy fades, the warrior thanks Corin for telling him about his wife and daughter before fading away himself. Corin, seeing a scarred, grim-faced warrior in his mind's eye, recalls the dying man's presence. Now in the present, Corin and a female companion, Marie Dunnerf, stand on a platform at the southern plains, ready for their journey. An older, uniformed train conductor beams a wide smile at them. Our orange-eyed strategist happily accepts a small brown bag from a uniformed man, greeting his creation, Dukku. He grins widely with sharp, shark-like teeth, holding the bag. As Corin, Marie, and the uniformed man walk through an academy courtyard, our shark-toothed schemer asks if Marie knows the area well, and she replies that she comes here quite often. The city spreads out below, a sprawling view of stone buildings and towers surrounded by trees. Corin dramatically flails his arms, joking about just wanting to be killed. Wyverns circle overhead near a sign, marking the Wyvern landing zone. More wyverns glide gracefully through the vast blue sky. Corin and Marie approach a gate labeled Wyvern Riders, a hint at their destination. Another view of the landing zone shows multiple wyverns preparing to land. Corin stares forward, a look of surprise or confusion on his face. Then a giant eagle-like creature, identified as Hriesvelger, soars majestically through the sky. It descends, preparing to land in front of a grand building for a VIP guest. Wyverns continue to fly around a stone tower, the Academy's landing site. A man in a suit wearing a headset confirms the landing instructions. Two men observe the sky with concern, perhaps recognizing the significance of the incoming VIP. A man in a baseball cap with a D turns and smiles. The massive eagle-like bird continues its descent toward the Grand Academy building. A detailed exterior shot of the impressive Academy building. Thick smoke billows in front of a pair of large, ornate wooden doors, adding to the dramatic arrival. A large crowd, many in uniform, bows together in a spacious hall. Corin and Marie walk away from the grand entrance, their journey through the academy continuing. Our Lendrich boy turns to Marie, asking her, "Maritt, you said your family does farming." He quickly adds, "That is different," implying the scale of her family's land is far beyond typical farming. Marie laughs at his reaction, clearly amused. Corin looks utterly shocked and confused as he asks, hectares?" The answer, an astounding around 6.05 billion PYONG, reveals the mind-boggling size of her family's estate. The young woman, likely Marie, smiles warmly over her shoulder. Quaint wooden sign with a coffee cup hangs, a momentary break in the opulence. Corin pulls back a red curtain and looks over his shoulder in utter surprise, realizing, wow, this is no joke. The massive, ornate Dunilif residence, identified as a great residence, stands majestically against a bright blue sky. They pass through a decorative archway, leading into the vast grounds of the Dunilif estate. Corin and his companion walk across a bright, open area within the grand estate. An ornate horse-drawn carriage glides across the frame, emphasizing the family's wealth. Paul the butler stands with arms crossed, a formal smile on his face. Our flustered, finance-ruined fella gives a tired, deadpan expression, already anticipating trouble. Marie Dunnerf beams joyfully, entirely unaware of Corin's impending doom. Corin and Marie stand together, facing the impeccably dressed butler. Corin looks startled, glancing at the widely smiling butler as he asks, "Pardon?" Marie also looks surprised, smiling warmly. Corin raises his hands defensively at the butler, perhaps trying to deflect whatever he just heard. He looks to the side with a suspicious expression, clearly sensing something is amiss. Man, likely Duke Castle, yells in frustration about someone being quite the nasty human. He continues shouting a demand. "A guardian, if you don't catch the sea serpent, don't even think of coming here." A flashback reveals Corin and Park Sihu fighting a giant blue sea serpent in a boat, a harrowing ordeal they endured to gain permission to enter Duke Castle. Corin stands in a courtyard, clutching his forehead, clearly overwhelmed by the memory or the present situation. A female student walks away, mentioning that she has already informed Count Cassius. Marie smiles happily next to an older man in a flashback who says, "Ah, Lady Mariette, you're welcome any time." Corin's eyes widen in shock, realizing the full implications. He clutches his head, making a distressed expression as the full weight of the situation hits him. An aerial view shows a sprawling academy courtyard with a central fountain and grand architecture. An exterior shot of a stone-arched gateway, clearly labeled Mariette Street. Corin looks shocked, surrounded by various expensive items like a suit, necklace, and shoes, each with a hefty price tag. Sweat drips down our flustered, finance-ruined fella's face as he exclaims that these are all brand names. This is enough money to become wealthy in real estate within Seoul. Marie, oblivious to Corin's financial ruin, walks excitedly in front of him while he lugs several shopping bags. They pass a signboard for a smith shop, marked with a sword and arrow emblem. A UI notification box appears, displaying unbreakable/stone. A hand holds a glowing dark crystal. Corin looks excited, holding the dark crystal and exclaiming, "Wow!" A blushing Marie smiles down, clearly pleased. She laughs, looking happy and flushed. Our orange-eyed strategist smiles gently, a rare moment of peace. Later that night, a large mansion stands under a dark, starry sky. An overhead view shows Corin walking toward a formal dining table, where others are already seated. He enters the grand dining hall, ready for dinner with the Dunner family. Corin bows politely, looking slightly flustered and nervous. His shoes come to a sudden halt on the carpeted floor. A stern, blue-haired man with a goatee looks intensely at Corin, glowing with blue energy, and says, "You." Corin, dressed in a suit, looks flustered and scratches his head, clearly uncomfortable. The man with the goatee sits stoically at the dinner table, while a woman gestures wildly beside him, and Marie sits opposite. The stern man yells, "ARGH/U." Our unexpected son-in-law reacts with a confused expression, hand to his face as he finally understands the implication. Son-in-law. After being forcefully introduced as the Dunner family's son-in-law, a furious man with blue hair and a stern expression glares, while another woman reaches out, shouting that Corin resembles someone. Our orange-eyed strategist just sits at the dining table, watching the chaos unfold around him, with another woman observing him, asking if he wants to write. Marie, our lavish lady, looks down with a bashful "ah," and our bewildered boy reacts with a surprised expression, muttering that he could. A close-up of Marie's contemplative face shows her lost in thought. Then she covers her mouth, looking both bashful and surprised as a male academy student, likely one of Marie's suitors, points aggressively and yells, "Hey!" while Marie herself looks shocked and blushing, completely overwhelmed by the public declaration. Suddenly, Corin finds himself pinned to the ground by both Arisha Auden and Marie Dunner, making our reluctant groom offer a slightly embarrassed, humble laugh. Backtracking a bit, we see the grand, Gothic-style stone castle they've arrived at, as a man in a suit rushes towards Corin and Marie, who are standing near a carriage, clasps his hands together with a delighted expression, confirming that this was as promised, while another angry man points, unable to believe this is the same Corin Loch, as large ornamental double doors swing open, revealing a bright light within. Our quick-thinking hero walks into the room, followed closely by a beautiful noblewoman in an elegant dress, her graceful steps announcing their grand entrance. Corin smiles pleasantly as golden petals fall around him, and Marie looks up with her eyes closed and a soft smile, enjoying the showering petals. Three noblewomen hold wine glasses, observing the new arrivals, as Marie stands in the center of the ballroom floor, already drawing attention from the other guests. Corin reacts in surprise as he watches Marie Dunner confidently walk through the crowded ballroom, a lone spear standing vertically in a quiet room, seemingly forgotten amidst the glamour. Marie looks back at Corin with a shocked expression, perhaps realizing she's strayed too far, as a man in a tan suit kneels before her, professing his admiration. But soon Marie is surrounded by multiple dark-clad figures reaching out toward her, causing her alarm. Hands reach out from the foreground, and Marie stands looking intensely alarmed, her face filled with intense shock and anxiety. Then a formal shoe steps onto the red ballroom carpet, and Corin bows formally to Marie, offering his hand, making her confusedly ask, Corin?" An unknown man watches them with a stern expression as Corin gracefully kisses the noblewoman's hand, then smiles warmly while looking at Marie during their dance. Another lady in a red dress reaches out, acknowledging him as Knight Corin, and a light-haired girl blushes intensely, covering her mouth. The band plays lively music during the ballroom scene, as Corin dances with the lady in the red dress, asking if he was too reckless or if she felt bad. Corin looks down with a thoughtful expression, a slight stress reflected in his eye, while the woman looks flushed and shy. Corin himself appears slightly flustered or blushing, until Arisha's high-heeled shoe steps onto his own. He looks shocked and pained, his face distorted in surprise, but then he smiles with confidence, suggesting it's better for him to lead. Corin now stands very close to Arisha Auden, who is blushing deeply, an extreme close-up of her golden eyes showing her flustered state, while Corin smiles warmly and confidently, looking directly forward. Corin dances with a woman bathed in golden light, as Arisha's eye shows her flustered expression, wishing they should meet, and Corin's orange iris reflects the warm light as he dances closely with his partner, both blushing in the romantic ballroom atmosphere. The musicians play brass instruments in the orchestra, illuminated by warm stage lights, as Corin and his dance partner embrace while dancing on the ballroom floor. A man watches, reaching out his hand in distress, while Marie blushes intensely, looking down, and two men watch Corin and Marie dancing from behind. Three characters gossip at the ball, remarking that they danced with her feet on his. A blushing woman with long, light-colored hair looks to the side. Later, a hand inserts a key into a circular lock, opening an old, locked, leather-bound book that Corin holds closely in the library. Corin and a female companion walk across a decorative rug in a grand hall as she asks what they're looking for, and he replies, "It doesn't matter what, just looking." Our spear-wielding underdog reaches up to pull a book from the shelf, looking closely at the book he's holding, muttering, "Hem." Corin and Marie lie sprawled on a couch, appearing tired, with Marie asking, "Allah, is there no evidence?" Our battered strategist looks over his shoulder toward Marie, who is resting on the couch. Then Marie smiles at him with a bashful, blushing expression and sits on Corin's lap, looking at him intimately. Corin's face is shown close-up, visibly flushed, letting out a heavy breath as he holds Marie close in a tense, intimate embrace. Corin sits on the couch with Marie still positioned on his lap, and she rests against him, looking flushed and exhausted, asking, "All done?" Marie looks up at Corin in surprise as he stares down calmly, his orange eyes staring intensely. Suddenly, two mysterious, glowing grimoires float in the darkness, with a voice explaining that the grimoire, the book where Duke Sebanch's soul was sealed, has abilities and spells, and if you read it, you can learn them. Then asks if this is the abilities and spells, body and soul. Marie looks up with a surprised and flushed expression, as Dukku the werewolf beastman crouches on the floor looking distressed, while Corin and Marie watch from the sofa, engaged in conversation. Dukku makes whining sounds, looking distressed while crouching. Jiying. Our spear-wielding hero kneels on the floor, alert, as swirling red magical energy manifests in front of him, cornering Corin and Marie with dark, tendril-like magical energy, making them react with surprise. Corin lunges forward with his spear, surrounded by the encroaching dark magical energy, muttering, "Prepare!" He stands defensively with his spear in the dark, ominous space, his face grim and determined. Red grimoire floats amidst swirling purple magical energy, and a voice explains that what was sealed inside the great library's grimoire was Duke Sebanch's spirit, and that what he decided when he couldn't die and was suffering from the desire for blood is now represented by a dark, shadowy figure. Corin glares intensely while surrounded by a dark red aura as the voice questions how you, a random person, have come to visit with remnants of my soul on you. The shadow-faced, red-eyed character, holding a sword, reiterates, "I'm asking you, visitor." As the mysterious figure's legs walk forward, he demands, "What brings you to my castle?" The mysterious figure and Corin face each other in a dark, red-lit arena with Corin replying, "Yes, and you?" Corin Loch, "I'm your distant junior." Corin stands in a dark red aura holding a spear as the figure asks, "Back in the library, have you seen my soul?" The mysterious armored figure, surrounded by intense red energy, looms forward, declaring, "I'll ask the questions." A close-up of a hand gripping a weapon shows Corin thinking, "Ha, I thought things were going too well." Corin grins intensely, enveloped in swirling red aura and energy, ready for whatever comes next. The mysterious armored figure with glowing eyes, Duke Sebanch's spirit, stands amidst the ruins of what looks like a battlefield, as Corin, our spear-wielding hero, deflects a glowing red sword strike from the ancient warrior. Our battered strategist exchanges a powerful clash with the armored warrior, who shouts, "Peace and ascend." Corin parries another heavy strike from the Duke, who angrily exclaims that if his soul had guided you here, you wouldn't have brought a vampire. The armored warrior swings his blade down at Corin, explaining that, since this body, being a vampire, cannot die, it needed a piece of soul to be trapped in this castle. Corin deflects the strike, as the Duke adds that it was, so that I wouldn't become a beast like the one you brought. Corin lunges forward during the intense fight, and a heavy weapon strikes the ground, creating an impact. The armored warrior holds his head in pain, seemingly struggling with his own stitched lips, as Corin reacts with intensity, observing the Duke's struggle. The armored warrior with stitched lips stares with glowing eyes, while the beastman Dukku roars in pain or intensity, crying out, "I was like that too." The armored warrior covers his face with his gauntleted hand, questioning Corin, "You plan on stopping me?" He stands surrounded by dark, violent energy, warning Corin that even you won't be safe, and then his boots launch him into the air, ready for a devastating attack. Corin is seen from behind, bracing for impact, his face strained and determined in a close-up. Spear-wielding hero grips his spear tight, his hand surrounded by glowing energy, energized with dark power as he readies his spear for a strike, calling out, "Six-step spearmanship, six-step," and then stances up with his spear against a red, violent backdrop, ready to unleash Sura. A surge of magical purple energy erupts, releasing Calamity, Serpent, Ultimate Essence, Rising, Serpent, Skies, as Corin lunges forward with a glowing purple spear. Powerful impact occurs, emanating from the tip of his weapon, unleashing poisonous dragon head, and a monstrous armored face with glowing red eyes appears in a close-up. Purple energy shards or scales tear through the air, as a glowing energy blade tears through a purple scale structure. Corin stares intensely with glowing red eyes amidst the purple energy, while a powerful glowing sword is held up by his armored opponent, who declares, This is the power of creation itself. Purple magical energy surges around a dark, mysterious structure, and a glowing blade clashes against the armored opponent in a violent surge of light, named Final Demonic Sword. The opponent reacts with shock and wide-eyed terror, acknowledging Corin's dragon murder, and admitting, "I was wrong, this guy." Wounded woman looks up in distress as the Duke calls her a petty beast, and the armored warrior with his sword questions, "How do you hope for a human's life?" The armored, red-eyed character grapples with a man in a formal suit, asking, "Do you not consider yourself a beast?" He pulls the man close, staring intently into his face, asking, "If not, are you positive that you've overcome it with your will?" The Duke continues his chilling monologue, stating that, in the end, you will covet for your lover's blood, and ominously warns that Corin will kill those you care for. A close-up of a face with red eyes clenching a sword handle shows the Duke's resolve, and he swings his weapon downward. Character is struck and recoils from the blow, with a close-up of a female character's face showing shock and distress. Suddenly, Duku, the beastman-like warrior, stands glowing with red energy, a red, beast-like aura manifesting as he howls, "Bark!" A close-up of the Duke shows him initiating a binding technique, calling out binding, and Duku is ensnared and bound by glowing golden chains, struggling intensely. The Duke, holding a glowing sword, prepares to attack, dismissing Duku, but you have no strategy. The glowing sword strikes the chains around Duku, as the Duke calls him a foolish beast that only relies on strength. A bloodied character looks off-panel in shock, their eyes bloodied and filled with intensity. The Duke in armor holds a glowing blade called Romania Sealing Sword, and the glowing sword pierces through the golden chains binding the beast-like figure. The glowing sword moves rapidly through the air, declaring, "In front of this sword." A bright light trail sweeps across the panel, and a character is struck, recoiling in pain as glowing energy flares. The Duke strikes the shadowed figure, commanding him to hurry and die. "I'll end that feeble life." A beastman with glowing eyes confronts a pale-haired woman at close range in a red-lit environment, a close-up showing her face and fangs in profile. Corin, our new hero, embraces the pale-haired woman in a soft, lit scene, whispering, "Now or before." Corin's lower legs are encased in magical flames and system status symbols, as Marie Dunnerf attacks him, glowing with system energy, asserting, "This is the path." A close-up of Marie's face shows her looking intense with glowing eyes, as she looms over Corin Loch's prone body, and a bloody hand reaches out toward a shadow-covered figure, breathing heavily. Marie touches the chest of the injured Corin, asking, "Corin." A close-up of Corin's neck and chin area shows his vulnerability, and Marie's expressive face looks down, sighing. Shadowed, ominous figure looms over a bloody-faced Marie, who is cradling the unconscious Corin. The ominous figure holds a glowing blue sword, his face partially obscured by shadow. Close-up of an eye glows with intense red energy, questioning, "Wait." Marie leans over and presses her lips to Corin's mouth in a desperate, bloody kiss, and the eye glows with red energy again, reflecting the desperation. The shadowed figure stands in a pool of red liquid, looking down at the small Marie holding Corin. Close-up of Marie shows tears in her eyes as she maintains contact with the injured Corin. Shadowed figure looks down with glowing eyes, silent for a moment, then a defeated shadowed figure looms over Corin on the blood-stained floor, admitting, "I've failed. I couldn't save anyone." Marie cries over an injured Corin, her hands glowing with energy, desperately saying, "Eyes." The shadowed figure looks upward with glowing eyes and a red aura, saying, "I see, I couldn't judge everything." He raises a glowing sword overhead, gripping it, preparing an attack. The glowing sword descends upon Corin, while Marie reacts in shock. Corin, glowing with energy, stands as a blade pierces through his chest, and he blocks a powerful energy strike with his hand, visibly wounded and bleeding. Marie screams in raw grief and terror, tears streaming down her bloodied face. Powerful figure with long hair and pointed ears stares intently as magical energy flares, and Corin and Marie are caught in a massive, blinding flash of energy. Powerful figure looms over Marie and an injured Corin in a glowing chamber, as Corin, bloodied, rests on the ground while Marie looks at him in shock, asking, "Corin." Our battered strategist looks down at his own chest wound while Marie reaches toward him, weeping. Corin and Marie sit on the floor, both bloodied from their recent battle. Mysterious masked knight stands over them with a sword, then drives his sword into the ground near them. Corin looks up with a serious expression as the figure reveals, "I've transferred my aura core to you." A close-up shot focuses on the speaker's chest area as he explains, "Now I understand why my soul led you here." The shadowed, glowing-eyed figure speaks to Corin, saying, "Corin Loch, I see the qualities of a hero within you." A close-up of the speaker's chest and neck area shows him continuing, "You lack the greed but possess the beliefs and pride that those who seek power often do not have." Corin sits on the floor with Marie, looking at her as the sword lies in the foreground. Duke laments what he couldn't protect 800 years ago and asks Corin to correct the mistakes I made all this time. Then, with a plea, he says, "Please." Corin and Marie sit on the floor, watching a flaming magical manifestation as the Duke concludes, "Hero." A wide shot of the room shows Corin and Marie on the floor as the Duke lets out a final ha. Corin holds a glowing, magical heart-like core to his chest, receiving the Duke's power. He cradles the injured Marie closely, looking down at her with concern, a close-up on her tear-streaked face showing her wounds. Corin sits on the floor, holding his wounded partner in his arms, as a system interface displays Corin Loch's updated status and acquired ability, including Sabancha Duke's Aura Core, his aura rank increased, and new abilities like Duke's demonic nature, with his aura rank now at 6,730 upper middle. System interface also displays his dual core ability, and Corin's final thought is, if there's just one thing I hope for, as sunlight streams through an open door into a quiet, warm room, where a man kneels before a small child while a woman stands nearby, with the narrator concluding, it's that his body and mind, which were in pain for 800 years, finally found peace. A close-up of the man's face shows him smiling warmly. Our battle-worn hero, Corin, is utterly exhausted after his intense clash, and he wonders why Duke Sabancha never did something similar in his past life, or even the game. He wakes up, still sweating and looking concerned, while a maid peeks in, noticing something amiss, and then she is smiling brightly in the doorway, but when Corin looks, he's shirtless next to a sleeping girl, and they are both breathing heavily with flushed faces. Maid quickly covers her mouth in shock, and Corin stares alarmed at the closed door as another blonde character leans against him, whispering, "Corin, it's such a relief you're safe," before a furious shout from outside threatens, "My daughter, I'll kill you." For the next 20 days, our spearmaster hides out in the mountains, avoiding a frantic search for that despicable bastard. The searchers are furious that someone dared touch Lady Mariette. Corin, however, just peeks through a window, looking sheepishly amused. Soon, a fancy carriage rolls through a forest path, bringing him back to civilization and a bustling festival. Our hero sits casually on a red couch with a female companion, as if nothing happened. The streets are absolutely packed with people celebrating, and Corin is positively gleeful, wearing sunglasses and sitting in front of a giant pile of gold bars, laughing maniacally with his tongue out, clearly enjoying his newfound wealth. Then Corin suddenly looks confused, as leaves begin flying wildly around him, and a powerful magical typhoon rips through the air, making our suddenly wealthy master stand shocked on the academy grounds as the storm rages. Marie, our protective partner, appears behind him, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder and tells him, "It's okay," because he can always try again. He smiles at him with flushed cheeks and hearts in her eyes, uttering one word, "Just." Corin, still in his sunglasses, reacts with shock to her intensity. Stormy night settles over the Merkaba Academy campus, as rain hammers down on the special dormitory. Inside, Corin sits in an armchair while a tall man explains that Marie is returning with H. Warren from Xi'an Chapel. Corin removes his hood, looking utterly spent, sweat on his face, clearly tired from whatever just happened. The magnitude of his magical storm and Marie's surprise at its power is briefly illustrated in a cartoonish flurry, and Marie, our magical partner, looks cartoonishly surprised by the event, as Corin and Marie sit with the man by a fire, discussing the situation. Meanwhile, a young man with light hair and a forehead gem looks downward, as lightning flashes over a stormy Aegina Strait, where churning ocean waves crash. A massive sea serpent suddenly emerges from the turbulent waters, and Levant Blandria, a knight, proudly declares to his father that the serpent is a first-rank monster, and defeating it will advance his promotion. He fantasizes about gaining Mariette's affection, imagining her granting him the first dance at a ball, but his father seems hesitant about his son venturing out. Levant's subjective perspective is utterly distorted, filled with a leering image of the monster, convinced he will win Lady Mariette from Corin and bring peace to the strait. The sea serpent lunges towards a ship full of knights, and after 5 nights and 6 days of fierce battle, the raid group shouts their victory. Levant and his knights celebrate their supposed win, with Levant loudly pledging his victory to Lady Mariette. However, the sea serpent is simply swimming away, letting out a frustrated roar. This whole conflict caused the loss of innocent lives, all thanks to bat-like creatures that breed and become the cores of typhoons, protecting themselves from enemies. They are nicknamed the Golden Bat because their blood, bones, and flesh are all potent elixirs, desired by even other monsters. A large serpent snatches one of these small bat creatures, but another flies away, as the injured sea serpent, unable to pass the alvin's nest, forces the female alvin to make a decision for the baby in her womb, to fly north. She flies as far as her wings will take her to a safe place, choosing Merkaba Academy as her birthing ground. Which brings us back to our drenched leader, Corin, standing in the rain, watching a massive tornado approach the building. He has a shocked, terrified expression, sweat pouring down his face as he faces the destructive power. Corin tries to stop a fleeing hooded figure, demanding, "How can you leave now?" He lunges toward a group of them fleeing through the stormy environment, standing alone in the heavy rain, looking toward the raging storm. Buildings and wooden structures are ripped apart like paper by the powerful, rain-swept typhoon, and Corin stands amidst the debris, utterly ruined. He kneels on the ground, exhausted, as the rain continues to pour down on him, and he stares upward with a manic, terrified expression, realizing his financial ruin, declaring, "I'm fucked." Later, Corin sits among several characters at a large round table in a meeting room, including Iriu Kassar, who looks calm with eyes closed, Heyman Welsh, the Knight faculty professor who looks concerned, and Dana Arian, the magic department professor, who exclaims that catching this creature would recover all the research money they lost due to the King of the Iron Mountain in an instant. However, a white-haired man shouts his opposition, while Edgar Linton, another magic faculty professor, watches on thoughtfully. Urala Mass, the alchemy faculty professor, simply smiles as a red-haired man points his finger across the table, and a muscular man in a tank top sits near Lorala, while Ojin Rentry, the new night faculty professor, gestures in conversation. Ojin continues to gesture as they discuss the urgent matters, but Corin, distraught, tries to speak, unable to form a full sentence, then sits with his head bowed and hands clasped, looking utterly distressed. Suddenly, Corin slams his hand onto the table in the tense meeting, and glowing with intense red energy, leans over the table, passionately declaring that we won't GO against our creed even in front of death. He screams in a frenzy, his face twisted in intense emotion with glowing energy, snarling in utter frustration, and slams his fists onto the table while debating with the two figures across from him. Corin wails, glowing with red energy, his face contorted with agony and distress, standing with his arms outstretched, lamenting something deeply. Nervous, apologetic older man with red hair stammered his apology, claiming that's not what he meant. Corin looks down, his expression somber as he reflects, a tear shed, his face filled with deep emotion. The group, including Corin, celebrates around the table while an older man speaks to them, impressed by Corin's passion as a young knight, but wondering what he meant about the inn. Corin then stands up, animatedly addressing the professors and his peers, chuckling about his research funding before boldly declaring, "We will." A light-haired man in a suit leans over the table, looking concerned. Massive swirling magical storm with red lightning crackles in the air above the figures on the ground, as a group of warriors in armor stand together in a destroyed area. Corin looks seriously at a man in armor, asking, "Emotional?" before he looks manic, laughing intensely with glowing red eyes. In a desperate battle, mages unleash powerful freezing spells through a swirling blizzard, as our spear-wielding hero Corin and his armored allies sprint through a ruined landscape, facing off against a massive swarm of dark monsters amidst a raging storm. Corin takes a moment to catch his breath, then lets out a sharp "hoo," while a white-haired ally lands a powerful glowing strike on a massive cyclopean monster, and another armored warrior performs a leaping attack with a burning spear. Red-haired man with a cigar points, sending magical energy lashing out at a dragon. And then we see the raw fury in someone's glowing red eyes, as a bald, red-skinned warrior with glowing white eyes lunges forward aggressively. This fierce ally dashes past our determined lancer Corin, who stands ready with his spear, before Corin himself strikes a dark, horned beast with a powerful thrust of his spear, looking utterly intense and shouting into the chaos of battle. His armored companions follow his lead, rushing into the dangerous fray with a unified cry. After the initial assault, the red-haired man with the goatee stoically smokes his cigar, while Corin and his companions turn to watch a truly massive, swirling magical typhoon. The man with the goatee and his red-haired companion observe the magical storm's raw power, and then the man in the suit stands with his cigar, as a knight in armor turns away. He raises a small firearm, aiming it upwards into the swirling vortex, and with a flash of light, the weapon discharges, triggering a brilliant green magical explosion that erupts into the air. Mage in a dark hat and robes, looking determined and triumphant, unleashes powerful red electrical magic, as intense red magical energy swirls and crackles, building up its destructive power. The crackling energy intensifies even further, and our fiery strategist Corin looks up at the massive, swirling vortex of red magical energy. Wearing a red suit, Corin gestures to his companions, urging them to form a defensive shield against the encroaching red magic. Female mage with long red hair, wearing a hat, raises her arms, casting an intense spell, and then a blinding red light and magical energy explode outwards, followed by another burst of intense magical power. Suddenly, a massive bolt of white magical lightning, labeled Red Sprite, discharges from the vortex, striking with incredible force as a powerful magical blast of red lightning. Dust and debris cloud the air from the impact, then explosive debris scatters as the magical dust begins to clear. Now a dark flying creature is caught within a swirling vortex of light and red lightning, and Corin stands with an older man in front of the raging red magical vortex. Dark, wolf-like figure is engulfed in crackling red magical energy, followed by a massive vortex of crackling red energy surrounding a demonic figure, as onlookers watch from below. Our spear-wielding hero Corin looks up with a worried expression, standing behind the bald, muscular man. Dark, clawed beast silhouette lunges through the intense red magical lightning, and Corin stares intently with his bright orange eyes. As a monstrous silhouette lunges through the chaotic red energy, a voice declares, "The Alvan is now King of Thunder Clouds." Then Corin and others are caught in the massive red magical tornado, being tossed through the air like ragdolls, his frustration boiling over as he shouts in frustration, reaching out in desperation while flying through the red magical vortex as his companions are swept away. Our fiery strategist Corin screams in frustration and rage amidst a red magical aura, letting out a wild cry. A glowing red spear, bearing a powerful inscription, is embedded into the ground amidst the swirling energy, and Corin strains, holding a glowing red spear upright against the ground. He screams, "This is so annoying. I can't do anything," in sheer frustration and rage, surrounded by the red energy. Suddenly, an unknown bald warrior charges Corin with a large sword, and Corin grips his spear tightly, his face a mask of intense exertion. The bald warrior screams in frustration as Corin prepares his next move. Then Corin leaps, using the warrior's head as a launch pad to propel himself upward. He soars through the air as the bald warrior looks up in shock. Our determined lancer Corin leaping with a focused, determined expression, viewed from behind as he makes his ascent. Corin flies through the air with a pained expression, then yells in rage as dark energy crackles around him, declaring, "I'll kill you! I will kill you!" He shouts, his white eyes glowing with intense emotion. As a winged creature flies forward amidst red energy and lightning, Corin charges a large dark entity in a red-tinted environment, knowing their very lives depend on this moment. It's a desperate fight, as a close-up shows a leg and body moving through the chaotic red energy field. His boot steps firmly onto a surface, creating an impact like a hammer blow, and Corin gasps in shock, suspended and facing a large red creature. And with intense, aggressive energy, Corin lunges forward, striking in midair with his weapon against an unseen force, as his spear slams into a powerful, swirling red vortex featuring the silhouette of a beast. The spear tip pierces deep into the swirling red energy of the beast's core, and Corin hangs in midair, sweating, staring intensely in the red-tinted environment. He then smiles, breathing heavily in the aftermath of his attack. Intense red lightning strikes and energy crackles across a dark background, with an intense, dark red orb of energy crackling with lightning, pulsating in the void. Corin lies in the red-tinted environment, crying with a smile on his face, a truly wild sight. A close-up shows his eye glisten with tears, hinting at the profound emotion of the moment. Then a powerful magical impact occurs, filling the panel with red light and energy sparks, and Corin looks up, shocked, toward a massive, glowing, red-tinted energy entity that towers over him. He is shown wide-eyed and alarmed, floating within an orb, utterly disoriented. But then Marie Dunnerf appears, releasing a powerful burst of red magical energy against a large, monstrous, beast-like entity, which snarls a pained cry. She exerts magical force, her eyes glowing with fierce determination in the heat of combat. Marie strikes the massive beast with a concentrated blast of magical energy, as an intense, swirling red vortex of energy dominates the center of the panel. Debris falls as the massive red energy typhoon continues to tear through the environment, and Corin struggles against the immense pressure of the intense red magical energy waves. The intense magical typhoon rages violently, pushing everything away, and Corin and his companions are blown away by the massive magical energy release, letting out a pained cry. Our spear-wielding hero Corin sits on the ground, looking up in shock at a shadowy silhouette standing in the dust. He stares up shocked at a female figure silhouetted in the dust, muttering. A close-up of Corin's face shows the shock and dawning recognition in his eyes, as his eye reflects a warm, golden light. Debris falls to the ground in a cloud of dust, and then a dark object moves slowly through the clearing dust. Merkaba City enjoys a peaceful, sunny day, with fluffy white clouds drifting overhead, as a guardian offers juice to passers-by, creating a lively, calm atmosphere. Midst the market's hustle, our empathetic strategist Corin is seen walking with a stern nun, who glares at a sweating man. Corin and the nun continue their walk together outdoors, and he kindly points up with a smile as a small child cries nearby, then kneels to give a thumbs up to a bandaged student, showing his caring side. The nun, however, carries a dark secret, visible in her intense red eyes, and as Corin gestures to her in a kitchen area, he looks toward her in the street, and she glances back over her shoulder at him. Corin maintains a calm, determined expression, as the nun begins to speak in profile, revealing her true nature. With Corin listening intently in an apron, she confesses to him directly, "I am a living Jiangshi," explaining that she is a being created by fusing a human clothes to a monster, which makes him cry red tears of horror. He wonders what essence she truly holds, observing her at the food stall with a mixture of shock and concern. This monstrous essence sparks an inner struggle as the nun fiercely confronts a mysterious female figure in a dark setting who demands her body back, yelling, "HWA, return MY body." She holds her head in agony, claiming, "Shut UP. This is mine, it's MY body." But another voice insists that it's not. With glowing red eyes, the nun touches her face, declaring that she will never give it back. As night falls on Merkaba City, illuminated by a crescent moon, a mysterious hooded figure surrounded by glowing purple energy appears with a group of shadowy people, hinting at a darker undercurrent to the city's peace. Our weary protector Corin finds himself at a bustling tavern where workers move barrels in an alley. But inside, a commotion erupts with a drunk man yelling, making a waitress scream. A man points and demands attention from the restaurant manager at a tavern table, and another man in a vest looks shocked and yells, drawing Corin's attention. Corin glances over his shoulder at the tavern, looking weary or annoyed by the chaos, and soon finds himself sitting at a tavern table, holding a beer mug, surrounded by looming, suspicious men. One man's hand firmly grips a wooden beer mug, raising the tension, when Corin cheerfully pours beer over the head of a tavern worker. who looks completely surprised. A group of men angrily confront someone, with a hand reaching out to stop them, but Corin calmly holds out a towel to the surprised tavern worker, showing his indifference to the brewing conflict. Suddenly, a character's eyes glow with a sinister red light, as two aggressive men surrounded by red energy prepare to teach this kid a lesson. But our fiery problem solver Corin stands his ground, ready to fight. He gestures wildly with the towel still on his head while shouting, his own eye glowing red with an intense focus. And then the attacker with glowing red eyes is struck swiftly in the face twice. Later, outside a building at night, Corin is seen slamming an opponent onto the floor, dominating the fight. He stands in a room surrounded by fallen, bloodied bodies on the stone floor, the battle's aftermath. A man with short brown hair looks on with a sweat-covered, terrified face, his terror magnified in a close-up, as sweat beads on his forehead. Corin, with a glowing red eye, looks down at him, a sharp, sinister smirk spreading across his face. Towers over the terrified man, looking directly at the viewer with an intense, menacing expression, causing the man to recoil in fear, eyes wide and sweating profusely, gasping for air as his face trembles, staring up in absolute horror. Then a mysterious attacker delivers a forceful punch directly to the terrified man's face, ending the scene. Under the night sky and a glowing crescent moon, a heavy wooden door stands closed in a dim, stone-walled area. Our intense champion Corin stands before a wall filled with many small, stacked jail cages, a shocking sight. He reacts with dismay, gosh, truly treating them like animals, showing his empathy for the captives. Several demihumans with glowing eyes peer out from behind the metal bars of their prison cells, looking wary and afraid. A hand inserts a key into a metal lock, beginning their release, and Corin releases a group of cautious, cat-tiered demihuman captives from their dark enclosure. He stands in a doorway, gesturing for the rescued demihumans to follow him out, leading them to freedom. Tearful Beastman stands in a dark cell while Corin looks on from behind, still searching for others. Corin approaches a small, ethereal, red-haired figure sitting in the corner of a cell, asking, "Are there more captives?" He points towards a direction, guiding him, and Corin peers through dark prison bars at a mysterious figure with long hair. He then finds two beast-like creatures crouching in a dark, confined space, looking distressed. Corin looks forward with a concerned, serious expression, determined to help. He peers through bars at two scared beast-like individuals sitting in the dark, their fear palpable. One of the beast-like creatures defensively shields the other in a dark corner, showing their deep distrust. A werehuman character snarls in anger with glowing eyes and lightning effects surrounding them, yelling, "I'll kill you, bastard." Two muscular werehuman warriors stand facing each other in a dimly lit, ominous church-like setting, hinting at a larger, darker system. These werehuman characters are shown in silhouette against a bloody red background, revealing the violence they've endured. Close-up view of a metal prison door lock mechanism signals the barrier he must overcome. Corin then smiles and reaches out with an open hand, offering peace and aid. He reaches toward a young, distressed werehuman crouching in the shadows, trying to gain their trust. A hand grips his wrist tightly, a sign of acceptance, and Corin embraces two Beastman children, providing comfort and safety. Young Beastman child looks up with teary eyes, finally finding solace. Corin looks forward with a gentle, calm expression, embodying his role as their protector. The nun, exhausted or unconscious, reappears leaning forward. Corin holds her close in his arms, caring for his comrade, while the back of a wolf beastman's head is visible, one of the rescued. Corin kneels in a prison cell, holding and comforting two small beastman children, solidifying his role as their champion. Lenya, the Information Guild manager, stands with her arms crossed, looking down at Corin. He sits at a bar table with his head in his hands, sighing, utterly stressed. Our weary protector Corin remains at the bar counter, appearing exhausted, his face in close-up showing a pained expression as he holds his forehead. He looks up with a serious, troubled expression, contemplating his next move. Under a bright sky filled with clouds, Merkaba City's flying beast landing zone is bustling, with a tall stone tower in the distance. A bright light illuminates the entrance of a building, indicating a new arrival, as a large griffin lands in a cloud of dust on the platform. Griffin head looms over a smiling uniformed official who announces, "Registration." Corin, a woman in traditional robes, and a man walk away from a large griffin's leg having arrived. A pair of feet in dark boots walk on sandy ground, belonging to one of the new companions, and a hand holds up a circular golden medal featuring an eagle emblem, a sign of authority. A man with a goatee introduces himself, stating, "I'm JINHYUK," to Corin and his group. A smiling young man in a uniform cap points towards the side, indicating their path. Carriage sits parked outdoors with bright blue crystal-like objects underneath its frame, a unique mode of transport. As a man in a dark tunic is seated, a woman in traditional attire stands before him, commenting simply, "Strong." Jinhyuk, the man with a goatee and traditional headwear, sits with his eyes closed in deep concentration. Close-up shows his face focused intently, while another man with light hair looks forward with a questioning expression. Our empathetic strategist Corin has his eyes closed in intense concentration, his face highlighted in a warm glow, as if sensing something. He stands with glowing red eyes, accompanied by a woman in red, emanating a powerful aura. Jinhyuk looks downward with a serious expression, resting his hand, letting out a small tusk of surprise at Corin's power. An extreme close-up on an eye with a glowing red iris further amplifies the intensity. Corin then peeks from behind a structure with a distressed, shocked expression, having seen something truly horrifying. Large building is engulfed in intense, raging flames, prompting a voice to exclaim, "How could we forget it?" A lone figure stands atop a massive mountain of skulls amidst a burning landscape, with the chilling declaration, "THAT damn thing." A character's face is illuminated by the flickering orange glow of the fire, reflecting the horror of the scene. The academy buzzes with energy as the festival officially kicks off, bringing together students from the 4 regional academies for a grand event, and Corin finds himself right in the middle of all the excitement. A studious classmate stands next to a beefy blonde student, while a young woman with a ponytail happily announces her team plans, but our strategic spearman just looks completely over it, eyes half closed. Other students are busy forming their teams, debating individual or group matches, and then the young woman points straight at our world saver, pulling a surprised me out of him. She leans across the table, beaming with excitement to have Corin on her team, while Marie Dunerf is completely dejected, resting her head on the table. Marie just mopes with a little hee-hee sound, clearly annoyed about something, which leaves our earnest hero utterly confused and sweating a little. Corin then settles into thought, reflecting on the day's events. Elsewhere, a character reacts with sparkling eyes to a mysterious gift box, claiming it for themselves. Our determined returner turns in his crowded classroom seat, looking surprised, a flicker of concern on his face as he takes in his surroundings. Later, as 3 figures walk down a street, someone dismisses the notion of unique attire, saying it's just Eastern-style clothes, and we're introduced to one of Corin's new allies, the fighting hound Sa Jinhyuk, while Corin himself stares forward with a focused and serious expression. Meanwhile, a stern man with a goatee and traditional clothing sits and speaks, and in a chilling conceptual shot, a small silhouette stands atop a mountain of skulls amidst a raging fire, signaling a new threat. The stern man then speaks to Arisha Auden, a woman with long blonde hair and glasses, who listens intently, arms crossed, taking in his words, and they continue their conversation, a serious atmosphere hanging between them. Arisha thinks intensely, realizing the man requested this meeting as a judge for the group match because of something called Hwarang. An elderly man in traditional headwear speaks gravely, and Arisha snaps back, telling him they'll take care of whatever it is on their own. Close-up on her glasses reveals her intense focus. Bishop Li Jinyang smiles warmly, wearing his religious robes, while Arisha vehemently rejects an unseen offer, declaring they are true. A man with a goatee and glowing purple eyes looks downward with a menacing smile, musing on the wicked thing. Bishop Li Jinyang watches Arisha seated in the parlor as the conversation continues. Arisha looks directly forward, her resolve clear. The man in traditional robes strokes his chin thoughtfully, contemplating the situation, and an arched window overlooks the discussion. Josephine stands by a table, sipping tea, as a speaker off-panel concludes something is done. An exterior view of the town square during the festival reveals that Baltazar's dogs are hidden within the crowds, a close-up of a character's face in the dark showing their shock. Josephine looks utterly shocked, demanding to know what, where, and who. Our long-haired hero explains to Josephine that he doesn't have all the details, but he suspects something big is going to happen involving either the Catholic Church or Borime, and then he clarifies that it's actually both, as the declining Catholic Church makes desperate attempts to expand its influence. He continues, explaining that Borime's spirit mage and some of their students are participating in this. Corin reveals the keyword, Heavenly Yaksha Hwarang, a critical incident that will decide the fate of a named character and turn the tide of the main scenario. He then asks Professor Josephine to keep an eye on the Catholic Church for him. Josephine looks suspicious as Corin leans in, suggesting she have the Borime students stay in the inns newly constructed on the outer regions, making them easier to watch. He stares forward, his chest glowing with protective runes, internally wondering if she still sees him as Baltazar's disciple, before telling her she doesn't have to trust him, because his goal to save the world remains the same, revealing his oath to her. Josephine becomes contemplative, believing her suspicion must lessen now that she knows the oath of a shadow warrior. But then she raises a new question about the inns and student investments, to which Corin quickly claims it's unrelated to him. She presses him further, saying she has information that he is the owner of those inns, making Corin sweat as he repeatedly insists it's unrelated. Corin becomes flustered as Josephine reveals Mariette has moved her ingredients to the inns to set up a street stall there, prompting him to loudly deny any connection. An older woman then leans over a table, sharing details about daily necessities, food, and carriage expenses, all profit-making projects planned with a wide vision, adding that people sometimes need a little helping hand. Back at the academy, its tall white stone architecture looms over the bustling festival. A blonde man and a black-haired man in glasses look at each other in shock. A massive crowd of students gathers in the open courtyard, anticipating the next event. Corin rests his chin in his hand, while a flustered girl cries out in annoyance beside him. Arisha Auden appears equally flustered and shocked amidst the crowd. Mysterious figure's foot steps onto the floor, drawing everyone's attention. Kang Ryan stands calmly, his arms behind his back making his presence known. Corin stands alert, asking who this newcomer is, as a panicked student nearby worries about the difficulty level being hell. The man with a traditional goatee and mustache speaks. He then stands amidst glowing energy effects, hinting at his power. Group of armored students reacts in shock inside a golden, maze-like, 8-array formation. A glowing magical symbol with a yin-yang displayed on the floor. The blonde fighter and the student in glasses look on in alarm. A system text window displays the rules for the challenge. Guide civilians for points, but destroy them and lose points. Our spear-wielding strategist then interacts with several gray training dummies, while the student in glasses watches nearby. He looks to the side with a faint, uneasy smile while talking to an unseen person. Suddenly, a monstrous black wolf-like creature, likely Longhound, snarls, revealing sharp teeth and glowing yellow eyes. Corin wastes no time, swinging his spear in a wide, glowing arc, striking the shadow-like beast. Marie Dunnerf stands with a group of cheering, armored students, pointing to her nose in excitement, declaring they're on the same team. Marie then looks flustered and embarrassed, covering her face slightly. The magical, glowing purple creature dissolves into digital particles. Our earnest hero and Arisha Auden dash through a corridor alongside armored training dummies, with Corin calling out to Arisha that there's another civilian. He then smiles at her as they continue their advance, urging her to hurry. Corin and Arisha stop suddenly as the ground begins to shake, wondering what's happening. They look around in shock as the earth trembles violently beneath their feet. A heavy object or creature moves rapidly, causing structural collapse, as an army of marching feet or hooves pounds the ground with thunderous force. A silhouette of a figure stands on a mound with one hand raised, surrounded by a crowd. Corin and Arisha stand amidst the chaotic, dust-filled environment as a voice declares they'll release their weapons. A close-up of a shocked blue eye, filled with sweat beads, reveals the terror of the moment. Then a makeshift vehicle made of wooden artist mannequins tied together with heavy rope appears, lumbering through the chaos. On top of it, a spiky-haired blonde man in an orange bandana plays a golden harp, reveling in the destruction. Arisha Auden's face contorts in intense alarm, pointing a hand towards the viewer. She points forward, clearly panicked by the approaching threat. A wild-haired man in a cape stands with arms outstretched, laughing maniacally, asking if it's Corin and then announcing that when calling him, they should call him the Almighty Immortal, before flashing a sinister grin with pointed teeth, proclaiming himself the Almighty Immortal Loch.